feds and degenerates, cuckolds of all ages. It's that time once again. You're here for Mild's Culture Plate. I'm your host, Mild Kevin Miles. And it is January 6th, 2021. It is eternally January 6th, 2021 for most of our country. It is Insurrxmas. And Merry Insurrxmas, everybody. Hopefully you are celebrating in all the right ways. I celebrated by watching a bunch of videos from Count Dankula that had to do with government uprisings and such. So, you know, fun times. So what we're going to do on this stream, I don't really have a whole lot of things in my pocket here to talk about. I had a lot of things that, some philosophical conversations that I was interested in getting into the other day. And yeah, around Thursday, I was like, okay, well, I got some things I'd talk about. Hopefully some other things will come out. And then all of a sudden, boom, I ran across this image. This image advertising a debate on Zero Hedge right now. Oh, Krasenstein, rather. Okay, the Krasensteins. So I'm watching the debate while talking to you folks. And we're going to bring some of it up here when they actually get into the debate. It's Ed and Brian Krasenstein and Destiny versus Alex Jones, Glenn Greenwald. Uh-oh. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, so that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to watch bits and pieces of this. I'll bring it up and bring it back down and we'll get into it. Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was Glenn Greenwald, Alex Jones, and Darren Beatty versus Ed Krasenstein, Brian Krasenstein, and Destiny. And so, yeah, they're airing it right now on Rumble and X. And so I'm kind of waiting a little bit for them to actually get into the topic to bring it up on screen. They're still in the introductions. It's being hosted by Ian Crossland. If you've been watching any of the Tim Pool stuff. So let me go ahead and bring it up here.
Yes.
And a former professor, and you help quarterback a lot of...
So definitely take a minute, go over to Zero Hedges. Here, let me bring this down. Zero Hedges feed and click this here like button and click the follow button. Oh, this is Glenn Greenwald's channel. Okay, so yeah.
The host of System Update on Rumble.
And then
I plan to be there
over on
person.
X.
A little logistical problems intervened, and I wish I could be, but I'm really looking forward to participating.
Over on X, find Zero Hedge. Click that heart right there. So yeah, Glenn Greenwald doing a good job streaming here.
Civility, structure,
thank you, Glenn Greenwald, and thank you, Zero Hedge, and thank you, Ian Crossland, for the content. Again, I'm not trying to necessarily stream snipe. I'm doing a live react. And I'm hoping people will get into the chat here and we can have conversations. We can have kind of a mutual conversation with the chat as we're reacting to what we're seeing here. I'm definitely, like I said, I'm not trying to necessarily stream snipe or steal the content that's going on here. I want to add to it. And hopefully you folks in the chat will help me. At some point tonight, we will break from this.
Excellent. All right, I'm gonna start
especially if this gets into rehash.
Whoever
they're talking now.
Sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort thereto, shall be fined under this title or
What the
imprisoned
hell? I
not more than
can't
10
turn it up.
years or-
So let's look at each one of
Ah,
these.
what the fuck?
It technically doesn't define insurrection. It's the code talking about what an insurrection is. Of course, they use the word insurrection in the actual code itself. But what do you think? Do you guys think it was an
the-
insurrection?
So I personally believe it was an insurrection.
There we go.
And I base that on the fact that 20 court decisions called it an insurrection, and the fact that there was a bill passed in the Senate that called them a mob of insurrectionists. I think the bill passed, or it was in the House of Representatives, 406 to 21. That was a statute to award the police officers medals, and it referred to these individuals as insurrectionists. So, I mean...
Okay, but what standard did they
think
use?
The term can be subjective. I think, you know...
Subjective, but...
People can say...
Subjective, but I'm going to go by what these
Section
people said.
2383
Instead of using
of
my
Title
own
18, which is
subjective
insurrection and
opinion.
Insurrection and rebellion statute. And nobody was, right? But I don't think that defines whether the event was an insurrection. When I say insurrection, I don't mean everybody there was partaking in insurrection. There are people who were peaceful. The people who walked into the Capitol and did nothing.
Okay, but
I don't think
those
that
are the
they were
people
insurrectionists. I think they
being
violated
put
the law,
in
but I don't
prison
think
and
they
being
were
put in
partaking
jail
in
without
insurrection.
being
I do
given a
think the
court
Proud
date
Boys
or, you know.
were partaking in insurrection. I think you could say Donald Trump incited the insurrection. I do.
Destiny, what do you think, man?
I would say the plot from start to finish is quite obviously an insurrection. The only way to get around that is to either justify an insurrection, which is what most conservatives do, they don't realize it, or to deny that an insurrection could ever happen.
Oh, come
or
on.
you're not aware of all the facts of what happened. I think that Donald Trump and his cronies had a very coherent plan that they tried to enact from start to finish, starting with false claims of voter fraud, leading to false slates of electors that filed themselves as state electors under perjury, which is what they did, up to the violence that happened on the day of the certification of the vote, where Donald Trump and his friends continued to try to delay the peaceful transfer of power by contravening the certification of the Electoral College vote.
And what I want to make sure that we don't force this into like what they want to call a debate where you got to be called on or anything. So if any of you guys, Glenn, you as well, man, if any of you guys want to jump in.
Yeah, two of them just went. I want Glenn to go, but I just want to say something here. I was there, and I was investigated.
So was Darren.
By the Justice Department in at least 5 criminal investigations, and I was forced to testify in front of the Jan 6 committee, which they've now been destroying their records because the records show the opposite of what they said. Trump and all of us had a stage rented by the Supreme Court. He was supposed to have another rally there. We showed up. Before Trump ever finished his speech, people were getting tear gas and hit by bullets, and there were a bunch of provocateurs leading an attack against the police, and they broke through. And then this 1 million+ people then got blamed as insurrectionists, and Biden gave a big speech yesterday saying they're all terrorists. So by that extension, Kamala Harris, as the VP candidate, was bailing people out of jail that burned down police stations and firebombed federal buildings. And the idea of Biden's speech yesterday, making his whole campaign about January 6th, saying political violence is never good, the Democrats are the ones that called for political violence. So I was there with a bullhorn. I could only reach 100 yards out when the tear gas was hitting me, saying, don't go in, don't fight the police. This is a setup. And then we have hundreds of videos. And so regardless of what the left tries to do, they're all out there, of people taking off their Antifa stuff and putting on the Trump garb, and the police fake arresting people, attacking them, and then high-fiving them. I mean, this has all come out in the new footage, and it's all getting...
Wait, fake arresting them? How were they fake
They would grab them and arrest them, and then drag them in, and then high-five them, take the handcuffs off and high-five them. Those videos, what people are going to take everything I say, they're going to put it on X and show what I said. That's where we dominate.
Yeah,
and so what I'm getting at here, let me tell you this. What I'm getting at here is they now admit hundreds of federal officers were there. So when Trump started his speech, this whole thing began with Ray Epps saying, go into the Capitol. He told the Jan 6 committee, yeah, it's true, it's in his text messages. He told family, I orchestrated it.
Here we go.
Under pressure, they finally indicted him.
I've been dying to see
a few hundred people,
Alex Jones and the
manipulated
Krasensteins
and fighting the police. They were led and driven
1-on-2.
by provocateurs and other groups. They were others. Then they opened the doors and the police wave them in hundreds of videos. They walk between the velvet ropes, and then they indict over 1,000 people that just walked through velvet ropes. And then now we're told in the National Security Directive of President Biden, the #1 threat is the American people. And he had a declaration of war yesterday against all Trump supporters and says to protect democracy, we're not going to let you vote for Trump. So as Stalin said, I care not who casts the votes, I care who counts them. Well, Biden doesn't care who casts the votes. He cares who's allowed on the ballot. So we've already won. No one's buying this. And when this happened 3 years ago, the Wall Street Journal had to print a retraction, but they said I was there as a coward telling people to attack. Well, no, they wouldn't let me put the video on Twitter where I was saying don't go in. But the truth is it's coming out. And so that's the bottom line here. And,
he did. I saw the video on Tucker's old program.
As the enemy and all these movies about martial law and civil war.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of you folks saw it
their
actually on
only hope,
InfoWars.
because
I wish I watched
the
InfoWars more often. But
evil Democratic Party and its evil twin, the Republicans, they've lost power and populism is rising. Quite frankly, this was not an insurrection. It was an insurrection that would have been guns. And it's in the Declaration of Independence that it's our right and duty to get rid of a government that's destructive of what the people want. But I'm not calling for violence. We're winning this politically, but we're being cast as about to be violent in the next 10 months because all these indictments and all these attacks to not let Americans vote for who they want aren't working and are backfiring. And all the big Democrat lawyers now admit it. Axelrod admits it. Carville admits it. They all admit this attempt, like we're in Venezuela or something, to take Trump off the ballot when he's never been convicted of insurrection. This is a military tribunal, U.S. code from the Civil War.
I'm gonna bring this back down for just a minute. Because, you know, we are on Facebook and YouTube, at least right now, and I'm not trying to stream too much, Alex Jones. Oh, here we go.
The Confederates during the Civil War were partaking in insurrection.
I mean, in retrospect, because I wasn't alive then, I think the South got manipulated into that. I thought there was real issues between the North and South. The abolitionists, had a good point, and slavery needed to end. But it was really about the North.
So just to be clear, the person that's defending the J6 rioters won't say that the Confederate States were engaged in insurrection.
No, that's not what I see. See, here's what happens.
Yes or no?
Hold on. That's not true.
That's what it sounded like you said. We can correct the record. So do you think they were engaged in insurrection?
I was trying to talk, and the thing I said was, I think the South was wrong, and then you just said that I support what the South did. No.
I didn't say you supported that. I said that you said that they weren't engaged in insurrection. Do you think the Confederate States were engaged in insurrection?
Was that because there were rebellions during Reconstruction at the end of the Civil War, and they were saying if you lead an uprising against the Northern occupation of the South, you're precluded from running from office because they were worried about Southerners getting office again, like Jefferson. No, I do not support the Civil War or slavery, and I'm not a, quote, Confederate.
But was it an insurrection? That's my question is, was it an insurrection? Yes or no?
Yes, if you were, no. The law, yes, I think that it was a civil war, and you could say an insurrection.
Okay, so is an insurrection, did anybody get charged with insurrection rebellion?
What I'm saying is,
with violating statute. Did anybody
get
charged?
Listening.
No, I'm asking you. You just said it was an insurrection. Did anybody get charged with violating the insurrection and rebellion statute?
Because it didn't exist.
Because there was no statute there. That's my point.
No,
you don't need to.
It didn't exist because we had just left England. Because it was in our Declaration of Independence that it's the right of the people to throw off tyrannical government.
You're changing the subject because you know it's correct.
Even the Democratic Party lawyers on CNN say you have to be convicted under the 14th Amendment of this before you can be. You can't just.
You don't get convicted under the 14th Amendment. You get convicted under Section 2383 of Title 18.
Well, let's slow down a little. Let's slow down a little.
A congressional resolution to give awards to Capitol Police is not a conviction of Donald Trump to remove him from the ballot. He's been indicted for saying they stole an election. So now they want to take him off the ballot so you can't vote for him, which is pure stealing of an election.
I think
this is not. He's the Yankee.
Okay, Alex is taking this a little too far.
Georgia. He's not Robert E. Lee. This has nothing to do with
I know,
it.
but
also, as a quick fact check, on the 14th Amendment, it doesn't require a conviction under Section 3. You can literally put it on the text on the screen. There's it does not say needs to be convicted.
I guess we need to define the difference. Alex, 1 second. We need to define the difference between the casual term insurrection and the legal definition of insurrection.
Yes.
Well, there's another thing we need to talk about. So, yes, there's the casual term. There's the etymology of the term insurrection, which simply suggests
Here
a
we go.
rising up. So by that,
Yeah, see, I really wanted to hear
definition, that could
Darren here.
encompass a wide range of things.
Black Lives Matter.
Wait. So there's a rising up. Then there's the legal definition, but we have politically weaponized court systems. So that's not even, I think, a proper standard. I think the proper standard is the sweep of a proper historical perspective. Does the event of January 6th compare to the antecedent that we've been discussing, the Civil War? So if the question is, is Civil War an insurrection? My question is the scope and scale of the event of January 6th comparable to the Civil War? Because Joe Biden has directly made this comparison, which I think is flatly ridiculous. And that comparison has to be valid in order for these ridiculous Section 3 arguments to have any force or legitimacy. And I think any common sense.
It's a lie. I'm going to shut up. It's a lie on its face. They say it's bigger than Pearl Harbor and 9/11. That is bull.
Okay, so here, let me finish what my point.
Yeah, do that, and then I want to go to Glenn for a second.
So my
after you do
point
that.
is that two things: the Civil War was an insurrection. I think it's hard to argue that. Nobody got charged with a crime of violating the Insurrection and Rebellion Statute 2383.
But there were.
What about 1992, the LA riots? George Herbert Walker Bush, he invoked the Insurrection Act. 12,000 people were arrested. 63 people were killed. Hundreds were injured. Was that an insurrection? What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, it's a declaration of federal martial law.
But was it an insurrection? Because nobody there was charged with violating. Nobody there was charged with violating Section 2383, the Insurrection and Rebellion Statute. But we still consider that an insurrection, right?
I mean, by that yardstick, Kamala Harris bailing out people that firebomb federal buildings.
That is
Glenn,
not true.
Glenn, talk to me. You have something to say.
Yeah, I actually think what Destiny and what Ed are saying are very important. First of all, I was going to say that I think one of the problems with how these things are debated is that a lot of people these days have very binary prisms for understanding things. A lot of it comes from YouTube debate where you have to declare yourself on one side or the other. So Destiny said, everybody either hates this insurrection, thinks it's an insurrection, or they deny it happens, or they think it's good. And there's so much middle ground. Namely that for me, this was a political protest that spilled over into a riot where a small minority of the people engaged in violence. I don't think we want to urge that to happen. We don't want to defend that. I consider that lamentable. But the fact that it's laughable to call this an insurrection is actually demonstrated by the examples that they're using. This was a 3-hour riot that was extremely easily subdued. It doesn't remotely compare to any prior insurrections, let alone to the Civil War. The only people who were killed on January 6th were 4 people, all 4 of whom were Trump supporters, 2 of whom dropped dead of a heart attack and 1 from a speed overdose, because these were not exactly a well-trained militia. And when Jack Smith went to charge Donald Trump with multiple crimes, he had a lot of options to charge him with, and he charged him with a lot of crimes, including very dubious ones. He did not charge him with inciting an insurrection for reasons that I think we ought to ask ourselves why. But the fact that this is such a minor event in history is demonstrated by the fact that the media, who needed this to be a major event, immediately started lying about what happened, saying that Brian Sicknick was murdered when he had his head bashed in through a fight with a fire extinguisher, only to learn that actually he called his mother that night. He was fine. He died the next day of what the coroner said were natural causes. Because the media knew that if you can't say that even one person supposedly perpetrating the insurrection killed anybody, pulled out a gun, let alone discharged the weapon, all of which is true, it's a joke to call this an insurrection. At best, it's a riot. And that's the reason why Trump hasn't been charged with an insurrection. The only time he ever commented on January 6th.
Meanwhile, BLM can murder people
or not was when he
in
said
St.
the following.
Louis.
He said, I know that everyone here will soon
in
be
Denver,
marching over to the Capitol building
Portland,
to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. He urged them to be peaceful in how they went there.
And
the
let me
extent there was
rephrase
violence,
that.
I think you
I
can
won't
make
say
the argument that
BLM
the FBI
murdered,
informants that
because
even the New York Times
BLM is
admits were
just
there
this
were the ones
catch-all
that
term
urged it.
for
But even if
everyone
the
who was
people
protesting.
who were there were the
But people
ones
were murdered
responsible,
at those
at
riots.
best, this is a riot. You could so easily make the case that the 2020 riots was a far greater insurrectionary threat than anything that happened on January 6th.
That's perfectly said. I would ask I would ask the left over here. I know Ian's asked the questions. I mean, I don't know. Did you guys see Biden's speech? I mean, it's an hour long that no one there was good. They were all there, over a million people. I was there. And then we marched down there to have another rally, and then I see this terrible thing happening. It was medieval, and then Biden saying they're all bad, and we can't let you vote for Trump. I mean, it's
to me, that's one of the biggest misnomers
from Biden's speech. I want to play, and then
Alex needs to shut up here. I mean, like, there's 7 people in this
number 4 Biden speech
program that need to talk, and Alex needs to shut the fuck up and let everyone else talk.
Not sure what
But
a peaceful protest. It was a violent assault.
But yeah, this is the biggest misnomer by the media and the left, is they want to act like it was all one thing. No, the rally started down the street.
Trump won't do what an American
The MAGA rally was down the street.
He refuses to denounce political violence. So hear me clearly. I'll say what Donald Trump won't.
And then they had the stage set up on the west side of the building. Meanwhile, people are breaking windows clear on the other side of the Capitol. And yet they're all guilty because of what a small few people were doing on one side of the building.
You know, Trump and his MAGA supporters not only embrace political violence, but they laugh about it.
The insurrection,
and because of what a few trolls did when they got inside.
Just the 3-hour riot that happened at the White House afterwards. I think that's the least charitable reading of everything that happened, and that's not if you read any of the charges that either Jack Smith or the Georgia Rico case.
Okay, Destiny, but they just played the clip of Joe Biden saying that was the problem.
Hold on, Alex. Let Stephen finish his thought first.
So not much of those indictments are actually focusing on the 3-hour riot itself. The unprecedented act that there is no answer for, that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton have not engaged
the political capital that Joe Biden is using is based on media lies, based on a false narrative created by the January 6th committee.
Wouldn't do that, create a plot to create fake electors.
If everything you're saying is true, then that should be the media story and Joe Biden giving speeches about.
Tell people to decertify their vote or to switch their electors.
JFK and Obama had alternate electors.
JFK.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Was completely different. I can explain that if you want.
Yeah, please do.
Right.
Yeah. So in 1960. So in 1960, JFK and Nixon, there was a dispute because there was a recount. I think JFK ended up winning by like 150 votes. At the time, each state decided, or the state decided to certify two sets of electors. Or decided to choose two different slates of electors.
Depending on how it went.
But they were certified by the
middle of a recount. They were in the middle of a recount.
Well, Trump tried to get it certified.
None was certified yet. Neither state was.
What happened with Trump was that Trump tried to get the states to certify a second slate of electors based off of conspiracy theory.
What's the difference?
That
none of the
election was stolen. Hold on.
They did.
He took it to court. 62 cases.
That's not
30
true.
cases were looked at on merit.
So are they
were all
taking him off
shot
the
down.
ballot now?
That's a separate.
That's a separate.
Take him off the ballot. Is a separate.
Is the not purest form of election theft is taking someone off the ballot?
Alex,
let's get back to the 1960s really fast. So what happened was that they did a recount, and Kennedy ended up winning by, I think, 150 votes, and they chose the Kennedy electors. They certified the Kennedy electors, and Kennedy ended up winning that state.
And that's what Trump said.
What Trump did was Trump tried to get the states to certify an alternate slate of electors. They refused because the court said there's no there there. And then when that didn't go through, Trump decided to get his own slate of electors above the states that were not certified and tried to use that to force Mike Pence to say that Joe Biden didn't win these electoral votes.
I just need to interject really quickly. So if we want to be precise in terms of the scope of the debate. I think it's about January 6th. And so the lead up to it might be relevant to some of the criminal indictments, but it's technically
Welcome,
speaking
Squishy
outside
Hunter.
the scope
Good
of
having
the
you out there.
January 6th discussion.
Is
But
this worse
if
than
we're
Pearl
gonna
Harbor?
if we're gonna bring it into the discussion, I think there's an operative word there, knowingly. And that's operative within the context of the charging documents. But the idea that Trump thought that he lost the election and he was knowingly lying.
Yeah, see,
and
this is the
knowingly
baseline.
engaging-
Like
No,
from yesterday,
he
Destiny
believes,
debated
I guarantee it.
Nick
Whether
Rekieta.
you believe it or not, Trump believes that the election was stolen, and he was using the legal recourses available to him at the advice of his legal advisors.
To be clear, that is not true. Most of his legal advisors, most of his legal advisors said that this idea was crazy.
Well, no, but he had legal advisors. who were
That again, that's a J6 committee lie.
If you search hard enough, you can find anybody to validate an opinion. But what you've just done is what I opened with, which is saying he thought the election was stolen, therefore he was justified to engage in insurrection.
By the way, Squishy Hunter, if you're still out there,
that's the only.
I will be doing.
That's for the
I will be
Supreme Court
doing
to
some
decide.
more of my own
That's for the Supreme
content
Court to
later.
decide.
This is
According to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, it says
Why
that
does
if
the
a
United
president
States
has engaged
sanction
in
countries that take people off the ballot?
What? That's not even remotely relevant here.
Oh, okay, all right. So
You know what the United States would usually.
Wait, here we have.
independence. If we do want an insurrection, you know it.
It would
Let's bring it-
probably be for things like circumventing the vote, like asking the vice president, for instance, to unilaterally win the election.
So
That
you
would be
can't-
something that we might
so
sanction
you
another
can't
country
vote for
for.
somebody because they make up a bunch of stuff and he's not found guilty anywhere, but you guys just parrot it over again like two men.
If you don't like the Constitution, that's your
two men
fault,
have a
Alex.
baby?
If you don't like the Constitution,
the
that's on you.
Constitution.
Really? Then
Can
why are
two
you
men-
saying that Section 3 of Amendment 14
can
requires
two-
a
can two
conviction?
men have a baby?
Alex, why did you say that Section 3 of Amendment 14 requires a conviction?
can two
we
men
put
have
the
a baby?
text on stream?
I would love to do that actually.
Put the text
and
up.
Glenn, before
Wait, because you keep saying.
All right, guys.
It doesn't say
Military
that.
tribunals.
I don't care
where
what
they
it's
would have
based
to
on.
find you guilty.
let's
That's why no
Put
one was.
Put
because
up
it was
Amendment
bullshit
14.
then.
Let's hear from Glenn. Let's hear from Glenn.
We'll slow down. This is a great conversation. Glenn's about to drop some knowledge.
I'm dominating.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're dominating
Glenn's
everything.
remote from
You're
Brazil. So
dominating
Glenn,
the
anything you
common
have something
sense.
to
I
say,
love
it's
Alex
helpful for me if I
Jones,
see a
but come
visual
on,
cue
man,
and
you
your
gotta
hand goes
you
up,
gotta
I can
share
tell you
the
have something
stage
to
here.
say now, but let us know.
Let me just say what happens is when you gather together to debate a particular question, you're supposed to debate that particular question. The particular question that we were presented with is we're going to debate January 6th and whether it was an insurrection. Now, I don't blame Destiny and Ed for not wanting to debate that, for wanting to debate a whole set of other issues about whether Trump acted improperly, whether he was naughty and the things he did after the election, because there is no argument to make that what happened on January 6th rises to the level of insurrection. And that's why an extremely aggressive prosecutor named Jack Smith decided not to charge Donald Trump with that crime because he knew there was no way that he could possibly
As well as
bring a
all the
conviction
courts
against
charging all
anybody,
the
let alone
individual
Donald Trump, who told
protesters
everybody
have
to be
not
peaceful when
charged
going
them
to
with
the
that
Capitol,
crime.
about whether or not that was actually an insurrection, whether that rose to that level. And even in a colloquial sense, what we've called an insurrection in the past is in a completely different universe. But on the issue of whether there was a real belief on the part of Donald Trump that elections were stolen, I don't understand how anybody could doubt that, aside from the fact that you have to get into Trump's head. In the last three elections that Democrats lost, in 2000, 2004, and 2016, a very large number of Democrats believed and asserted that the election was stolen.
Russia
Was the byproduct of fraud, and the president was, as a result, illegitimate. When I started writing about politics in 2005, the idea that George Bush was the real loser of the election, Al Gore won, was the view of every single liberal and Democrat that I knew. In 2004, there were objections claiming that Karl Rove had interfered in the Ohio vote with the Diebold machines and cheated to make John Kerry lose and George Bush win. And then in 2016, Hillary Clinton and the Democrats said that Donald Trump was the illegitimate winner, that Russia had helped him, and they tried to convince the Electoral College
Russian
to abandon the certified results of the
collusion.
state. Obviously, you go back to 1960, And a lot of historians believe that election was stolen. So it's not like Donald Trump was the first person to ever wonder or believe that an election was stolen from him. It's a very significant tradition in American political history, if you know anything about politics before 2016. And if Trump believed that the election was stolen, and while it's true, a lot of people in the Justice Department and a lot of people in the White House told them they didn't think it was, he did have advisors and lawyers telling him that they think there was evidence of it. Then the question is over, even on these other issues about whether or not Trump engaged in some conspiracy against the United States. But the issue is January 6th an insurrection?
Well, that's right. But I mean, Glenn, since
well,
they've...
hold on, let's respond to Glenn.
Destiny, and these guys haven't talked to neither has Professor Beatty.
That's because you've been talking the whole time.
Was in videos 2 days ago saying Trump's going to steal this election. So why are they allowed to say it? It's free speech. You don't get indicted for it.
Trump didn't get indicted for that.
Oh my God. They indicted him and they put it in the charging thing in Georgia saying he has the election. You're hoping people don't read the documents.
You can go read it. It's a RICO case. There's a bunch of behavior that is within a RICO case.
Oh
it's
my
not
God.
itself illegal. That's the point of a RICO case.
Yeah, right.
Can I talk about the differences? So Bush versus Gore, what happens? The Supreme Court ruled and Gore conceded. He stopped saying this election was stolen. He stopped saying I won.
Okay, but the Supreme Court at least heard it.
Gore refused to certify the vote. I don't remember. Did he do that?
The vote was certified.
He didn't have an alternate slate of electors?
Exactly.
Okay.
So
After Trump wanted a Supreme Court hearing. Trump wanted the same thing.
62 cases were brought before judges. And you said earlier, none of them were based on evidence. 6 of them were based on standing. 6 out of the 62.
They wouldn't even hear it. I saw
Do you know
it.
how many of them were Trump-appointed judges that made those rulings? 17.
So six of them.
Like that fucking matters.
Let me finish here. 6.
Brian always injecting something that does is fucking irrelevant.
The judge also
because he
analyzed
thinks
the
it's a little
merits and
fucking
said
dig.
there was no evidence or insufficient evidence. So only 2 of them, and that was Texas versus Pennsylvania and Gohmert versus Pence. Do you know what those 2 cases were?
And neither of those are Trump.
Texas tried suing.
No, I agree with you. Biden says inflation's fine right now. I agree with him.
Let me finish. Texas tried suing Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, several other states, saying that the election was stolen. And the judge said,
no, they weren't. They were saying there was election irregularities and fraud.
Who was affected had to sue them. Now, the other case was Gohmert versus Pence. He challenged the Electoral Counts Act of 1807, saying that Pence could overturn the election. He said that
I think that's wrong. I agree with you. I think that was a wrong.
Yeah, why are we bringing this up? This has nothing to do with election fraud.
Then if Biden's going to win so big, why can't Trump be on the ballot?
That's not up for Biden to decide. That's up for the Supreme Court to decide.
Biden said he wants him off the ballot.
It doesn't matter what Biden says.
Oh,
Biden's not the one who decides that.
Trump lost. That's why he can't have his race car on the track. Yeah, this horse is going to lose, so it can't be in the race. Bull crap.
Who do you think has the authority then to determine the interpretation of Amendment 14?
Man, I know the State Department.
Why can't you answer a single question? Why not just answer one question? I'm just asking a simple question. Who has the authority ultimately to decide it?
The president has not.
The president has the authority to decide matters of constitution.
You don't let me talk.
Because you won't answer the question.
Yeah, let Alex has not been
He's going to ramble. He's not going to
even on CNN, the legal analysts say that you have to be convicted. So, Destiny, you can sit there and have blue hair and be trending.
No blue hair right now.
And make all these, like, the moon is made of cheese. I'm Destiny.
Does the word convicted?
Every American knows you don't lose your rights when you're not convicted. He's not been convicted. And here's the good news. It's backfiring.
Yes, you do. It's literally in the Constitution. You have the right to run for public office if you. Oh my God!
You can't vote for citizens, but
can you?
It's literally in the Constitution that it is your right if you are 35 years old and a resident, a natural-born citizen of the United States. You have the right to run for president. It's literally in the Constitution.
We just crushed this one into the ground, but I want to ask the question in a slightly different way. Was this an attempted coup? Do you guys think this was an attempted coup?
Of course it was. Obviously it was.
The Hunter Biden laptop.
Oh my God.
The weaponization hearings,
emails,
the censorship.
Russia.
There's no Russian connection. That's all.
mRNA vaccines.
Take your extra. I want you to take all the shots.
Global warming.
How many shots have you had?
None yet. You want to take some?
No, I hope you take them all.
I just want you to answer one question about any.
None yet. None yet.
I think we've talked about the Democrats more than the Republicans on the January 6th debate. Isn't that wild?
Wait.
Isn't that crazy?
They now admit that the shot erases your immune system and doesn't protect you. So you do that little one-liner there.
Shot to protect me. The Democrats trying to take away my Democrat.
Yeah. Let's stay back. All right, guys.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Destiny and Alex are just going to fucking vomit all over the actual people. Look, I actually respect the Krasensteins here.
It can be debated
Or an
that
attempted
it was
coup.
a coup.
An attempted coup.
Definitely, I would say it's an attempted coup. And a federal
The coup is flooding the border with aliens.
If it was a coup, then why did he leave the White House on January 20th?
The Trump Eastman scheme. And he said,
all right, we got some big news. I'm not interrupting you.
No. Not that yet. But we had Glenn. Glenn's going to speak after you were.
I'm sorry. I'll shut up now.
So the federal judge, U.S. District Judge David Carter, evaluated the Trump Eastman scheme.
Another lawyer.
Which we can go into later. But basically, he said that it was quote a coup in search of a legal theory. This is a federal judge.
Okay.
So a judge.
We have a CIA coup over America. Hey, the CIA killed Kennedy?
Judges aren't part of the CIA.
Oh, my
Are
God.
they? I don't think so.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. You don't need to buy off the judge. You just need enough fucking CIA. Oh, my God.
They found the Secretary of State of Maine took Trump off the ballot because she had one hearing in a YouTube video. Are we ruled by this lady? Can we not vote for who we want?
So one of the I guess defenses against it being a coup.
Oh, wait. Here we've got Glenn. Glenn speaking. Go for it, man.
I actually want to ask a question that I would love to hear everybody's answer to. But before I do that, just want to say about federal judges. This year, in the last 6 months, 4 different federal judges, a district court judge, and then an appellate court unanimously found that the Biden administration gravely violated the First Amendment. In fact, the greatest assault on free speech, the court said, in decades, maybe the history of the judiciary, by systemically pressuring big tech to censor the internet and purge it of all dissent by threatening big tech companies using the CIA, the FBI, and the CDC with punishment if they didn't censor the internet. Now, you may not agree, but according to your standard, 4 different federal judges concluded that, which is infinitely worse in terms of an abridgment of freedom or an attack on the Constitution than anything that Trump is accused of doing.
That's not true. That's not
true. That's a digital insurrection by the deep state. Digital insurrection.
Can I put a pin on one thing real quick? I just want it to be noted.
Hold up, everybody, hold up. Glenn, please finish your point, and then we're going to move on to the response.
The question I want to ask is the question that you asked, Ian, is this a coup? If you look at how other coups are perpetrated, and I think a lot of this is that if you're
which the CIA is good at,
soft history,
right?
You don't know what a coup is. You think that like what CNN tells you a coup is a coup. Usually the way coups work is the leader of the country or whoever is in charge of the military orders the military to seize control of the levers of power. Trump was the commander-in-chief on January 6th.
He had every capability.
Obey his orders.
He had every capability at his hands to foment a coup, and he stepped down on January 20th and handed over constitutional power to Joe Biden.
Armed factions that form the law enforcement part of the military and the executive branch that serve under his command to do that as well. That's what happens in a coup. That didn't happen here because Trump wasn't trying to perpetrate a coup.
He wanted the Department of Defense to seize voting machines, and the DOJ turned him down and told
so that an audit could be done.
Remember when Trump said Biden cannot run and have the Justice Department take Biden off the ballot? Oh God, that was Biden. Sorry, I'm sorry. I was having a moment there.
To reiterate, also, Biden doesn't have the authority to do that. He still doesn't have the authority to do that.
Jack Smith,
the Supreme Court that Trump has his picks on, that's currently 6-3 conservative, they're the ones who are going to make the final decision on that. I wanted to be known that every single time you try to talk about any of the stuff related to Trump, it's so many Democrat names that comes out of people's mouths. I don't know why people can't just engage on the facts of what happened on and in the events leading up to June 6th an insurrection without having to invoke every other Democratic leader's name.
No name calling.
No, his name's Ding Dong. Ding Dong, Destin, whatever it is. The point is, I was there. There was over a million people, and they said police are attacking. And we got there, like shooting tear gas, and then a bunch of feds helped break through with some idiots that got mad, had a brawl, and then the cops go, "Come on in, everybody, come on in."
So Alex,
so there's everybody sees those videos now.
Okay, so
call this the new Pearl Harbor, worse than 9/11. 3,000 people. Do you disagree? Let me ask you this: do you disagree with them claiming this was worse than Pearl Harbor or 9/11?
I think it depends how you ask that question.
Ah.
I would say no. It's
Oh,
not worse than Pearl
okay.
Harbor or 9/11.
What are you basing on it? Are you basing?
No, I get it. I get it.
No.
Trying to take people's votes away is
No.
sacrosanct, but you're trying to take people vote for Trump.
There's it unprecedented that a president of the United States would do everything within his power to prevent the peaceful transfer of power
I mean,
to the next president.
it's not everything in his power. We just covered that with the coup question.
The march to the Capitol, what was bad was him watching the riot happen for 3 hours and doing nothing.
No,
Not a lie.
it took
That's
him
a lie.
No, it was the riot was happening. He spoke for an hour and a half. It started then. Then he got back to the White House, watched it like 30, 40 minutes, and then shot a video.
No, you're lying. He got back to the White House. He got Mark Meadows delivered a note on his desk that Ashley Babbitt had been shot, and he sat there sipping Diet Coke for an hour and a half. The guy that you called your leader.
The way they wrote these headlines, I was there.
How many pardons did Trump do for the patriots that got unfairly charged with crimes and convicted in the Capitol?
I was there.
Why didn't Donald Trump pardon any of those people? Why didn't Donald Trump pardon any of those people?
Timelines.
There's not going to be an answer to this because there's not. You're scared to answer any questions.
They claimed
Trump
their
betrayed
timelines.
every single
for almost an hour and a half.
Just keep it one at a time. It's easier.
Capitol when he first started speaking. So you add an hour and a half on, didn't exist. I was there.
So you were there, Alex. So tell me, were there weapons there?
No, nobody used weapons.
So are you telling?
Yes, there were weapons. You're right. You got me.
He's going to say the cops.
Yeah, they shot Ashley Babbitt and they threw people off the balcony. And they beat a woman's brains out. You're right.
There were 75.
Oh no! Nobody shot a woman. Nobody beat a woman to death.
Nobody beat a woman on the ground. That's a fake video that got put out. That wasn't real.
Ashley Babbitt's fake, folks.
He was
wow.
shot.
I like how you would think that years after the event, we're now getting unreleased footage. Like there were 1,000 people.
What the fuck?
There's video of that event from 5 different angles without her getting beat by a baton. How would that take years to report?
Oh my God! Everybody on X, get him saying they didn't beat a woman to death.
Everybody watching, go to Google.
Yeah. Let's.
You just screwed yourself.
All right.
I asked you about weapons.
Got your ass. Woo!
All right. Alex,
yeah, got his ass now.
Once you're done celebrating,
Ashley Babbitt, nobody died. Old woman didn't get drugged in by the cops and beat by batons.
This is an Eagles-Cowboys game. What is that?
No, he wants to do little one-ups and just.
So what Trump fans are, it's a sports game to them.
Only goes off how much emotion there is.
Alex, come on, man.
Calm down.
Here we go.
Okay. So you said the weapons were the Fed shooting Ashley Babbitt. What about how about the guy?
Here we go. The Oath Keepers having a bag across the river.
Independence who had AR-15s. How about?
Oh, they use those?
They didn't use them, but
what about the pipe bomb?
I asked you a question.
Who's that?
Alex, I asked you a question if people had weapons. How about how many weepons were seized? Like,
hey, I got a dick.
75
I got a dick.
people
That
arrested.
mean I'm raping people.
75 of the people arrested within the Capitol building had weapons.
Let's. We have a couple of clips.
Knives and stuff. The knaves have weapons and disarm them immediately.
Alex, shut the fuck up and let Glenn talk.
What is he? 3%er or 3%?
Does he have nuclear weapons like Biden? So we're going to use them on Russia?
He had a handgun on the stairs of the Capitol building.
He had a handgun.
As he was encouraging people.
That's worse than Pearl Harbor.
As he was telling people to go into the Capitol.
That sounds like
he wants to.
That sounds like
Nancy
potentially
and hopes
an informant. Now, again, I'm not saying he was. That sounds like it might have been an informant.
Before you cut me off, he wanted to drag Nancy Pelosi out and let her head hit every stair on the way out. He said,
and a guy pooped on Pelosi.
Alex.
So we don't blame him.
Yeah, let Ed finish this point because we're going to go to Darren really quick.
He said on his way to the Capitol building that they're going to take the Capitol and insert their own government.
Yeah, so
and he had a
out of a
handgun
billion
on the
people,
steps
if
of the
your
Capitol
lunatics were there, and you call it like Martians invading and blowing the earth up, like Glenn Ringwald said.
His intention wasn't an insurrection.
Yeah,
are you saying his intention wasn't an insurrection? He's saying he's going to drag Nancy Pelosi out. He's saying,
and he wasn't under Trump's command.
All right.
Trump didn't tell him. Trump said go peacefully.
Alex, can I just finish and you can respond?
Yes, you can finish your point, and then we're going to
Jesus
go to Darren.
Christ, Alex, shut the fuck up.
I'm not going to be run over.
So he was on his way to the Capitol building saying, we're going to take the Capitol and install our own government. He had a handgun.
Yeah, but you got two other guys on your side, Alex. You don't need to act like you're outnumbered here.
Drag Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell out. But you don't have a problem with that. That's not.
He didn't use a gun.
What do you think, Darren?
Because he didn't use a gun because he didn't have the opportunity to shoot Nancy Pelosi or Mike Pence.
Did he
That's
kill him?
okay.
He didn't have access to them.
I didn't say it was okay.
Thankfully, the Capitol Police.
What about the Q shaman? What about the Q shaman they let in?
The Capitol Police.
All right, okay.
Oh my God, a guy had a gun.
Okay, yeah. Fucking cut them off. Cut them off. Mute their fucking mics. Goddamn, I'm getting pissed off at Alex Jones
That's what I'm
on
going
this.
to do. Everyone, quiet down. We're going to Darren Beatty. Darren, what's happening?
What's the question here?
No, you've been hearing all
Is
this.
this a freaking coup? What do you think about what they've been saying as well?
I don't think it's a coup.
Welcome, Darth Hideous. Good seeing you in the
I
chat.
think question of an insurrection, you can go to the etymology of rising up. That could be anything. If we keep the proper perspective in mind,
And yeah,
it doesn't
look,
elevate to
I love
anything
Alex,
resembling the
but I
Civil
also would
War,
like to hear
9/11,
Darren and
or any
Glenn
of the
be able
crazy
to
One guy with a gun isn't as big as a Civil
speak
War.
rationally
No.
here.
They didn't use the gun.
Darren, keep going.
So there's that. The scope, I think, matters, and that's what we're really getting at when we talk about insurrection. The courts are politically weaponized, so I wouldn't even rest, the legitimacy and the question on the determinations of the courts, which we can see are running away with pretty wild and ridiculous theories. Weaponized court systems. So there's that. And then, these, sure, there are random nut jobs who are around D.C. on that day and any other day.
This has been more exciting than I thought it would be.
That's relevant to the ultimate question of whether it was a coup, whether it was an insurrection.
Even if I am mad at Alex.
And as I said before, the stuff about Trump and the legal theory behind his, multiple part plan, that could be an interesting discussion. It's technically outside the scope of the debate. But again, I would reiterate, anyone who knows Trump, anyone who knows people who knows Trump, 100% certainty Trump genuinely believes that the election was stolen. He had multiple legal advisors. Many of his advisors were trying to sabotage him from day one. Just because he was advised by one of these snakes doesn't mean that he therefore agrees with what they say. He agreed with the people who told him it was stolen and that he had legal recourse to address that, which he implemented. So there's nothing that rises to an insurrection or coup about that either, even though that's outside of the scope of our discussion for today.
So Cassidy Hutchinson said that Trump said to Mark Meadows, "I don't want people to know we lost. It's embarrassing."
I'm glad that you mentioned her because this gets to the televised sham.
Well, she was under oath. Who under oath for Trump said?
Oh, she changed her story a bunch.
Yeah,
she was under oath.
Yeah,
she was under oath. So the thing here is that listen. So the thing
nobody
here
ever lies under oath, people.
The January 6th committee called near 98% of their witnesses were Republicans.
It was kangaroo.
These people were under oath, Republicans, and they testified. The people who didn't testify within the Trump circle, there were dozens who Fifth Amendment, they refused to say a word. So you're going to tell me that the people that
it was a political move
are the liars
because the committee was a sham
in the public, but failed to say anything under oath are the ones that are telling the
let me say, I wasn't just there on January 6th.
And they were threatening people with conviction over ignoring the subpoena.
And not because I think to hide. The Fifth Amendment isn't just to incriminate yourself. It's because they wanted me in a perjury trap. And they were to have witnesses claim something wasn't true. I think attacking the Capitol makes us win an election?
Yeah, but witnesses against their testimony versus you can't get you in perjury. They can't.
Oh, yeah, just ask Roger Stone that question.
No, it doesn't happen that way. How did perjury get Roger Stone that way?
Roger Stone wasn't involved with WikiLeaks. He worked here then. He couldn't get a hold of him. I knew he told the truth. He didn't tell anybody I'm behind the WikiLeaks. They said Roger Stone ran WikiLeaks. He never even talked to Julian Assange.
Just say he ran WikiLeaks.
No, they freaking tried to put him
in communication. I think this is getting off topic.
Oh my
God, this is off topic. That's okay.
Roger didn't lie to Congress when he said, I don't know I have not interviewed Assange.
Let's pull back to Darren. Darren's going to finish off what you were saying about this. Wow. I think, Glenn, you were going to mention something after that. And then I have a couple of clips that we're going to play. But Darren.
Yeah, I mean, the January 6th hearings were a show trial of the sort that would make Kim Jong-il blush.
Yes. Yes.
Explain it to them. They wouldn't let Republicans that they wanted under the law on the committee.
They wanted Jim Jordan, who was actually part
of the investigation. You on your side. We pick who the people are on our jury.
Jim Jordan was being investigated by the committee.
They
wanted a a person on the committee who was being investigated by the committee. How does that make sense?
Oh my God!
Then-
when you're being
then-
investigated
It
by
makes
the
sense
Democrats,
because he was in
People
Congress.
watching don't understand. Hey, guys,
Jim Jordan
Alex,
was elected.
Does
they don't
that
have
matter?
The people that are listening don't have the context. So if we start rapid fire argumentation, a lot of people are going to lose interest. We need to stay focused and listen to each other. It's really important.
Staying focused
then
makes
it's
it
right
really
to
hard for them to win their case.
It is
They
really
can't
hard.
win their case when they have to stay focused.
It's
because
all
the
very
facts don't
hard,
align
but
with any of their views of reality.
It is possible.
Well, I'm going to go take a piss, and I'll let you tell people fairy tales.
But what happening is Darren is going to continue what you were saying about finishing up your thought, and then we're going to Glenn Greenwald.
I would disagree.
the
I
thought
think
was
he'd be
just about
funner
this
if he
Hutchinson,
was
and she said a lot
Jewish
of things.
Alex
I believe
Jones.
she was the one who
but
said that Trump reached over to the steering wheel and
Darth
told
Hideous
the Secret
followed up
Service
by
this or
saying
that,
only Jewish,
which was a
but
bizarre
yeah,
thing
no, I
because
think it'd be
the Secret
more
Service
entertaining,
agents in
but-
question weren't the ones that were called upon to testify
But
under oath.
some of them testified the same thing that Cassidy Hutchinson said.
No, the Secret
Yes.
Service actually said we would love to testify, and they weren't allowed to. The
There-
two Secret Service agents in question in that specific anecdote were not allowed to testify. So why would they take the secondhand report from Hutchinson when they could have interrogated directly the people who would have been
Secret
direct
Service agents
witnesses
did
to that?
testify,
Yeah,
and
they're in the
corroborated
Secret Service
her
report.
account.
Not those two specific
those two.
agents, but why not?
Other
Why
agents
wouldn't they
in the
have had-
car with Trump testified for the J6 committee. I don't know why they would or wouldn't testify or have particular people testify, but other people in that car did.
okay. There we go.
No.
Yes, they
two
did.
people.
Yeah, Glenn.
The January 6th committee, and it's what Alex was alluding to just a second ago, is one of the biggest shams in the history of Congress, because what happened with the January 6th committee was we had a long history of 225 years of tradition in the United States Congress where whenever investigative commissions would be created within the Congress, the minority leader and the majority leader would each select the members of that committee to ensure there was fair representation by both parties. Nancy Pelosi, for the first time in the history of the United States, as Speaker of the House, refused to allow the Republicans who were chosen for that committee by Kevin McCarthy, at the time the Republican minority leader, to be seated on the panel. And as a result, the Republicans said, we're going to have nothing to do with this. And the only quote unquote Republicans that were chosen was Liz Cheney, who ended up losing her seat by 36 points, and Adam Kinzinger, who didn't bother running again because they were so unrepresentative of the Republican Party. It was a completely partisan commission. And on top of that,
now here comes
none of the
Destiny claiming that Liz
videotapes
Cheney
were
voted
available
conservative
was made to the
so
public,
many times.
except for very deceitfully chosen snippets by Adam Schiff and by Liz Cheney. And it was only within the last several months that we saw all of the video footage, and what it showed makes a joke of the idea that this was a coup. You had people peacefully walking into the Capitol, led by many of the police officers who encouraged them to enter peacefully, which they did.
You notice Destiny and the Krasensteins, they keep dancing around that point, is that they're
violence, and that's what makes this whole debate such a preposterous joke. If you look at how coups are carried
that there
out
was
in
no
other
actual
countries,
coup, there was
you
no
can make a
actual
much better
overthrow.
case that the Black Lives Matter protests of 2020 was an insurrectionary movement. And the reason it matters, Destiny, is because if you're going to make arguments, there has to be an important test, which is, do you apply the same principles you're claiming to profess and believe in to cases where it undermines your partisan allegiance and your ideology, not only where it helps it? That's one of the key tests for determining the authenticity of your argument. And so if you don't think the 2020 protest movement was an insurrectionary movement against the United States government, there's no way to claim what January 6th was, especially since Trump could have done so much
to be
more
fair,
to cause a coup
Krasenstein
that
and
he did
Destiny
not
both
do,
said
because
that
wasn't his
the
aim
LA
ever.
riots.
If you want to talk about applying the same standard, would you have been okay in the year 2000 if Gore refused to certify the vote because he didn't like what was happening in Florida?
A lot of Democrats did
Can
want
you
him to
answer
do
that question? Glenn, answer the question.
Yeah, and I would have actually. Yes, a lot of Democrats were angry about that.
I'm not asking if a lot of I'm asking you would be okay personally if he refused to certify the vote.
I think there were two.
You want to answer the question? In 2016, would you have been okay if would you been
That's different. There's a difference there.
If you really believe that an election is stolen, as the Democrats claim they did, then it is kind of odd to say we're just going to concede that and allow George Bush to march into power, even though we believe that he actually stole the election.
Yes,
that is kind of an odd way to go about with your.
It's not all that all. We live in a democracy. There are appropriate forums through which you can
challenge. Did they not battle that out in the courts?
And they lost. Once you had
there
your day
you
in
go.
court and you
Trump
lost,
was battling
anything
it out.
past
in
that-
Yeah,
the
and
Trump-
you lost. Once you lose, anything
No,
past that
Trump
is
didn't lose. He never got to the
Vigilantism directed
fucking
at the
Supreme
government to
Court.
prevent the peaceful transfer of power to entrench your own power is an attempted coup. That's what he
That's
tried
not
to
what
do.
Trump did, though. He
That-
told them to be peaceful. He told them go and
We're
be
not talking
peaceful at the
about the
Capitol.
we're not talking about the peaceful protesters. And if he wanted them to be peaceful,
You're
he would have
talking
called
about
in the
his use
National
of the
Guard as
court.
soon as they
You're
started
talking
rioting,
about-
but he didn't do that.
Oh my God,
You're
because you
talking about
can't
the
just
legal
put
process,
troops on the
the
ground in an
congressional and
American
judicial process.
city.
Not a
He
legal
went and he
process.
contested. If he had ordered the military or some
That
other
would have been a coup.
FBI or any of those agencies, the CIA, to go and use violence on domestic soil in order to ignore those court rulings the way people do when they're trying to implement coups, you would have a good argument. He didn't do any of that. He invoked all of his legal rights in the judiciary and in the Congress. He lost and he walked out of the White House on January 20th. He
Lord.
did not have to be dragged out. He wasn't arrested by
surprised
the
we're
military,
still
which
up
is what
on
happens
YouTube
in coups.
and
So much of this
Facebook.
is because you only started paying attention to politics in 2016. You only live in the United States. You have no idea about history or anything that happens in other countries. You have no idea what a coup is. This is a coup.
Glenn,
if
you
all you
bring
know
that
about the world
up.
is
Glenn, you bring that up, and you're trying to use
CNN.
Hawaii as an example for something that was comparable, where both slates of electors were actually
Hawaii,
duly
I meant
elected by
Hawaii.
the people there. For in the 60s,
Hawaii? What do you mean Hawaii?
Hawaii and South Carolina, these other historical examples that people go to from multiple states of electors, are not at all comparable. Both of these things
anything
happened
about
prior
that.
to 2016. There are no examples in U.S. history, or if you want to give me one, since you know so much history prior to 2016, give it to me. Is there any other
And
examples in U.S.
again,
history
the
where
Supreme
president
Court-
is telling the vice president
The Supreme
to
Court got
unilaterally not
involved.
certify the vote?
The
Has
states.
that ever happened before?
That's a totally separate question
No,
from
that
whether
is
this
what
is a coup.
happened on January 6th.
It doesn't matter if it's the first time that it ever happened. Even if it's the first time or the 10th time, it's still not a coup or an insurrection. A coup or an
Yes.
insurrection is when you use violence and force in order to seize control of power outside of the legal process.
So a coup
That is
has
not
to
what
have.
Trump
So
did.
if
That's not
there's
what
no
Trump tried to do.
so if there's no violence, it can't be a coup.
Wasn't there violence? I saw
Yeah,
violence.
you need violence in order to be the coup. The
How much
amount of
violence do you
that
need?
happened on the Capitol on January 6th, the most amount
25
of violence
grams.
happened to the January 6th protesters, not from them. Again, not a single protester whipped out a gun, let alone used a gun. That is an extremely weird coup.
How many officers were? How many officers
I
were
just-
injured? 140.
Wait.
Is that enough violence for you?
Well, here's a good question about who, like staging a coup and emergent phenomenon, and if a crowd becomes violent, or if someone directs
The intent
crowd
of the
to become
violence
violent.
is important
This is
here.
actually the next
The,
question on my list.
the
Do you guys
intent
think
of the
that
violence
Trump
wasn't to
was responsible
overthrow
for
the
this?
U.S.
And before you
Senate.
answer, I want to play a couple of clips. We have clip 1 and 2. These are from Trump's speeches on the day. I think the first clip is before the violence kicked off. Maybe we can play that first.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. We can't play into the hands of these people.
Yep.
We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
That second clip was from after the violence had become, and so he was kind of doing damage control, I think, at that point.
I just don't understand all of the insanely arbitrary caps that we're trying to create to try to say that it wasn't a coup. Well, there was violence, but there wasn't enough. There was a subversion of the democratic process, but it didn't end up working. Like, if the plan would have gone as Donald Trump wanted it to have gone, which is Vice President Pence unilaterally tossing out the Electoral College vote.
And then it
Donald
goes
Trump
back
would
to
have
the
retained
states,
power
and the states
past
do
when he
their
was supposed
audit,
to
and the
lose it.
states
What
realize
is that
what
if
had
not a coup? What would you
happened,
call
and then
that?
it goes
No
to
one
the courts.
ordered those people, the few hundred that actually fought police to do that.
That's great. What would
That's
you
why
call
they
that,
can't
though?
charge-
If it
Trump's
would have
not been
happened,
charged.
no one said Trump's been charged with insurrection or inciting a
But you
riot.
say
Jack
he
Smith
can't-
especially did.
But we can't vote for him because they
What
say
would you
he's
call
guilty.
it if Pence would have unilaterally thrown out the vote and Trump would have held on to power for some weeks,
Trump
months
was
longer?
calling for a 10-day Senate investigation. That's why we were there.
That's great. What would have happened if Pence would have thrown out the vote?
No, that's a hypothetical. Trump wanted a 10-day investigation.
No, but
I don't
he,
care
he
what Trump
also
wanted.
wanted Pence to throw out the
Yeah, what would
electoral
have happened?
votes.
What would you have
Him and
called
Eastman
that?
Then
were
there would have been an
pushing for it.
what would you call
investigation,
that?
would have went
Can I
back
even
to the
name something?
states,
You don't
and the
wanna call it
states
a
would
coup
have
or
decided which
insurrection.
slate of
What would you
electors
call
to
that?
send.
Well, I'd call it taking Trump off the ballot and saying we can't vote for him.
I know you won't answer because you probably know he's guilty. That's fine. What about
I
you
know
or
he's
Glenn?
guilty.
Glenn, what would you call it if the president was able to entrench his power by asking his vice president to throw out the vote unilaterally, which is what he was trying to do? Do you want to deny the facts? Do you want to deny that it's a coup? What part?
A coup.
I think
You're lucky there wasn't a real coup.
Shows the weakness of the argument, but if that had happened, my guess is it would have ended up in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court would have made the decision about whether Mike Pence exercised his proper authority as vice president, and then Donald Trump, if he had run out of options, would have left the White House on January 20th without any need for military force or police force, exactly how he did. And I would have called that the exhaustion of all of the legal remedies available to the president in the event that he thinks that an election
and
was
therefore
stolen.
it would have been just the way the Bush v. Gore thing played out.
Okay, if both of you guys
Exhausting your
accept that,
legal
if both of you
options,
guys-
getting up to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court makes the determination.
Let Darren finish.
If both of you accept that, then if the Supreme Court says that because of Amendment 14, Section 3, Trump can't be on the ballot, you would both accept that as well?
I
We are going to
wouldn't,
accept
but
it.
I think
mean-
that would be authoritative. I would
Why
think
would
it
that
would
be
be
authoritative? But Donald Trump, one man, centralizing power among himself to remain in power, that's not authoritative.
I mean,
He didn't- he
it's
didn't
it's
do that.
literally the
That's not what
presidency.
happened.
To do. That is what happened.
It's literally the
I know
presidency.
you only read tweets and headlines,
You don't
Glenn,
need
but
to
believe
yell,
it or
but you
not, that's
yell.
actually what
He
happened.
wanted a 10-day, that was our goal, was a 10-day Senate investigation into the Constitution.
That's not what was happening behind the scenes, though. There's testimony from the lawyers involved.
They were wargaming everything.
Exactly.
His
and they're
attorney
trying
general, the
everything.
assistant AG,
And
the
a lot
assistant
of these
deputy
people-
AG, all of his legal
A
counsel,
bunch
all of the
his
state
lawyers-
senators, all of the congressmen.
if
Like,
I can talk over you, I can be way better than you.
that's what you've been doing the whole time.
No, you're doing it, and then I dominate you. You can't handle it.
Okay.
He didn't do that, and he left, is the point. And that's the reality. And now they say we can't vote for him. Even
Just
though we all
because
know
you
Biden's
ask
gonna win
a
by
lawyer,
10
hey,
votes.
is it legal for me to kill a person in this circumstance?
Alex, do you
That
think
doesn't
Trump
mean
was
you're planning
responsible
on
for
a
this thing on
murder,
January
right?
6th?
You're just
100%
curious
no.
and
He'd had
talking
hundreds of
to a
rallies
lawyer
around the
about what.
country, 5 or 6 that we were part of in the months before this. And we had the space. We had, here's the Capitol, right up here by the Supreme Court on the Capitol grounds. We had a stage.
You're not
And then we
guilty
get
of,
there,
of
and
attempted
it's
murder
bedlam.
by talking to a
And so, no,
lawyer
Trump didn't think attacking
about
the
whether or
Capitol
not
made him
a
look
certain
good.
murder
That's why
would
he
be
came out
legal or
and said
illegal.
that, don't do this and go home.
Why didn't he call them off immediately if he thought it didn't make him look good?
It was happening while he was giving a speech.
Wrong. The reason why he didn't call them off is because him, Giuliani, and Eastman were making phone calls to other
I
senators
was
and
there.
congressmen asking them to decertify the electoral vote.
No.
You
Yes,
were there, but you
do
weren't.
you acknowledge that happened, or do you not acknowledge it?
We're talking about the crowd.
I don't care about the crowd. I'm saying that as the riot was raging on and he was sitting there,
We're
saying
having
that,
5
if
different
this really made
conversations
him and
here.
his followers
you
look bad,
said-
why didn't Donald Trump make
Beatty
it?
and Greenwald are
I'm
trying
about
to
do it, 'cause I can
really
talk over
talk
you
about
really
the
easy.
point
You've
that
been
the
doing a lot.
Krasnesteins are
You're
bringing up,
before
and
you
then
dodge the
Alex and
question.
Destiny
You're
are just
doing it.
fucking
You're doing it.
derailing
No,
at
you.
this point.
So, you.
No, you.
You. Both of you.
Keep doing it. It's what he does. He
All
doesn't
of
have
you.
facts.
Break it up.
Trump did, while he was speaking, I was getting text messages, violence in the Capitol, and I left to try to go stop it. And when I got there, he was still
Okay, let me
speaking.
change the word to
So
homicide,
this thing
right?
where you guys say,
If I go to my lawyer and
this
ask, is this
time,
type
Trump
of
didn't know this
homicide
time,
legal?
He's speaking while it happens for hours. He then goes to the White House. tries
That
to
doesn't
figure out
make
what's
me
going
guilty
on,
of attempted
puts a
murder.
statement out against it, and he said, in the middle of his speech, off a teleprompter, "Go be peaceful." That's what he said.
Didn't Trump
also
get back
said-
to the was it like 1:30?
He also said, "Fight like hell."
Yeah,
if
why
we
didn't
don't
you
fight
play
like
those
hell,
clips?
if we don't fight like hell, we're not going to have a country.
Oh,
What
fight,
did-
fight,
what
fight,
did
fight,
Giuliani
fight,
say?
fight.
He said,
Hypocrisy.
Let's have trial by combat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a legal
Wait,
term.
wait,
Maxine
legal
Waters
term,
said,
really? That's a
go
legal
attack
term.
Republicans in restaurants and
That's
grocery stores.
So
It's
why don't-
with her, it wasn't hyperbole.
Why don't
Trump
we
never
ask-
said, Trump never supported political violence. Trump never told people to be goons. The left would burn down half the country. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows it's Biden's erased the border. Everybody knows all this. You're sitting there claiming this was, do you agree this was big as Pearl Harbor?
Do I? What are you comparing it? As big as Pearl Harbor in what way?
3,000 died in
Bomb-wise?
Pearl
No.
Harbor.
People dead? No. Maybe a blemish on our democracy? I'd say it was very close.
Let me ask you this. If they bring in, which they've done, 10 million illegal aliens the last 3 years, and then that gives them, with the congressional seats in the census, more Democrat seats in the Congress, is that not...
Undocumented
Is that a
aliens-
coup?
Undocumented immigrants are not voting.
They are counted.
No, they are
No,
not.
they're counted in the census.
but they're not voting.
They're counted,
in the census, and then the liberal cities get more Congress people.
Really
oh my God!
So let's backtrack.
Ladies and gentlemen, they're already scheduling elections
respond.
with
Or
the
liberal
illegals.
states,
They
excuse
get
me.
more
Backtrack
congressional,
to January
they get more
6th.
congressional districts.
Yeah, I do
Can we
want to
go back to January 6th? Okay, so you play those clips.
Oh, you always want to get off of it because it wasn't an
because I came
insurrection.
here to debate
and then
January
as soon as
6th,
I
not
bring up the real
immigration.
insurrection, you can't handle it.
I'm not here to debate immigration.
Yeah, talk to me about it.
Okay, yeah, so why don't we ask the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers, the Proud Boys, the ones who were actually indicted and convicted of seditious conspiracy, why they did it? And
well, you know, they told us.
No, yeah, they did tell us.
In both,
they did tell us.
both the kangaroo trials.
Let me finish.
Wait, yeah, let Brian finish.
And then you can come back at me.
All right.
Joe Biggs, he said, I did it because this is where Trump wanted me. He wanted me to do this. Stewart Rhodes, Oath Keepers, same thing. I did it for Trump. Multiple Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. They all
wait a
said,
minute.
I was here because of Trump. I went into the Capitol. I took the Capitol because that's what Trump wanted. So was Trump responsible? Ask them. Ask the people that are serving 20 years in prison for seditious conspiracy.
I'd like to respond to that now. I know Stewart Rhodes well. I know Joe Biggs well. He used to work here. And they have never said Trump told them to go into the Capitol.
Yeah.
They have never said they did it because he asked them to. That is not a true statement. They
believed in Trump as what this country needed.
Shook a fence. Stewart Rhodes said he never told anybody to go in the Capitol and never went in the Capitol. And you just said they said that Trump told them.
Multiple Proud Boys said they were in the Capitol because that's what Trump wanted. Trump
you're
wanted
reading a Jack Smith federal filing? Next we'll tell me the
I'm going. Jack Smith didn't indict the Proud Boys.
They have messages between the group. They have the actual.
No, I know all about it.
Yes.
And,
so they have them. So
come
Are
on.
you saying these are fabricated?
No, read me the quotes.
Yeah, read those quotes.
I mean, I have said we were here to storm the Capitol. We were here because of Trump. Trump. I mean, there's literally dozens of these
pretty
quotes.
different.
And
So
do they say Trump told
what's
me
the
to?
best quote
Nobody
you
is
have?
saying.
Trump
Hold on.
said
Wait.
go peacefully.
This is a red herring. Nobody.
Let's
They're
let
not
him
saying. They're not saying that Donald Trump personally communicated to them to go
Okay,
to the Capitol.
so
what they're
then
saying is the reason why they
how
were
is it a
there, which
conspiracy
over
involving the
147
president
people have
then?
thus far in their convictions have said the reason why they were there is because Trump called them to go there, not
Both- in
personally.
both- in
not.
both
You know how
Proud
many of those
Boys-
people? You know how many of those people cited Ray Epps as the reason why they were in the Capitol? Take a guess.
Well, wait a minute.
Go
Wait a
to the
minute.
Capitol,
Yeah, Darren.
go to the Capitol. In both Proud Boys.
Yeah, we got Ray Epps on
Keeper
tape
cases,
saying it.
the
You don't
Fed said
have
there
Trump
was
on
no-
tape saying it.
No direct conspiracy.
No one is talking about
But,
direct
not what I'm
they
talking
went on
about.
to say now it's a new conspiracy where it's not written or said. They just imagine it.
Incitement
Wait.
of violence.
Yeah, yeah,
I
let Darren-
want to
let
be
Darren respond
clear.
here.
I want to be clear. What is your contention with this? Give me the quote and then what your contention is in relation to the quote.
Interesting. I
Like
just had
Destiny said, there are
3 viewers on
140
YouTube at the exact same
convictions
time, and they
where
all
the
dropped
people
at the
convicted
exact same
said,
time.
I was there because of Trump. Trump called us to do this. And when I say called us,
Well,
I don't mean he
let's
called them
assume
on the
for
phone
the
and
sake
said
of argument that that's true. What is your conclusion from
that Trump helped incite this.
Well, just because they thought they were helping Trump, that doesn't mean that Trump
Oh
told
my
them to
God.
do
Let me
that.
say
That's
this.
true.
Let me say
Oh
this.
my
Let's
God.
look at
There's
the
a famous
actions.
federal, famous.
Are they
It's like-
serious?
wait, Alex,
Are they
it's like
fucking
saying,
serious?
You know, Charles Manson presumably thought Helter Skelter was, telling him to kill. So is that?
Do we get to indict
Is
fucking?
essentially Helter Skelter,
no,
and he's
guys-
telling these Proud Boys that you need to go.
Do we get to
Mob
indict
boss
Paul
Mob boss
McCartney?
Tell his peons go kill this guy, or do they use other language?
Well, what's the language that he used that you think is criminal?
The language Trump. The language
What's the
Trump
language
the
that-
language-
Fight like
the
hell. They're gonna say
language-
fight like
the
hell.
ideas that Trump discussed was that the election was being stolen
Okay,
from
so
you.
that's criminal?
I never said that was criminal. He's not being indicted for that speech. You're asking why are the people at the White House? All of the Trump's indictments and charges for January 6th are not focused on the people
No, I
at the White
understand.
House.
So what's
Or
the
the
chain
Capitol.
of argument there that Trump
The question was
said
just
that
why are
the
the people
election
there?
was stolen, and people assumed that they interpreted that as meaning, oh, we need to go to storm the Capitol. That's something.
I was
Trump's
really
fault
hoping
and he's
Destiny and the
criminally liable
Krasensteins
for
would
it,
have
and it
better
runs
arguments,
into an
man. I've been
insurrection.
hearing
I'm trying-
Destiny
I'm trying to be
debate
clear
this
what-
for
I
fucking
think
weeks.
What Trump did was Trump laid out very precisely exactly what he believed had happened. He thought that the vote was being stolen, that our country was being taken from us.
Not believe what he wanted others to believe.
Yeah, that Congress wasn't acting, that Mike Pence was supposed to be the guy to do it, but he hadn't heard good things about them, and they needed to go down to the Capitol building to protest. To protest what? To protest. Nobody's saying that. You're repeating the same thing. You're like a broken record. You're a broken record.
No, I'm not a broken record.
Trump has
every time
every right.
You try to shut me down. Listen, here's the bottom line. Trump's not been charged with insurrection.
No one said he was.
Trump didn't, but you're saying people can't vote for him.
No, I'm not saying that. That's up to the Supreme Court.
No, that's the. Do you support?
No one here is talking about him being.
Colorado and Maine taking him off the ballot.
That's up to the Supreme Court.
No, you punt. Do you think it's good for the opposing party when a guy's way ahead the polls to remove someone from the ballot?
It's not about him being ahead in the polls or not. It's about whether or not he engaged in insurrection, and if the self-executing part of the 14th Amendment allows states to remove him from the ballot.
Where is Trump found guilty of insurrection?
You don't need a conviction for the 14th Amendment.
About this for like an hour.
Alex, read it. Can we bring the 14th Amendment up on?
Can you read the Declaration of Independence? You're misrepresenting
Fuck the 14th Amendment. There have been several Supreme Court cases saying you can't violate someone's rights without due process.
You can't vote for somebody that's not a U.S. citizen.
It looked like you wanted to chime in, Glenn.
But he's unpopular, though. He lost. But we can't vote for him now.
If you think it's so bad that courts are kicking him off the ballot, what do you think about Trump doing the birtherism card for Obama for how many years? That was the first big political thing he was known for, was challenging whether Obama was
But that
born in
didn't
the
kick
United
him
States.
off the ballot.
Get him kicked off the ballot.
No, you know why?
It was criticism of the president. That's a First
And now you're
Amendment.
going to justify that.
No, you're going to read my mind?
Trump didn't do anything to disqualify Obama from being president.
Obama and his wife saying he was born in Kenya. I don't believe he was born in Kenya. He was born in Hawaii to the head of the Communist Party there, actually. And who's in his book and hanging out, Frank. So that's what's going on here. It doesn't matter. If Trump wants to say the moon's made of cheese, we have a right to vote for him.
Trump can say whatever he wants. That's not what's getting him removed from the ballots.
Okay, but you're the one that brought up the Obama birther argument.
You can vote
write
for
him in,
him
I
if
think,
you
if you
want.
want.
You can vote it. You can vote for him. You can write him in, but
No, you can't, because the state has already said they're not going to count any write-in votes.
We talked about the
doesn't
Civil
need to
War
be
earlier.
found guilty.
Nobody was found guilty of violating insurrection rebellion
And they never
statute
used
during the
it.
Civil War.
I have a
either.
question.
Nobody,
I have a
and that was an
question.
insurrection.
Wait.
No, they were disqualified.
Welcome to my house for a moment. Hello. Hi, I'm Ian Crossland, and I'm moderating this awesome debate. Glenn Greenwald's about to speak. I want to hear what he has to say. He's been waiting patiently for about 1 minute. Glenn, what's happening?
Thanks. Yeah. So first of all, on the issue of the ballots, there have been split decisions on this, and even Democratic judges in Colorado, and then the Democratic, very partisan Secretary of State in Rhode Island, as well as in California, have all said they don't think it's appropriate to remove Trump from the ballot because he has not yet been charged with, let alone convicted of, insurrection. So I want to be very deferential to Destiny's incredible achievements in constitutional scholarship, but there are actually a lot of even Democratic Party elected officials who are saying, as well as judges of the Colorado Supreme Court who are appointed by Democratic
because it's in the
Party
Constitution.
governors
You
who
can
are
run
saying
for
that you
president
cannot
if you're
actually remove
35 and a
somebody because to
natural-born
remove them
citizen.
From the ballot is to punish them for a crime,
To take away
insurrection,
that
Trump has never been
constitutionally
charged with and therefore has never had the
acknowledged
opportunity to defend
God-given
himself the way a
right,
criminal
was that?
Wait,
you
why
have
are
to have
citing
due
the
process.
Glenn,
That will
Why is he citing the dissent? Why are you citing a dissenting opinion on a losing case? Like it proves your point.
No, also,
That's what I thought. Okay.
the
He just knows that people are dumb.
I have a directed question.
Hey, I know you're scared of Glenn. Let him continue. No one's
He's
ever
doing it
taken off the
because
ballot
how
and
many
convicted.
Supreme Court cases
Glenn,
have been
continue.
5-4?
The secretaries of state of California and Rhode Island have also said the same thing, but it's true. The Supreme Court will decide. I'm very confident they'll decide Trump can remain on the ballot, and then that will resolve that issue.
Yes.
The question I have a few questions quickly. One is, why didn't anybody like Jack Smith charge Trump with engaging in an insurrection? If Trump was engaged in an insurrection or inciting an insurrection, you would hope, I would think, that he would be charged with that. I don't think he was, so I'm happy he wasn't. But for those of you who think he was, why wasn't he charged with it? And then the second one is, I just want to know, given that the 2020 riots did have a lot of people in there who were nonviolent and were there not for insurrectionary reasons, but had a lot of people who were anarchists and insurrectionists and who engaged in a lot of violence, a lot more than was done on January 6th. Do you also think that the riots of 2020 constituted an insurrection? I'm just trying to understand, to get a sense for what your definition of insurrection is.
Glenn, do you think that the 1992
Can you
riots?
answer what I asked to ask two questions. Can you
Again,
just answer that?
1992
I
riots.
can give you really quick answers for these. For the
Yeah, I can give answers too. I don't think that Black Lives Matter was an insurrection. I do think
Even though they were
1992 riots in
firebombing
LA
federal
was
buildings.
an insurrection. George
Did
Herbert
Black
Walker
Lives
Bush.
Matter lack?
What-
Black Lives Matter black that made it not an insurrection. What did it lack?
So it was a protest, and the violence was when the police clashed with the protesters. The violence was not against the government in
what?
order to stop the government
Fucking
from
what?
doing something.
Motherfucker,
There were
what?
Antifa and anarchist groups there that explicitly say they were using violence to overthrow the government. That didn't
They
happen.
were firebombing federal courthouses. God, that's not true.
They were the bombs on the courthouses. There's nobody. It was at nighttime. There's nobody in there. They were not obstructing anything.
Firefighters got cited.
Oh my God.
They were not there to obstruct an official proceeding of a government.
Oh my God.
Just burned down a
The
courthouse.
fucking the police officers
I wanna ask
in
Glenn, do you
Kenosha,
think
Wisconsin.
1992 was an insurrection.
Notice you.
The police officers in Milwaukee.
I just answered it.
Yeah, but no. The Democrats.
Alex, I did answer it. I just,
Go ahead, it's
I
unbelievable.
specifically answered it.
Glenn,
You
please,
didn't- You answered it. Yeah. But I mean, I think the 1992 riots, I recall at the time thinking the Insurrection Act was inappropriately invoked. I'd have to go back and really study the 1992 riots to see the extent of the violence. But I do think that you're asking that indicates why the 2020 riots are way closer to an insurrection than anything happened after the 2020 election. And the reason you're afraid to say that it is an insurrection is purely for ideological and
Yeah, there's this.
partisan ends.
Oh, but there were people in the building gonna cast a vote, so that's different.
Let me just say,
There's riots
you asked the question
every week.
You can
in
destroy
America.
all the federal government you want as long as it's in the dark of night when there are no people inside. That's the argument they're making here.
Democrats were saying be violent everywhere.
They were not.
When we talk
Everybody
about
get the clips. Get him.
When we-
Get him.
when we-
Take the clip and get him.
when we talk about
I
an
can't wait till
insurrection,
the 10 million views.
when we talk about an insurrection,
You got your ass.
I want to let
Go ahead,
Stephen
go ahead,
finish
Dexter.
this
when
off.
we're
but Darren's
talking
gonna-
about an insurrection, okay, I think all three of us here would agree that if there was a congressional session or a state legislative session and people were voting on it and BLM rioters went up and they tried to firebomb the House to stop the vote, I think all of us would agree
Absolutely.
that's an insurrection.
No
But
Republican
you guys,
firebomb.
you
The
guys,
Democrats have
you
taken over. Oh my God.
guys,
The
hello,
Democrats have
oh my
taken
God,
over
I
a
almost
bunch of
finished the sentence.
capitals.
Does that
The
scare you? Are
Democrats
you
have
okay?
taken way more violent stuff in capitals than Trump
We
people.
understand. Yes, and
Oh,
space
that's a great
lasers.
point.
We're destroying houses in Hawaii. Okay, you keep bringing back the amount of violence. The amount of violence isn't relevant. All of us here agree that obviously over the entire
So when
course of the
Democrats
BLM
storm the
riots,
Capitol, it's great. When
the
Democrats endorse
course-
them storming, it's good.
Over the course of the BLM riots, there was
The
lots of violence. I
BLM,
think
the
everybody on this
whole
side of the table
point
is
of
okay with
BLM
charging
Democrats
convicting
storming
people.
capitals all the
was
time.
to
Everybody here is
defund
okay
the
with charging
police.
and
So this
convicting
idea
anybody
that they
was guilty
weren't-
of a violent act. However, violence, no matter how much, does not make an insurrection. It's the obstruction or rebellion against the United States for the Jack Smith obstruction charge.
Defund the
obstructing an official
police
process
isn't an
like certifying
obstruction.
the vote.
Okay,
I-
Darren,
I-
we're gonna go to Darren. We're gonna go to
Can
Darren
I
now.
ask Darren a question.
Yeah.
Or Darren and
Let me ask. So first of all, it wasn't just violence. There are aspects of the BLM uprisings that involved. At one point, Trump was forced to go into a secure bunker in the White House. They broke through the Treasury.
Throwing
called
firebombs.
he
Yeah,
called
I
in the
think we
National
remember
Guard
that.
then.
But
did he
I have a
remember that?
question. I have a question about the 14th Amendment for Destiny or anyone. So
By
let's
your
assume that
standards, he
it
called in the
doesn't
National
require
Guard because there was a
conviction. In your
freaking
view,
insurrection.
who is most appropriate to make that determination? If it
Supreme
doesn't require,
Court.
well,
So the answer, the real answer is it's hard to tell. Personally, I don't like the way the 14th Amendment Section 3 is written. I've got a lot of friends who will hate me for saying that. And I think that the Supreme Court probably will rule against it because the problem with the 14th Amendment is the self-executing part of it means basically anybody involved in that balloting
not
process of putting them on the
self-executing.
ballot
It's
could make
not
that determination.
so you
self-executing.
basically agree.
It's
it has to
based
go up
off
to
of
the
a
Supreme
right
Court and be-
enumerated
I-
in
it
the
can be,
Constitution, and you have to
justly
have
removed from
due
that.
process. It's
Declaration of
not
Independence,
self-executing.
and you would have an insurrection. I want to fix this peacefully. But I have a right, not from the Declaration of Independence, it already points out what's there, to abolish a government when the majority of us agree we're done with it. So, and you got all these movies about civil war and the Democrats are putting out and Obama's putting out. You guys better hope that doesn't happen. We're trying to fix this peacefully. But this is a load of crap. To claim that Republicans and conservatives are this super viral, evil, white supremacist terror group, they're planning crap. No one's buying that. And conservatives and populists and America Firsters see how we're being set up.
You say set up, but Donald Trump is the one setting you up.
Well, this is my question.
Trump said, be peaceful and go to the Capitol.
Trump
We're going to have a
created-
10-day Senate investigation. I was there.
Did Trump
Were you
have
there?
his people? Did
Were you
Trump
there?
have it? There's a million hours
Jesus
of footage.
Christ.
Trump had 7 different
Yeah, and
states
how
create
much of it have
7
you
false
watched,
sets
Destiny?
of electors that perjured themselves, saying
I know
they were
this.
duly elected.
I know this.
And they shipped all of those
I
to
know this.
Congress.
When I tried to have people that I know put clips of me saying don't go in the Capitol, they would take them down. Or we show clips of people pulling off their Antifa gear, putting on Trump gear, and you know all
Where's the video footage of all the Antifa gear?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
3,000 people
Well,
have
we're not
phones
doing
there.
clips tonight. Oh, everybody.
How many
Where's the
Antifa were
footage of them
arrested and
stripping down
charged?
Antifa gear? Gotcha
How
again.
many Antifa?
Woo!
If Antifa was
Gotcha
there,
again.
why didn't
That's
Donald
when the
Trump-
glasses go
why
bump, bump,
didn't Trump-
bump. I get the cigar.
Yeah,
You guys are talking pretty candidly about
Well, you
media.
know we're not playing clips
Why
tonight.
didn't Trump call in the National Guard as soon as the riot started if Antifa was there?
He asked for 10,000 National
He
Guard a
didn't.
month before.
No, he didn't. He
and
mentioned
Milley
it 2
threatened to
days
resign
before.
if he got
Why
him.
didn't he call him in that night? Why didn't he call him in? Look, there's Antifa. Call in the National Guard. He would have ended it in 20 minutes.
So that's another myth that he had the National Guard on standby. Kash Patel said that.
No, he asked for it.
Let me finish.
He asked
Kash
for it,
Patel
and
said
Nancy
that Trump
Pelosi
asked
said
for it.
no.
That's the source of that. Kash Patel and Donald Trump, after the fact, claimed that they had the National Guard on standby. Neither of them testified to that under oath. Do you know who did? The Secretary of State, Department of Defense. Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller, testified
No,
under
Trump
oath.
didn't have it on standby. He asked for it and was refused by Milley. I can watch the post up.
He was refused. No, Milley specifically said that's not true. Under oath.
Oh, Milley.
Yes.
Was that in between his phone calls to Xi
And
Jinping?
the Secretary of Defense, the man who he would have to call in the National Guard, the Secretary of Defense specifically said under oath that Trump never did that.
Oath.
Under oath. Did Trump or
Under
Kash
oath,
Patel?
they tell people 2 men can have a baby. Can 2 men have a baby?
So what? Why do you?
Can 2 men have a baby?
let me
I thought
ask this was you- January
Okay.
6th. No, stop.
Yeah, but you guys
Another
want-
day.
Alex,
Another
you're
day.
going under oath.
Alex, let me ask you a question. You're criticizing me for quoting somebody under oath. What is your source? I'm quoting somebody that said something under the penalty of perjury. Your source is, you just know it, that Donald Trump said it to the public?
No, we're live on air here, just like when this guy said that, oh, you're claiming this was done. You don't have proof. Those clips are all there. Everyone's going to pull those up. They're going to see them.
So there's clips of Donald Trump calling in the National Guard?
No, I'm talking about the last point.
No, you didn't answer my question.
No, I remember the articles.
Can you just answer my question?
You're not listening.
You didn't answer.
You want my answer?
Yeah, I do.
When Trump got firebombed and the White House got attacked, he called for the National Guard, and Milley said, "I'll resign if he doesn't." He then asked the head jurisdiction, was actually General Flynn's brother, for 10,000 troops, and was in the news. Anybody? I don't have a computer in front of me.
It was on January 6th. January 6th.
No, he asked 2 weeks before that they wanted.
It wasn't in the news.
Okay, well, boom, gotcha. Everybody get it.
Show it. Go ahead.
I'm on air right now.
He requested
I don't
National
have a
Guard.
computer. Hold on.
Tell me what you're telling me.
You're just
'cause
hoping. Listen, they're going to get you.
Tell me what you're telling me. That he requested 10,000 troops.
Watch
Is
X
that what you're
tomorrow.
telling me?
Listen to me carefully. Watch X tomorrow.
Okay. And you're gonna. It's gonna be
It'll
General
have
Flynn
5
making
million
this
views,
claim.
and it'll be you, and it'll be all the news articles where Milley says he'll resign if Trump's went National Guard, and then they did it again, and then General Flynn's
That wasn't
brother.
for January 5th. That was the Washington
I know.
DC
That's
protest.
where it begins, and he asked again, and they also, it's all there.
Okay, but you're making the claim.
You're like, oh,
that
these are
Trump
two completely
had-
separate
you
things. They
think
don't
I'm
have to
going.
do with one
I'm
another.
here.
Well, no.
Why did Trump
No,
have
if
Milley
you
resign
have the
to
Secretary of
build the
Defense telling you he's going to
They're all
resign
part of
if
the
you
swamp. Why
bring
would you
in
just
the
do it anyway?
National
That's not
Guard,
right.
then
Trump-
yes,
Well,
you
you're
might
not answering
hesitate
that
to be
question either.
quick with the finger on the National Guard.
Kennedy,
Jesus
What's going to
Christ.
happen is they're all going to get it, and that's the whole. And they're all going to show it, and then we'll see.
Yeah, this is making me think about media manipulation in general and how sometimes you see things, sometimes you don't, sometimes things are real, sometimes they're not, and it leads me to my next question. General for everybody. And by the way, all 6 of you are doing phenomenally, especially you, Glenn, killing it from Brazil, my man. Do you guys think this election was stolen?
100%. And it's
Absolutely not.
And it's my right to say that, but then, covering up the windows with signs, and then all these trucks pulling in, and then the graph where Trump's above, and it perfectly shoots up, and then wins.
I guess define stolen. Define that for me before we answer the question. If
Well, I mean, as Professor Epstein and others have said, they do it way before suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop, giving you 96% Google Democrat links. I mean, it's all, the stealing's done before. in the algorithm and the censorship and the control. I mean, I remember 5 years ago when I was being deplatformed, they were denying I was being deplatformed and saying there was no censorship. Now we know from the weaponization hearings that all this is going on, and now they're telling us you can't vote for him because
Welcome,
he said
Sally.
we
How's it
won't let
going?
you vote for him. I mean,
why is it, if the election was being stolen, why did every single person that Donald Trump trusted to investigate come back and say there was no evidence?
It wasn't every single, a whole bunch of his lawyers.
It was not a whole bunch of his lawyers. Most of his legal counsel said that the few that he ended up going with were crazy.
You just went in 2 seconds from everyone to most.
I said
everybody, you got him again. Show all
I
the
said
Trump
that
lawyers,
everything that every single person that Donald Trump trusted to investigate, meaning the vice president, the Department of Justice, the cybersecurity division of the Department of Homeland Security, all of his White House counsel, I know how it works. I know you're farming TikTok clips, okay? That's what we're doing right now. But the reality is almost every single person that he asked to investigate.
Wait. 2 minutes ago, you said all of them.
That he
now
trusted.
He
didn't.
Yeah,
ask
how
Sidney
you doing,
Powell
Mr.
to go and
Poopy
investigate.
Butthole
He brought copy of these
69?
things to him, and he said, "Oh, maybe these are okay." Which, by the way, he also said. He also said she was crazy.
You just said all wouldn't say there was fraud.
I said all. Get the full quote, kind of like you're missing
Good
the
to
rest of
see
the
you
14th
both
Amendment
here.
there. Get everything I'm saying. I know that hurts. I know the context hurts people like you. You live and you breathe 10-second clips. Because anything longer than that destroys
Context
everything you're
hurts,
trying to
says the
play on.
guy who literally just took a whole...
You just said all his lawyers told him he lost, and we're going to show you the majority saying he won. Gotcha.
Alex, tell us specifically. Alex, tell us specifically which lawyers said he that
Besides
actually
Eastman,
won.
Powell, and Giuliani, who is on his
there
team
anybody
here
else?
claiming widespread election fraud?
Powell. He brings up Sidney fucking Powell. Jesus Christ.
I know we're live on air.
All these people are convicted and pleaded guilty, except Giuliani.
Folks, get him.
Let's ask. I want to ask Glenn. What do you think, man? Glenn, do you think that this thing was stolen?
I think the election was rigged. I'm not somebody who thinks that there's evidence conclusive that the election was stolen. I do think we should be a lot more attentive to when election processes get changed out of the blue, like, oh, because there's COVID, we're going to have a ton of new conventions for how we do mail-in ballots. I think there's a lot of potential for fraud there. I don't think there's evidence that I've seen, at least, that's conclusive that the 2020 election was stolen. I do think, though, it was rigged in all sorts of ways, from internet censorship to all kinds of interference on the part of the U.S. security state, lying and saying that a very incriminating story about Joe Biden was the byproduct of Russian disinformation when it absolutely was not. Facebook and Twitter censoring that story right before the election. These are all examples of corrupting, rigging by institutions of authority. On the question of whether no, I don't. I'm not somebody who thinks there's evidence that it was stolen.
Well, how would you define the difference between rigging it and stealing it?
Rigging it is when institutions of authority cheat or act corruptly in order to manipulate public opinion to prevent stories from getting to them, like those news stories about Joe Biden and the way that he exploited.
Rigging it is changing the processes by which voters would
and lying about it,
cast a vote.
Russian disinformation, censoring the internet.
Stealing is flat out just
having the security state
ignoring the will of the people and either stuffing the ballot box or
that's all examples of rigging and manipulating our democracy the way that we accuse Russia of doing. The
utilizing the
media, Twitter, and Facebook
government infrastructure in the courts to
stealing the election
after the fact.
Dumping ballots that were legitimately cast, or fabricating ballots in favor of one candidate or the other that actually weren't cast, manipulating the machines in order to have the loser be the winner. That's what I would distinguish between rigging and stealing.
So to clarify,
do you think that Donald Trump asking Jeffrey Clark to go and threaten the DOJ that if they don't sign on to a false letter trying to bully states into claiming there was mass election fraud by claiming the DOJ had actually found someone that had it, that was testified to under oath.
Oh God, under oath.
Do you think that would be considered an act of corruption?
The whole point is, if Trump legitimately believed that the election was stolen, as Democrats believed in 2000, 2004, 2016, as
no, that's not right. It's not answering the question.
Then I'm answering the question. I just can't do it in 7 seconds. If Trump believed genuinely that the election was stolen, then all of those
Destiny keeps interrupting immediately.
Try and present the Congress
like if it's not a yes or no, I have to explain why it's yes or no.
Election, to have Mike Pence exercise what he thought was his constitutional authority might have been wrongful, but they weren't illegal, and they most definitely weren't a coup.
So if he thought that the election was stolen, he was allowed to tell the DOJ that they needed to sign on to a false letter claiming they'd found election fraud. Otherwise, he would replace Rosen with Clark. That was something he was allowed to do.
False letter. All this stuff's crap.
The DOJ hadn't found anything, so the DOJ attesting that they had found something would indeed be false. That's right. I know. In this world, we need evidence, Alex. I'm sorry.
Oh, evidence. Oh,
I know. Yeah, evidence from evidence. Yeah.
So
Did two men have a baby?
Yeah.
Isn't there a
Again, to Destiny, anyone who said anything at the J6 committee hearings is evidence of wrongdoing.
Pearl Harbor in 9/11, like Glenn says.
So, Alex,
you're fighting your demons up here. None of us are saying that.
Alex, you pointed out, the votes, they went up way at night. They went up way high. Trump was winning, and then all of a sudden, Biden pulled ahead at like 1 a.m.
Red Mirage.
Yeah, after they'd already closed the fucking polls for the day, kicked people out, said they weren't going to count any more ballots.
That this is what happens.
Some states had mysterious water pipes burst that didn't really fucking burst.
Understand what
and then boom, next thing you know, they've got more votes.
The trucks, when they shut down the polling places, and the trucks pulled in, and they blocked the windows out, and ran the same ballots over and over again.
I'm going to be kicked from YouTube for the shit I'm saying. I don't give a fuck now.
For months
this is
before
bullshit.
the election, he kept saying mail-in ballots are rigged. Don't vote by mail. So, do you think that Republicans are going to vote by mail?
Oh God, I am sick of hearing this shit.
But that's chicken and the egg. Oh, let me finish.
Let me finish, and then you can.
Yeah,
Republicans didn't vote by mail because Trump said, it's not safe. Democrats voted by mail. Mail-in votes
including the dead ones, the ones that didn't live
the
there. Yeah, there was a lot of Democrats voting by mail.
So
that's the problem.
So Trump pulls ahead early in the night, just like everybody said was going to happen if you were paying attention. They start counting the mail-in votes. Biden's moving up. They start counting more mail-in votes in these states that are in the big cities, which are primarily Democrats. What happens? Biden pulls way ahead in the big cities, just like everybody that was paying attention
Can I talk now?
would have known.
Can I talk? That's why they had to all over block the windows out,
in
kick
Michigan.
Everybody out, claim water mains broke. Let me talk. And then magically on the surveillance cameras, just keep loading machines over and over again. But you're right.
You actually
let's stop. You're right. No, I agree with you. Trump actually lost. So why are you so scared to let him run again?
I'm not scared to let him run.
So you support him being on the ballot?
I support whatever the Supreme Court says because I think they should define what insurrection is. I think that's fair. I'm not saying I'm on either side. But let's go back to the pulling out votes or tabulating votes multiple times. Did you actually watch more than the 14-second clip that Giuliani put out there where they purportedly pulled out ballots from under the table?
Let me ask you a question.
No.
Why in Michigan and Georgia did they block the windows?
No.
Let me ask you.
Why? I don't know why. Ask them.
Why did they say a water main broke? They later admitted it didn't.
These all went to court. All these were had their day in court. And
let me stop you. Because you guys, hold on, stop.
And the court,
I'll give you the floor.
the courts rejected him for standing.
Go ahead.
I was found guilty by 2 judges in Texas and Connecticut, and then they had a jury trial on how much damages. Trump, they changed the law, has a judge who said at the beginning of the real estate hearing he's guilty. And then Letitia James said in a video, we've already found him guilty. She was so dumb, she said it. We already found him guilty. He's guilty. And then Trump doesn't get a jury trial in New York. So you're pointing to the judiciary and the corrupt lawyers that have run this country down the ground.
Who are you pointing to?
Man,
Wasn't that because his lawyer didn't check the jury trial?
He's pointing to the damn election that you were just asking about with there was evidence of fraud.
Running the votes multiple times.
The Democrats the violence.
Like we're
not
talking
going to
about
give the
one thing,
Democrats
and
the
you're
violence they
asking something
won
we talked
in
about an hour
2024.
ago.
But let me tell you, you guys keep looking for one. Once you guys start the fight and launch martial law, you're going to actually get the real thing, and then you'll know what
Alex,
it is.
how long have you been calling for martial law? How many decades now?
Also, all the examples you're bringing up have
the
literally
COVID
been...
lockdowns were martial law.
Oh my God! And they didn't last forever, like you guys.
Guys, we shut their ass down.
No, you didn't
we
shut
beat
down
their
anything.
Fucking ass.
No, the Supreme Court ruled against Biden.
Biden won the election and it stopped.
them.
Biden won the election and it stopped.
This is beautiful. This is why I'm tuning in. Oh, I knew somebody was going to ad hominem attack Alex and that he'd do this. Oh, Jesus.
Is Rachel Maddow right?
Why are we talking about COVID right now?
No, he brought it up. If Biden
Is Rachel Maddow
right?
right?
Take the shot, you're protected. Is that true?
I think what Biden did. I think what Biden did was. Here's what Biden did for the shot. Okay, what happened was Raffensperger and everybody in Georgia looked over all the tapes that you're claiming about, but the ballots being ran 3 times. Not only was that information false, Trump was told that it was false. Trump knew that it was false. Trump repeated it over and over again, including in a call to Raffensperger. And finally, Giuliani has come out saying that it was false, but it was his First Amendment right to lie about it. When Ruby Freeman took him to court for defamation because he lied about something you could clearly see on video evidence.
Okay, well, this is a question, Darren. Firstly, do you think, if you want to talk about it, if you think the election was rigged or stolen, but also, is it protected speech to question an election and claim that it was stolen?
Of course it is.
That's a great question. I subscribe to the sort of rigged versus stolen distinction, and I'm more in the rigged category. And I think that's the more meaningful type of interference is the censorship, is all of the other tools that have been deployed.
The ignoring the fucking constitution of their states.
I think that's more significant. And then the sort of more hyperbolic claims regarding, hacking the machines or so forth. The
claims that Trump was making.
These kinds of things.
So then you agree that Trump
Those
was wrong
weren't
when he
the
said it was
only
a stolen
claims Trump
election?
was making.
Well, it depends what specific claim he's using.
It's a definitional thing.
Let's say when Trump kept pushing that Dominion was switching votes and it cost him Georgia.
That I don't believe in the Dominion stuff.
Yeah, I don't either. It was
a lie.
Trump was lying about it.
Trump was lying about it.
Lying
Wrong.
He was lying.
But see, we're intellectually honest here. The point is that the State Department runs around the world looking at everybody else's elections, and the number one thing you get sanctions for is taking a candidate off the ballot. And that's what Democrats are doing right now, and America sees that.
The Democrats are not doing it. That's going to go to the courts. That's
Republicans actually filed
It's not the Democrats Supreme Court of Colorado. It's not the Democrats Secretary of State
Supreme Court
in Maine. You just said the Democrats aren't doing it.
Alex,
They
in
are
Colorado.
doing it.
Alex, in Colorado.
God damn, that's
Alex,
a lie.
in Colorado, who filed the
Oh
suit?
God, here we go. It
6
was
people.
3 Republicans,
How many of them were
and
Democrats?
yet, oh my
Democrats.
God.
How many were Democrats out of the 6?
doesn't matter.
No, how many?
I know Liz
How many
Cheney's a
were
Republican.
how many were Republicans who
I know,
filed the
Liz
suit?
Cheney's a Republican.
5 of the 6 people that filed the suit
That's
in
what they have
Colorado
to do
to
it.
get Trump off the ballot
Who
were
ruled?
Republican.
Who
So
ruled?
stop saying Democrat.
Oh, yeah, it's not
Just like all these MAGA people that are going to vote for Nikki Haley.
Shit.
Come on.
That's not what happened. What happened is the only people who have standing in Colorado to bring a suit are people who can vote in the Republican primaries, which means either Republican voters or independent voters. Although the suit was brought in their name, the lawsuit was spearheaded and was paid for and was organized by a Democratic Party aligned group called Crew that boasted of this and took credit for it. So yes, the suit was
Glenn,
brought
start
in
over.
the
Yeah, Glenn. We had some audio feedback, Glenn. If you can hear us, we're going to request we had some buzzing, Glenn. I want to make sure that everything you said is clearly heard. So we're going to fix that and then get back to you.
Well, let's go back. Glenn, go ahead and talk again. Let's see.
Try it out.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how much of that you heard, but what I was saying was that
Still robot.
in Colorado,
Shit.
in order to have standing to
Hey,
bring a
Glenn,
suit-
stay there. We're going to have to reconnect with you. I want to hear this. But
So I can
It's
say what he's saying.
unintelligible.
He's saying that it was brought by a Democratic institution, but they needed Republicans.
Not just a Democrat institution, it's a notorious lawfare outfit.
Yeah, who said they were funded by Soros. They have given interviews saying they were funded by George Soros.
So they don't just say like every Democrat just wants you to throw Trump off the ballot.
You're right. The Democrats don't want him off the ballot.
If you were to ask me, I would say let the voters decide. Like I honestly, but
I
at
think
this
other
point,
candidates would have a better shot than Trump to beat Biden.
But you're Brian Krasenstein guy on the internet. You're not.
There's no way she
You're
would
not
get
the
the
Democratic
nomination.
machine, even though you wish you were.
I think she would defeat Biden. I really do.
We actually have a tweet from Vivek Ramaswamy.
Wait, did he
claiming
just
that
say
the,
Nikki Haley would beat
what do you
Biden?
call it?
Well, I mean, look, a
he
ham
called it
sandwich
Happy
could beat
Entrapment
Biden.
Day, talking about January 6th. You guys think that it was an entrapment?
100%.
100%. Donald Trump entrapped all those poor people to be there.
that's true.
They probably thought he'd bail them out.
That's why
or
I
that he'd
told him
pardon them like he did every other person in his campaign that was convicted of any crime.
We want a 10-day investigation. That's why I said be peaceful. Yeah, because Trump was always calling for
He
supporters.
also called for them to fight like hell, and Giuliani said that
Fight like hell means for our freedom and our vote and our country.
Okay, and people can say things that they don't mean in order to.
Hey, when you go to a high school football game at
Jesus
the pep
Christ.
rally, and they go, and then the cheerleaders go, fight, 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 fight.
Trial by combat, that doesn't mean anything either.
That's a legal term.
Yes,
I
that's
think
a
the thing
legal
that's
term.
most instructive, the things that's most
Oh
instructive
my
to see
God,
what
this
Donald
is
Trump
insane.
wanted to happen that day is that when he sat down and he watched the violence unfolding on TV, when he saw the people fighting with cops, when he got notification that Ashley Babbitt had been shot, Donald Trump did not take steps to stop the violence that day. Instead, him and Giuliani made phone calls to senators and congressmen trying to get them to stall the vote.
What do you guys think ethically about people in politics telling people
because
to go
their legal
fight?
strategy had to advance
You
to
find it
something
be
else.
Misleading.
Look, we're not a neutered population. I mean, I have Democrats that during the impeachment for this, they shut it down when finally Trump put a 5-minute video on of Democrats saying, attack them at grocery stores, attack them at gas stations, attack. We need civil insurrection.
What do we think about the term battleground state?
Yeah.
You know, it's
The problem is
political
No,
rhetoric.
it's the context.
It's not.
Go ahead.
Nobody is upset because Donald Trump said fight like hell. People are upset because for months or years, really even in 2016, Donald Trump has consistently attacked and undermined the electoral process with absolutely no good reason.
No, it's the Democrats
from
said
no
he was a Russian
foundation,
agent.
and
The
that when he
Democrats
had the
falsely
chance to,
said he was a
on
Russian
January
agent.
Yes, the Democrat, the media was saying in the months before that Trump was going to steal the election,
Any evidence Trump's a Russian
and
agent.
that they needed to do all these other, basically almost everything Trump said to do, Democrats were prepared to do because, quote, Trump was going to steal the election.
Was he charged for the crime for that?
Hillary is
was he charged for the crime for that?
They tried.
They tried. Wait, but the kangaroo courts, why didn't they just charge him falsely?
They haven't charged him for insurrection.
Wait. Why did Jack Smith get to indict him, but not for
Trump is going to steal the election?
Why didn't he get an indictment?
Is Hillary saying Trump's going to steal the election?
What aboutism? What aboutism?
Why is Hillary saying Trump's
why wasn't Trump indicted?
Why is Hillary saying Trump's going to
Guys.
Why is Hillary saying Trump's going to steal?
I'm about to stand up, just so you know, and that would be good TV, but I'm not going to do it.
Well, he won't stop, and I will dominate.
What we need to do,
And you don't answer a question.
guys, what we need to do.
No, I do answer questions.
Listen to me for a moment.
We are.
That we don't speak over each other. What we do is we listen to each other, take turns. It becomes way better.
Well, I have a question for you.
I agree. Well, can I finish my statement here right to the end?
Is it okay that Hillary is on TV this week 3 times I saw saying Trump's going to steal the election?
Hillary is
Why is she allowed to?
rent free in your head right now. The problem with Trump's speech.
Oh my God!
Why can Democrats say it, but Republicans can't? You keep trying to change the subject.
Trump is rent free in every leftist's head every single day
But I think
for
you're
the
allowed to
last
say people are going to steal election, whether you're right or wrong.
That's why Trump isn't being
7
charged
and
for
8
Trump, you said it
years.
yourself, he's not being charged with incitement. He's not being charged with
He's taken off the
insurrection.
ballot, though.
But that has nothing to do with him saying a particular thing.
Did Joe Biden try to get the votes certified for Hillary Clinton? Did Hillary Clinton try to force Joe Biden in 2016 to certify the electoral votes?
No, because they knew the last
No,
time
she
was so
took to
big.
the media and tried to incite that. Like, you want to talk about inciting an insurrection? No, she took to the media and tried to incite leftists into getting violent.
No, the landslide.
The narrative collapses right before our eyes.
So Trump didn't win the 2016 election.
What?
Trump didn't win.
No, which one?
But 2016.
He didn't win the
Russian-
popular vote.
Well, Russian help, right?
He didn't win the popular
No,
vote.
from the evidence I've seen, he had a huge landslide. They tried to steal it with illegal alien voters, but it's still Trump was so big.
We're not all privy to the election that exists in your
I
head.
know.
The
There's
voices that
illegal
talk to
aliens.
you don't give us the same type of
Democrats are
information.
voting.
The rest of us on Earth don't get information. We beam down from the mothership. We got to go by what people in reality say. I'm so sorry.
Here we go.
People know you're wrong. The states with the illegals are getting more. California just got 6 more congressional
Stand up, Ian. Stand up. We need you. We need you to come up and rise up. There it is.
I'm tied down.
There's no invasion.
You guys,
There's no border.
What happened to Glenn? Come on, bring Glenn back up.
There was.
I don't care if it's
what
Poppy.
The extent of it was on January 6th.
I think that
Massive.
there were probably federal agents undercover. Do I think that federal agents committed crimes and led people into the Capitol building? Absolutely not. And there hasn't been any case brought by any of these 700 convicts. None of them brought that up in court.
Because they're being prosecuted in the District of Columbia.
Because there's no evidence of it.
No, I know the
Absolutely
lawyers.
no
I know
evidence
people
of
involved.
it.
They won't let them put defenses on. Let me tell you something. They said Ray Epps was a hero and did nothing wrong. Now they finally indicted him because they know it's a weak spot in their operation. They're only asking for 6 months. Let me tell you, we're not playing clips for tit for tat here, but I want everybody on X to get these statements and put all the clips of women.
I'm kind of curious if
onions
people
in
are
their
starting to
eyes
do
and
that
the
here.
Cops fake arresting people and high-fiving.
I haven't been on
"Oh,
X
federal
since this
agent
stream
won
started.
the attack." They're going to string all these videos out.
So here's the thing.
like Brian said, there's probably some informants on the ground. I think one of the Proud Boys, one of the ladies in the Proud Boy was an informant. So she was on the ground. She didn't go into the Capitol building, I don't believe. The problem is,
but no, she was involved in the very guys you're claiming is an insurrecting.
Illegal aliens were voting. There's no evidence of that.
Welcome, Singlet. Good seeing you in the chat.
Voting thing is what's happening is they're coming in and then they're being counted in the census, which then adds more electoral votes.
Okay.
It gives more congressional districts.
That's fair. That might be happening. I haven't researched.
There are indictments all over the country.
They're not
voting. Indictments of illegals everywhere voting. Got them again. Hit them hard. Hit them hard.
They're not voting.
They're not
Alex,
voting.
that's a conspiracy theory.
Like two people, maybe
no, a
five?
bunch of cities have passed laws where illegal aliens can vote.
No, they haven't.
No,
not in the federal election.
No, but the illegals are voting in elections though.
Not in the federal ones. So I know that some cities try to have them voting in like local matters. I don't know how many of those are successful.
Illegal aliens shouldn't be voting, okay? But they're not. They're not voting in federal elections.
I don't know why you would care. Though. Why would you even care?
Okay, hang on. We're gonna come right back to this, but I want to show this.
You guys.
How should I vote? How should I vote? Who is winning, Alex or Ding Dong? I'm gonna say Alex. Oh shit.
That theory.
I didn't say it was a bad theory. You think it was allowed. You think it was an attempted coup. You think you can ask the vice president to unilaterally determine the outcome of the election?
No, Trump was exploring every option. The main thing he wanted was a 10-day investigation.
No, Trump wanted Pence to throw out the election to declare him the winner.
To give time,
I don't believe Joe Biden
so that you're not certifying it that day, so you have 10 days to complete the investigation. It's the same thing.
Right now.
Biden hasn't said that. Biden hasn't said that. States have.
Trump spent 4 years saying Obama shouldn't go on the ballot. I mean, what do you want to say?
If Republicans were trying to take Joe Biden off the ballot right now, what would you say?
Let the Supreme Court decide.
Depends on how they're trying to do it.
Even this conservative Supreme Court, I'd say let them decide.
Glenn Greenwald.
Yeah, we should. But Darren, you've been.
Don't Republicans have an impeachment committee right now?
What are you, Darren? What's on your brain right now?
Isn't that trying to remove?
Looking at you, thinking.
Well, I can attempt to answer the question about federal involvement because my reporting at Revolver News is largely responsible for changing the national conversation in that direction.
And notice they first threatened to sue you. I'm going to leave it a minute. Take a piss. They first threatened to sue you. Now they've indicted Epps. You've been vindicated.
Yeah, in fact, I have a video. This is about Ray Epps. You just mentioned, Alex. It's clip number 3, and it's about 25 seconds long. We're going to play this, and then, Darren, I want to hear what you're about to say.
Okay.
Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol.
Yeah, again, why do we need a federal court to indict Ray Epps when we can trust our own eyes and see that he's actually committing insurrection here?
I'll say it. All right, we need to go in.
Shut the fuck up, Boomer.
To the Capitol.
Oh, well, wait. Ray Epps didn't do anything because he said peacefully at the end, right? We can move past him.
He did say
no, he said go into the Capitol.
He said peacefully.
Well, so what? It's still illegal to go into the Capitol.
But I thought peacefully was the operative word. Yeah, I thought peacefully made it all okay.
No, going in is illegal. Trump didn't say storm the Capitol. He didn't say go into the Capitol.
He's going to get 6 months in prison. So
no, I mean, you guys want to hear the argument for federal involvement or not?
Go for it. Yeah.
Not really.
Okay.
I want to hear.
Oh shit!
Right. Well, there's a lot.
Fucking BTFO'd yourself on that one.
The Ray Epps issue. Here's a guy, you saw that was only part of the clip. There's much longer clips about Ray Epps. But here's a guy who's the only guy caught on camera as early as January 5th, repeatedly calling for people to go into the Capitol and prefacing his seemingly rehearsed remarks in each case, saying, I'm probably going to go to jail for this. I'm probably going to go get arrested for this. You need to go into the Capitol. The next day, he flew across the whole country, presumably to go hear Trump's speech. He skipped Trump's speech. Instead, he was a veritable Where's Waldo everywhere on January 6th, directing people, go into the Capitol. It's in that direction. That's where our problems are.
Which I advise everyone to look at the surveillance
he's
tapes.
Positioned right at that initial decisive breach point on the west perimeter of the Capitol, and he's whispering into somebody's ear just seconds before the bike racks are broken through. He texts his nephew, I orchestrated it. On paper, think about it. He's like a 6'3", former Marine who was wearing camo gear and a Trump hat, and he just happens to have had a leadership position in the Oath Keepers, the most demonized and heavily prosecuted.
He used to, right? He doesn't. He didn't anymore.
The most demonized and heavily prosecuted militia group associated with January 6th. And the regime doesn't touch him. However, initially, his behavior was considered to be so egregious, he was one of the first 20 people added to the FBI's most wanted list about January 6th. He was prominently featured in the New York Times' ominously titled Day of Rage. Of all the clips the New York Times could have found and chosen, they chose Ray Epps to represent their thesis that this was a pre-planned insurrection to storm the Capitol. And then when the discussion of federal involvement came into being, one of our major pieces at Revolver News, literally the next day is when the FBI quietly removed him from their list. And all of a sudden, he went from FBI's most wanted and featured in the New York Times' Day of Rage to New York Times does a fully dedicated puff piece on him. 60 Minutes does a sympathy segment on him. He's the only January 6th participant that Adam Kinzinger, who's never met a Trump supporter he doesn't want to see rotting in jail for 50 years, that Adam Kinzinger will defend more aggressively than Epps' own lawyers. And now, almost 3 years after, the government finally says, okay, we're going to hit you with a wrist slap misdemeanor, as though people are so simple-minded to think, well, if the argument is hasn't been indicted, therefore he's a Fed, if we indict him now, even if it's a misdemeanor, even 3 years after, no matter what the circumstances, this constitutes a refutation and totally wipes away the mountains of suspicious evidence surrounding the character of Ray Epps. That's just the case of Epps. There are many other things.
Can I just touch on that real quick? So you mentioned a few things I want to touch on. So you talked about how he whispered in somebody's ear, and moments later that guy went in the Capitol. That was Mr. Samsel.
Yep, that's right.
And Mr. Samsel actually testified under oath. I believe he was convicted. He said that Epps actually told him, calm down, the police are on our side.
Well, he's changed his story. I wouldn't rest.
Did you write the original Revolver article?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I set aside 3 days to go over Ray Epps stuff, and it took me 6 hours to see. It was one of the stupidest conspiracies I've ever seen in my entire life.
So the other thing I just want to
go for it real quick.
So you said that he didn't get convicted and he didn't get charged until
3 years later.
Okay, so the people who were charged with anything but misdemeanors were people who used violence and people who went into the House chamber.
Oh my God!
The joint session was. And the people who
and Donald Trump
were involved in a conspiracy. It had to be a conspiracy. Ray Epps acted alone here.
Well, no, I wouldn't. That's an open question.
As far as we can see, he acted alone.
As far as we
anything else beyond that would just be a conspiracy theory. So he falls into the same category.
Well,
Jesus
conspiracy is technically a conspiracy theory. It doesn't mean that it's not
so
true,
again,
right?
all these people fight like hell means more than what it sounds like. But Ray Epps,
conspiracy that took place.
Ray Epps didn't mean anything more than what he just said.
He doesn't fall into any category that any of the other protesters fall in because he didn't fall into any of those three categories. So he got charged with a misdemeanor. Other people, the conspirators, the people who use violence, and the people who went into the House.
But what's the definition of conspiracy? The definition of conspiracy is more than one person
if you look at his story,
interacting and agreeing to do something. If Ray Epps told somebody to do something and then they went and did it,
he used to be part of the Oath Keepers.
That's part of the conspiracy.
He used to be part of the Oath Keepers years earlier than he left. I think it was the Arizona chapter. Ray Epps
was the head of the Arizona chapter.
That's fine. Ray Epps went to the march. You said he skipped the speech. Tons of people were listening to the speech on cell phones and other things and broadcasting to other people.
But why fly across the country and be in D.C. for the speech to watch it on your fucking phone, you dumbass?
Sure, yeah, but he's out to the ellipse where
he's telling people in advance of the speech we need to go to the Capitol because somehow he got it in his mind that everything would end up at the Capitol.
I'm pretty sure he's doing it in his. As Trump is making the speech, not before the speech has begun.
No,
it's when he's directing
he began
people.
Before the speech began. There are timestamps on the video.
Then you can go back and watch it on the Revolver story is up there. For every single thing that you assert about him, that he's in video whispering into a guy's ear, you say it in the rest of your article. All he's doing on the day of when the protesting is getting violent is going up and down telling people, don't fight with the cops. Don't fight with the cops. The cops are on our side. That's what he's saying the entire time. The idea that
how do you know that? How the fuck do you know that? Were you there?
Unfortunately, we don't have audio capture of that. He and Samuel testified to is he said, hey, the cops are on our side or the cops aren't enemies. They both say something to that effect. And that seems to synergize with everything else he said on that day. You go on to say that that guy immediately after was the one that broke down the fence. No, he's not. You can see like 15 people right next to him that are all trying to break down the fence. Yeah, the guy goes in eventually. But if we truly believe that this guy is a federal agent or is working to instigate the riot, we've laid out absolutely nothing supporting that. Just some video footage of another boomer being at the rally.
No.
That was there. If you want to say that, why was he removed from the FBI list? I mean, why was he removed from the FBI list? Like, all of the information is out there. He said that after his video was identified and people on X started to identify him, and then because all of his online stuff is incredibly easy to find, he started to get phone calls, he started to get harassed, he started to get threats. So he called the FBI as soon as this was brought to his attention, and he told the FBI, hey, this was me, and here I am, and this is what's happening. And the FBI took him off the list.
No,
you want to claim
wrong.
that there was some
Shit.
He called the FBI
when he saw himself in the videos.
Wrong.
Yeah, a friend told
Wrong.
him about it, and that's what that's what he said. That's what he testified.
Yeah, sure.
He called the FBI very shortly after January 6th because of his picture being on the most wanted list. He wasn't taken off the most wanted list until the middle part of 2021. There were multiple months span between him calling the FBI in the first instance and being quietly removed.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, that's not true.
Well, I mean,
I can tell you why it's not true, okay? Because what you did, because I read your article, is you looked at 2 archived versions of the website and you didn't have
No,
a
but there were
12-month
protests
archive. For some
going
reason,
on.
you assumed that the recent snapshot that you took at 2021,
And Epps
you
was
think
at
that
one.
was the first time the page has been changed. That was just the first time the page has been archived. I don't think the FBI has made a statement on it, but what Epps testified to was that he either saw a video of himself or a friend saw a video of himself or a friend saw him on the list where people were, and then people were making videos, and then he called the FBI and he said, hey, I need to talk to you and this is what's going on. If he was a Fed, why would they remove him from the list when everybody's clearly looking at the list? He was like one of the only people removed. Why would senators be defending him so vigilantly? Why wouldn't...
That's a great question. Why was he quietly removed right when the
Yeah,
question
why
of
wouldn't the
federal
FBI
involvement
release
became
a
major
statement
part of the
on
national
him if they were going to
conversation?
remove
And
him?
let me just, I don't want to get lost in these weeds. I just want to say something quickly. So you're saying, he said, we need to go into the Capitol peacefully. And you point out correctly that in many instances caught on video, he's engaged in what you could call de-escalation of the crowd, and he's not urging people to violence. That's all correct. I never said he's urging people to violence. He was absolutely a provocateur, and his mission, as stated and as implemented and as orchestrated by his own verbatim text, was he wanted people to go into the Capitol peacefully.
That might be the case. Wait, that might be the case. And if that's all you're saying, there's
It's
no
not all.
disagreement here.
No, that's everything. That's everything.
Nobody here.
Yeah,
is-
if he
is saying that he didn't say
instigated
that and he didn't
the
want people to
fucking
do
mob,
that.
if
But the
Trump
claim
can
is that there's some
instigate the
sort of-
mob by
That's
saying
illegal.
fight
That's
like
fine.
hell
He
for
can be
your
charged for it.
rights.
Do you think anybody's here care if he gets charged for that crime?
But this guy
The
says
issue is
go
you're saying that
into
he
the
was not under
Capitol. We have to go
direction
in.
of a federal agency.
Yeah,
But the
are you
6'3"
saying
guy that
that-
looks like he's dying of type 2 diabetes and arthritis is somehow some intimidating Marine captain that's sending people into the Capitol. That was your claim that you've provided zero evidence for, and you don't in either of the articles that you write about him.
We got
No, they were.
Glenn back on the horn.
Sanglet. He was
And Glenn, we've been
specifically talking about
Ray Epps,
on
who
the
played a video.
6th
I'm not sure if you saw it.
Glenn-
because
not
there
Glenn
was a
Beck.
disagreement
Oh, did I say
about
Glenn?
Greenwald.
where
The other
Epps
Glenn.
was
so
when
funny,
he
Glenn.
Hard to
started
tell the difference between nowadays.
Glenn,
though.
to talk to people the day of.
That's so funny. What's happened, dude?
Well, I mean, I only heard the last 4 minutes of the conversation, but I'm still always amazed by, I really don't understand the argument because the FBI and the US security state before January 6th was saying that they regard the greatest threat to national security not as being ISIS or Al Qaeda or Hamas or Hezbollah or China or any other foreign
Yeah, it was
threat.
MAGA
They
and
regard
white
the greatest threat
supremacists.
as being right-wing domestic extremists in whom that was included on many lists, the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers, and all of the people in the groups that they said orchestrated January 6th. Is the argument that you think that the FBI was not monitoring and infiltrating those groups? Because there's actually a ton of evidence that the FBI had their hooks in all 3 of those groups, and not only had their hooks in them, but on January 6th had informants on the ground who were pretending to be Trump supporters who were talking in real time to the FBI
Multiple.
about everything that was happening. So I just want to understand what the claim is. Is the claim that the FBI was not involved in the groups that organized January 6th and didn't have informants with them that day?
They weren't instigating.
No, they weren't instigating. But Epps, see, his instigating didn't matter because he didn't go in, and
the Proud Boys
he tried to
had at least
de-escalate.
3 and as many as 8. And the New York Times itself reported that there were FBI informants in the Proud Boys who were inside the Capitol texting their handlers as the event unfolded.
So they recorded the garage. They recorded the garage meeting the day before, and the Fed said to the court nothing was said violent or no planning.
Yeah.
Yes,
Brian,
exactly.
Yeah, so I'm just confused. So you're saying that Ray Epps was actually a federal agent who was indicted, who pled guilty, and is likely going to get 6 months in prison? Is that your argument?
Well, the New York Times protected.
Well, wait.
They
So
defended him first.
about Epps, so a couple of things there. You don't find it a little bit strange?
No,
Wait.
Brian doesn't understand how plea deals work.
But let's just consider the context. The context in the immediate aftermath of January 6th, by the words of Steve Sherwin, who is in charge of the prosecution, their posture was one of quote unquote shock and awe. They were going after everyone. They were hitting them very hard. Now, again, think about central casting. On paper, Ray Epps, he's the 6'3", former Marine in camouflage gear with a Trump hat, the only guy caught on video as early as the 5th telling people to go into the Capitol.
Exactly.
Who's there on the 6th directing people to the Capitol, who's right there pre-positioned at that initial breach phase. And this
helping ram signs.
Exactly. And he happens to be a former head of the Oath
Yeah, so he did commit
You're not
violence.
telling me it's bizarre? Wait a second. You're not telling me it's at least a little bit bizarre that of all January 6 participants, he's the only one who gets a New York Times puff piece. He's the only one who gets a 60 minutes sympathy segment. He's the only one that Adam Kinzinger will defend.
So are you saying that New York Times is now working with the feds, working with Ray Epps? To,
100%.
Yes. No, as a matter of
The
fact,
question
yes.
is, why do you think? Wait. Why do you think? they
Thank
all
you,
wrote these
Alex.
articles?
Yes.
Why did they say there were WMDs in Iraq? Because they're told to.
So going back,
No, wait.
going back.
Why did they write those articles? Why don't you say that part? Why did they write those
so
articles?
I want to address your question directly. You're saying if he were an asset, and by the way, I'm not definitive in the sense that, I don't think he was working directly for the FBI. I don't even know if he was directly working for the federal government. He was an asset. He was acting on behalf of a third party. He was not an authentic actor on that day. That I will say with a great deal of confidence. But wait a second.
You mentioned all
It's a victory. Let me say one thing. I've been gone for 10 minutes. It's a victory. They went from saying he's an angel, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times. He's perfectly now.
but Alex
Because of
said
pressure,
that.
they've been forced to indict him.
Alex, quick thing on that. The criminal complaint acknowledges that he engaged in quote unquote felonious behavior. But among the mitigating factors that they cite is, this poor guy was a victim of all these conspiracy theories. It's pretty remarkable.
He was, though. He was.
I want to address
They had to do that for any of the other people.
Why don't you answer? Why were people writing?
I want to just quickly answer the question about your question. Basically, if he was an asset, why did they go after their own asset? Why would they indict their own asset? That happens all the time. In fact, that's almost the norm. That ultimately,
in the
when
mafia,
the assets,
when they have undercover people, they'll indict them just as a cover.
When the assets become liabilities, they indict them. In fact, we don't have to go too far into the past to get a case of that. There is the Michigan Fednapping case, or the Michigan kidnapping case, where there is the informant, Steve Robeson, who was a long-time, decade-long informant who was part of the entrapment scheme in Michigan case with striking parallels to January 6th, by the way. And he, when he became inconvenient, was indicted by the government. There's so many
breaking
cases.
the law, for actually breaking the law.
I need a better argument.
I want to get my point in really fast. I haven't been able to get my point in.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying that Ray Epps is a federal agent.
Well, I didn't say that. I said he was acting on behalf of a third party. He was an inauthentic actor on January 6th.
Even though there's no evidence of this. And then you're saying he
just laid out the evidence. You're
Fox News for defamation, which is going to open up all sorts of cans of worms with discovery that he's going to have to provide legally in front of a court. You think that if he was a federal agent, he'd be suing Fox News?
The kangaroo courts will sort it all out.
In a text message that day during it, I orchestrated the attack.
You think he's going to sue for defamation?
Respond
He's
to
going
that.
to sue for
He was
defamation
bragging to his nephew that asked him if he was there.
And he said, I orchestrated
He said, I
to
orchestrated
his
it.
nephew.
To his nephew.
Well, it's a
Did he
nephew.
have
Why
That's
would,
okay.
why would a federal agent text such incriminating evidence to his nephew?
Why wasn't he indicted before?
Because he doesn't
He
think
made
he's
him
going to be
serve
indicted. He
the
doesn't
right.
think he's going to face
All over
consequences.
the news.
There's
They were
12
forced
Because
to do
there's
it
probably
thanks to
12
Tucker
other
Carlson
FBI
and-
agents
and
out there doing the
Professor
same
Garrett
thing who
Media.
weren't caught on tape.
Tucker Carlson when he said he lied to you. Tucker Carlson said Sidney Powell was crazy. Tucker Carlson left Fox News because he didn't believe the election fraud claims that he was being forced to push on TV because of Trump. Why would you trust Tucker Carlson of all people?
Tucker early on thought it was wrong. Now he says he was wrong about that. Now he says he thinks the election.
Oh, crazy!
So
When the
let me answer
when
your
the lawsuit
question
goes
about the
away,
discovery.
when his lawsuit goes away,
Let me answer that.
the answers change.
You know, listen, whether you're right or wrong, you have a right to
Jesus.
question the elections. The Democrats do it
No
all
one
the
is,
time.
no one wants to take that right from you.
Brian, you were saying?
Yes. So
Can I say something here? Because I
Yes,
think
Glenn
that there's-
Greenwald. Glenn, go ahead.
that the whole context for this conversation is, again, I mean, you just keep going back to it because it's so easy to see. People have this idea of the FBI, like, oh, they don't do this sort of thing. Earlier, I think it was Ed who said, wait, why would the New York Times run a puff piece? Do you think they're working with the FBI? Like, that idea to him is so foreign.
I didn't say
They
that.
have
I didn't
no
say that.
idea.
It was me.
No idea what the history of the FBI is in this country. They have no idea that the FBI throughout the entire war on terror did this over and over.
Yes.
They would target
Fucking
and entrap
Mockingbird.
all sorts of vulnerable Muslims to engage in plots that the FBI created in order to create a narrative that the FBI was needed because there was a much bigger threat of Islamic terrorism than there actually was. The FBI has been infiltrating and then using provocateurs to encourage groups to commit crimes so that the FBI can gain more power, can spread this narrative. You have to be incredibly naive or only paying attention
The
to the news
Patriot
since
Act. The
2016,
Patriot Act
thinking
was
Donald Trump is the
originally
only
written
not
in
understanding
response
that
to
this is what the
Oklahoma
FBI
City.
has been doing for decades. And so to have this like naive attitude,
and-
like, oh, was the New York Times working with the FBI?
Again,
That is what the media in
McVeigh
this country
came.
has been doing
They
you
said
have no
McVeigh
evidence of
had
it. You're
ties to
making- you're
Elohim
making
City.
theories
There
up.
were
By the way,
FBI
If I could
agents
just add
embedded
a
into
nice little
Oklahoma City.
colorful detail there. The author of the Ray Epps puff piece that asked none of the questions that would get to the core of his involvement there. It's a total puff piece. You can read it yourself. The author of that, his previous work includes the CIA authorized account of the Sinaloa cartel.
Yeah,
So
the
this
idea
is
of the
like
New York Times, let me
years.
say something. The idea of the New York Times is doing cleanup work for the deep state's insane. What Glenn Greenwald was saying is key. I remember the New York Times headline. They can pull it up in there. We're not showing videos or clips. It would be too much here. I remember the New York Times headline like 15 years ago. 97% of Islamic terror plots were hatched and run by the FBI. That was the headline.
We're getting so far away
Including the
from
first
point,
World
though.
Trade Center bombing, by the way, which is...
Alex, just one really quick thing. You said Ray Epps was one of the last to be charged. He isn't the last to be charged. There's 1,200 people that have been charged. 1,250, I
Who
believe.
said he's the last to be charged?
Alex said they waited 3 years.
Yeah, they waited 3 years. That's
do you realize that they're still indicting people and they expect that they're probably going to...
They had puff pieces. He was on ABC.
Let me finish my point, Alex.
Oh my God.
So,
Go ahead.
do you realize
Brian,
that
come on.
They're still indicting people. There's likely to be hundreds
Because
of
they're
people
still
indicted.
combing
Ray
videos.
Epps
They're still
didn't
doing
get any less a
investigations.
sentence
Ray Epps
than
was right there.
anybody
You
else
guys
that did
just
anything
admitted he
wrong.
was right there calling within 3 months, trying to clear his name.
He addressed me.
What would the charge
Let
be?
me
No,
respond.
That's an interesting
Because
What charge do you recommend? What charge would have been a fair
May I
charge?
respond to what you said?
Yeah, let Alex respond, and then I want to hear Darren's response.
My God, the man is like a chicken with his head cut off for 3 days, including the day of the event, running around saying, go in the Capitol. He's ramming signs into people. He testifies, I orchestrated this attack.
He did not testify.
And then that was the Jan 6 committee. They asked about this text message. He said, I did that.
The text. He didn't testify that he orchestrated.
No, he testified to the Jan 6 committee.
That he sent the message to his nephew.
No,
yes.
he testified
No,
to the
he
Jan.
didn't.
That he orchestrated it to the Gen 6 committee?
You keep interrupting because you can't. I'm
not telling the
listen,
truth.
I'm Michael Jordan slamming on you. And what's going to happen is everybody's going to get this clip.
Yep.
He testified to the Jan 6 committee. They said, is this your text message?
Yes.
He said, yes. I told my nephew I orchestrated it. Now stop. Let me finish my point.
Okay.
Thank
you for being honest with him.
You keep acting honest. He said I orchestrated it. You keep acting like
He testified that he said to his nephew that he said that.
Yes.
Yes.
in a text message.
Okay, there you go.
And he did
So
orchestrate
he
it.
did testify.
did.
So the point is to keep acting like my victory is a
Jesus.
failure.
Where's the evidence that he orchestrated it? I'd love to
He
see that.
said it.
But
Oh
to
my
his
God.
nephew, I
Oh my
text
God, to a
I
nephew,
text
it
my
doesn't
friends
matter.
things all the time that are
Let me finish my point.
embellishments.
Why?
Because
Why?
you guys-
Why?
let me finish
Why,
my point.
Brian? Why do you
They're
text
all
message
over
your
every
friends
major
lies
corporate
and
channel
bullshit?
saying it's
Why do you
portable
try to
baby.
stroke
They're
your
saying he was a
bullshit
Fed
to your
or an
fucking
operative
friends?
or
Are
a
they really your
vice or some
friends?
NGO. He didn't do anything wrong. And when it got so obvious,
Why do they
finally
act like
might
this
have
is
been able to
fucking
slap on the
normal
wrist.
behavior?
And then you're sitting here saying he didn't testify. He just testified. Whoa.
No, he said he didn't testify that he orchestrated it. He testified that he sent that text to his nephew.
Then he orchestrated it.
But no, then they asked him, no, Alex, then they asked him if he actually orchestrated it. What was his answer?
In the transcript, he said,
It wasn't that he orchestrated it.
so if I send somebody a message saying a bank is robbed, I robbed the bank.
Have you ever embellished a text message to anybody that you know?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Like you, like maybe not you. I can't see you doing that, but maybe.
Actually, I'm kind of an understated kind of guy.
Alex, you started bringing up a good point. If I send a text message saying I robbed the bank, can I get charged with robbing a bank if I didn't do it?
If they got evidence, he's
Yeah,
there.
exactly. They need the evidence.
And it's not like he's there saying go into the building.
They need
it's
the
not like he's
evidence,
there
though.
saying go into the and ramming signs.
No,
You're
but
right.
if you're
He's
in a
not there
car,
saying
if
go
you're
in
the
for 3 days.
driver,
He's not there
and your
ramming signs.
buddies go
You're
in and
right,
rob
Graham
the
Simpson.
bank,
He's not there ramming
we
signs.
get back
and
to
you
what
tell
we're talking
someone,
about?
yeah, we just robbed the bank,
You guys are
yes,
irresponsible.
yes, you go to fucking prison.
What should Ray Epps have been charged with? What law did he break that instead of what he was charged with, I think was obstructing the proceeding?
Let me respond.
No, he
he
was
have
not
been
charged with that. That's the interesting thing.
He was charged with
He
what
was
it?
not charged with obstruction of an
Oh my
official
God.
proceeding, which would have been a very easy charge and a fairly typical felony.
Disorderly
Felony,
given
yeah.
to- exactly. So
He was
wait,
charged
let
with
me answer
misdemeanor
this
trespass.
comprehensively. So first of all, it's extremely strange given how conspicuous and egregious and concentrated his behavior was that he somehow was able to avoid the obstruction of official proceeding charge. Number one. Number two,
When so many
there are
people
even more serious charges they could have given him.
were
In
nailed
fact,
with it for
in
simply
the series of
walking through the
videos that
velvet
we put out,
ropes.
there's one specific exchange he had with another guy. He said, when we go in, leave this here. We don't want to get shot. The when we go in, leave this here, he's referring to that individual's bear spray. That individual ends up going into the Capitol, committing violence, and doing a whole bunch of other things. And this is a bizarre case because this guy, who is super egregious, has to this day not fully been charged. His case hasn't even gone to a district judge yet.
So the obstruction case.
So
he
let me
couldn't be
give
charged
you a
with that.
sense. Let me give you a sense. Because when we're evaluating these things, we have to compare them to standards applied to others.
Oh, let me stop you. You'll go next. Owen Schroyer, I've known him 8 years. He's a badass guy that helps disabled children and is literally like a super good
Owen
person.
Schroyer got fucking railroaded.
No criminal issues in his life other than protesting. He is with me saying, don't go in. They charge him, and in the charging documents say, Owen's lying. He doesn't work for InfoWars. That's in the charging documents, the sentencing documents. The judge says, I'm putting you in these months in federal prison because you just questioned the election again and gave 3 examples of where he did it.
No.
So Owen spends months in a federal prison.
Why don't he talk about the deferred agreement that he had in 2019?
No, I agree. I will. Code Pink runs around and protesting. He put tape over his mouth when they were letting leftists run around and throw red paint in Congress. And they said, sir, you can't do that.
And he agreed that he wouldn't do it. And he did.
And then he didn't protest. He went there to cover it as a journalist.
He was in a restricted area, though.
No, he was on. Listen, Ray Epps has not spent. Listen. Owen is there with me saying, don't go in. He agreed he would not protest. He was there saying, don't go in the Capitol. And you're not going to defend him going to prison.
But he pled guilty to everything that he got charged with.
Because it's a rigged D.C. court.
Yes.
Or he.
Oh, you laughed because that happened to you guys.
Or you could
It's
explain.
funny because like the problem is on our side. We've got testimony under oath. We've got judicial rulings. We've got jury trials.
The
we've got
kangaroo
full
court
videos.
he's fucking talking about.
We have all of these. We have all of these pieces of evidence.
And you say
I can't finish a single statement.
Yeah, let Stephen continue.
Yeah, the problem
let me
is.
tell you something. My reporter
the
deserves to go to jail for being there and trying to keep people going in the building.
He had it deferment. He pled guilty.
Yeah,
he did it.
What do you do in a rigged D.C. court?
Fight your case.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Innocent fight. If you have evidence that you're innocent, fight. But there was no evidence because he broke the agreement that he signed, and then he pled guilty and said, I broke the agreement that I signed, and agreed to the sentence that the sentencing guidelines.
And Trump shouldn't be able to run for office.
Also, this entire argument has been you, again, arguing for an insurrection, for rebellion. All we have, everything we have over here is actual testimony under oath, actual judicial rulings, actual rulings by judges, actual rulings by Supreme Court. I can't finish. I have to be able to finish. I got to be able to finish. Well, I got to be able to finish. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We can provide these arguments. We can provide the evidence. We can provide the testimony. And all you do is go, oh, well, I don't trust the courts. Oh, well, I don't trust statements made under oath. Oh, well, oh, hasn't the FBI done this in the past? You can skirt by providing hard evidence. I got to be able to finish one thing.
You know how much a criminal...
You can skirt by. You can skirt by on providing any hard evidence for literally a single claim that you've made today. There hasn't been any evidence provided to support any of the claims made today. And you are hand-brushing away every single other claim that's made, literally testified under oath by people that were loyal to Trump, by people that Trump trusted over and over and over again. And at the end of the day, like,
Alex is right. He has provided evidence for some of those things.
I think it's because when I talk, you get really afraid.
No,
I actually respect. I appreciate that.
You just said,
I understand. Okay.
You just said, when I defended Owen, you just said, here you are advocating for insurrection again. Exact quote. A guy saying, don't go in the Capitol as a reporter, and you don't even stand up for the First Amendment. Or
you don't trust the court? Do you trust the courts?
I don't think most Americans do, and that's when you have real revolution.
If you don't trust the court, real revolution. What do we do in a real revolution?
Hey, listen, we're not trying to go there right now.
We are there right now. We just were. It's January 6th.
Listen,
if there was any time to go there,
don't worry.
Don't touch me. Okay, listen.
If there is one,
where would you?
If there is one, you're going to lose.
Sure. Okay, we'll see. Okay.
Oh shit!
Where is didn't like 4 people die
Oh,
on January 6th from obesity and meth? If these are the people we have to fight, I think we'll be okay.
Ashley,
oh shit!
Before they died from meth, she died from the gunshot.
No, did she deserve to be shot?
She was trying to climb into an area where federal agents were saying, if you climb in here, I'm going to shoot you.
Federal gods?
Oh,
I'm sorry. Do federal agents not have the right to shoot people?
So if you would have pulled the trigger on her, you like that?
If I was one of the federal agents there and I thought it was appropriate to do so,
is to protect. Their job is to protect the people inside.
Do I like that? No, you guys were the ones cheering on the other side of that.
All right, I think I was cheering. We got a little derailed.
You guys were cheering for it the entire time.
Talking about Owen.
What the fuck just happened?
We don't trust the courts. We don't trust the president. We don't trust.
Assange deserve to be in prison.
Did Destiny just really?
He wants to be friends, okay? Tell me, what do we do if we don't trust? There's a reason he won't answer the question. The reason why is because he answers rebellion and insurrection.
Did Destiny just really insinuate that Republicans are so out of shape? Destiny of all fucking people.
He said, don't go in, and he said, you're defending insurrection. Everybody's going to play that quote. That's not true.
Okay, I think, and you know what I agree? I think claiming that is a defense of insurrection is different. You were defending maybe
Destiny.
Owen.
Yes.
I'll show up with a bunch of rednecks. You show up with a bunch of New York and LA fucking vegans.
Glenn, I think you look like you're about to say something. So if you wanted to speak first.
Yeah, go ahead. Let Darren go ahead first on just to close the Ray thing, but I do want to say something as well about what I've been hearing.
I'm fine.
What charges do you think he should have got?
Oh, I think he could and should have gotten far more serious charges. The first example is the easiest and most readily available: obstruction of official proceeding, which is basically the standard charge for people who've done far less.
We'll run till the first person drops dead.
Because the only people charged with that, I believe, are the people who went into the House chamber.
No,
the people that walked through the Capitol did not get charged with that.
First of all, that's not the case, and second of all, that's not an ironclad law. That's not an ironclad law pertaining to the application of that charge. Secondly, there's a far more serious conspiracy charge that the government had available to them if we use the standards that they've applied in similar January 6 cases.
Yeah, he was way worse.
Oh yeah, and make sure they're vaccinated too. Their Destiny.
I mean, he's literally,
because we know how athletic.
Where Stuart Rhodes attacking people or ramming signs. Ray Epps did that.
Stuart Rhodes literally said that if Trump doesn't impose the Insurrection Act, that we need an insurrection. And he said, storm the Capitol. And he went into the Capitol and he hurt police officers.
Didn't he? And he called for people
to... Joe Biggs did. Joe Biggs went in the Capitol.
You just said
Joe Biggs or Stuart Rhodes. Either Joe Biggs or Stuart Rhodes.
Stuart Rhodes did not do that.
No, one of them, I forget which one it
Joe
was.
Biggs.
He said that.
Yeah, Joe got
No, you don't even know what I'm going to say.
He deserves a year in jail. He doesn't deserve...
You don't know what I'm going to say, though. One of them called for people to defend the White House and shoot to kill
The National
Let
Guard
me
or
just
any other
answer really
authorities
quickly.
By the way, that's
try to
true.
take
Let me
Trump
say
out of the
something.
White
Stuart
House.
Rhodes did say that on air, and I told him he was wrong to his face. So I'm going to be honest.
Wait a second.
He
One
did,
thing.
before it happened, he did say if Trump calls us out for a civil war, and I was like, dude, I'm not for this on air.
One
So
thing,
you're right.
Yeah.
That's true.
very quickly.
I agree. There's a lot of rhetoric on both sides.
You wanted
That's
an
true.
example of
Yeah.
somebody who didn't go into the Capitol who got obstruction of the official proceeding?
Yeah.
Thomas Caldwell. That's
What-
one
what
of
did
many.
he do? I'm not familiar.
Well,
I'm going to
I
be
mean-
honest. Stuart Rhodes did say what he just said.
So
And you guys confused that Ed or Brian over there. I'm sorry.
You put that. So if you put that together with
No, I get there was some rhetoric.
Right,
It
right.
was dangerous.
Okay, but let's talk about
if you
Caldwell
put that
here.
together with the plan.
Can we not talk about Caldwell?
We're planning on
Jesus
two different
Christ.
ends. One Oath Keepers, one
There's no
Travelers.
proof they planned it.
Well, if you look at the Telegram messages,
An undercover reporter, an undercover agent recorded the conversation in the garage.
but have you looked at the Telegram messages where they're basically instructing people where to go and where they're at and that saying, hey, we stormed the Capitol, we took the
Yeah,
Capitol.
there's no doubt there was
Saying we're going to
LARPing
ferry over
without
guns.
Trump's
Yes,
directives
yes. Some
of
people did some
talking
fucked
about
up
that.
shit.
All right,
Wait,
we're gonna.
so, wait, but why don't we trust their messages, but we do trust Ray Epps bragging to his nephew that he orchestrated?
Good point.
Well,
No, I just said they were talking about it.
We're gonna go. Yeah,
She
Glenn.
is
Let's,
being honest.
let's let Glenn finish this one off because then I have another question for you guys.
Yeah, the whole thing, like listening to them, I honestly, it's like listening. I don't mean to be insulting. I'm just saying this. You know, it's what it sounds like. Like seventh graders who learn civics class and have this understanding of how the U.S. government works. Like, oh, the FBI investigate and they discover crimes, and then they go to the courts, and the courts are very honest, and the courts are apolitical, and the courts make rulings, and everything that has happened in January 6th. And you can even look at the people they picked and choose who to expand the law. The people who ended up getting prosecuted on felony counts, even though they were nonviolent, had these incredibly novel interpretations of law that were used against them to turn nonviolent demonstration and nonviolent political protest into felony by taking this post-Enron law and giving it a stretched meaning that it never had before. And the reason so many of them plead guilty is because they know that if they go into court, they're going to have rulings against them, because a lot of these judges, especially in Washington, are not only Democratic Party judges, but the entire system is furious to watch people go and put their feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. So the entire system decided that this has to be punished
if your
regardless
name
of what
is
the law
at all
provides.
attached
You
to
had the
January
FBI
6th, you're not
with
getting a
their
free
hooks
trial,
inside all of
fair
these
trial
groups,
in
but
D.C.
I do understand that if you believe in this like story of American propaganda, that the FBI is these upstanding law enforcement people and they don't do that, and then the courts go and make rulings, then you're going to end up with this image of what the three of them have, which is this idea that this was one of the worst attacks in American history. The courts have ruled. Everything the government did in this case is consistent with their longstanding view before January 6th.
I really thought
these groups
I'd get bored with this by now and go do my own show.
United States, and the entire part of January 6th was designed to
But
define
this
them
is
as an
more and more
insurrectionary movement
fascinating
so
as
that
it
they
keeps
could criminalize
going.
them, which is exactly what they're doing.
809. I want to respond to Glenn real quick.
Owen didn't have the money for a criminal trial.
So here's what I'll say. When I'm done with this,
convictions or guilty
I'll do
pleas.
the Love
Two
Does
acquittal,
Admonish
two.
segment, and then we'll wrap up.
890 to 2. So is that
how
go
many
ahead,
of
Glenn.
those were accused of violence?
They're
How
not
many of those
convicted of
were-
insurrection.
I believe
let Glenn-
170 or so were for violent
Illegal
acts.
parading.
Exactly, a tiny number, a small percentage.
Yeah, and the
of
Supreme
people
Court, is, and they
were
should be.
nonviolent.
You got to make.
Let Glenn talk. Go ahead.
Understand that usually what happens in the United States with nonviolent protesters or even with violent protesters is they don't get charged with anything. A tiny percentage of people who use violence throughout all of the Black Lives Matter protests ended up in jail because the ideology in which they were protesting was one that was considered positive and friendly by the institutions of authority. They were on the side of Black Lives Matter. They didn't prosecute that. The Trump movement and the right-wing extremists, as the government calls them, are considered enemies of the state.
not
And
the
that was
same,
why the
though.
entire law enforcement mechanisms were distorted.
If you want to actually make these,
Let me just back up Glenn briefly, and I'll shut up.
Let me finish.
I'll
Let
take
me
a
finish.
5-minute break.
One second. Well, let me finish.
all
It's
right.
not the same to compare Black Lives Matter protesters and protesters who entered the Capitol building during the certification of the election. Those are not. That's like comparing
Democrats have
apples and
bombed the
oranges.
U.S. Capitol. Democrats have bombed it.
Courthouses and burned down police stations, and they had within them people who were
And they
insurrectionary.
got charged, and as they should have. They got charged.
Barely any of them got charged.
There are plenty of them that were charged.
And a lot of them were charged and then let go by these
They were actually
Democrat-appointed
surefire.
prosecutors.
I'm just going to say this right now.
Then we get a slap on the wrist and then given fucking cash, no cash bond.
Stuff burned down. We saw all the killings, and we never said all Democrats are involved in that. Biden gave a speech yesterday that was Hitlerian, in my view, literally saying everyone in D.C. was a terrorist. They're all bad. You can't vote for Trump. We're taking him off the ballot. America's going into martial law to stop him. Our republic is in danger. I got the transcript right here.
Yeah, what quote where he says that? Everyone in D.C. is a terrorist. That's a Biden direct quote. No, is that Hunter Biden or Joe Biden?
I know you love Hunter, but the point is, this was a hysterical diatribe. This is dangerous.
So, Alex, what if instead of the Capitol is the White House and there's thousands of people at the White House fence and they push through the fence? Do you think those people deserve more of a criminal penalty than people that were rioting in, I don't know, L.A.?
No, I mean, if it turns out they were under the directive of Farm Power.
Dear Lord.
No, it was just a bunch of Americans.
Do they kill a cop? It's the crime they commit.
If a bunch of Americans, when Trump was in the White House, stormed the White House fences
guns,
with weapons, and made it past,
like Ashley Babbitt got shot?
No, made it past the fence.
The Trump supporters shot Ashley Babbitt. Okay,
made it past the fence, and they were at the doors of the White House. Do you think that they would act?
When Trump asked for the National Guard to stop that, Milley said no.
Trump didn't ask for the National Guard.
He didn't ask for the National Guard.
Milley's on record saying, I threatened to resign if Trump puts troops.
That was
okay, so now this is starting to get circular.
Weeks before.
You just said about the White House.
Yeah, but nobody.
See, I'm giving you specifics.
Nobody was actually.
I'm giving you specifics.
Did anybody
This is getting
cross
circular.
Police barricades into the White House
You know what I saw was the police, after a little bit of a fight, open the doors and wave people in, and a bunch of them.
I'm half tempted to move on from this.
God, everybody, get the footage.
What? There's one clip out of 40,000 hours.
There's hundreds.
There's no hundreds of clips of people waving people through the door. What I saw.
Yeah, there's dozens. I don't know about hundreds, but there's dozens.
Unlocking multiple doors and letting other people in. Once in, police were forced to basically de-escalate
What about the surveillance video where the guy walks up to the door, sees it's locked, looks up to the surveillance camera, waves and points at the door, and then the door opens by itself?
Videos where they're walking alongside.
What is that?
Funneling them into the rotunda.
I was there.
You weren't in the Capitol, and I give you credit for that. You knew when to turn around.
The Wall Street Journal said I was cowardly on top of a car commanding people to invade. But thank God Jack Posobiec, because I didn't have a Twitter then, put the video out of me saying don't go in. I got through in the middle of it. Man,
I'm glad you didn't, and you made the right decision.
When you're there with 300,000 people, it's 1 million in town, and they don't even know what's happening in front of them. They're being guided in. A lot of those innocent people that just walked to the Capitol have been sent to prison.
All right, we're going to take a, well, no, actually, we're not going to be taking a break. Might be, but I want to ask you guys, talking about these people in prison, these prison sentences. So I want to talk to you briefly about if you think these prison sentences that some of these people are getting are justified.
Damn, I wonder how much longer they're going to go.
And then we're going to be taking questions from the audience from Zero Hedge Premium.
Oh shit!
So if you haven't signed up at zerohedge.com, sign up for the premium service, and you may be able to get a question in before we wrap. But what do you guys think? I mean, let me start with you, Darren.
What do you think?
I haven't heard from you.
By the way, I don't want to wrap.
This is a really important
break. A lot of people are tuning in now. I'll keep having
this is a really important subject, but I kind of want to get over, do the love, don't judge, and come back. What do you guys think?
I think they're completely overblown.
Somebody in the chat, let me know. Should I do love, don't judge now, or maybe do it during the audience questions, or just see if they wrap up pretty soon?
Terrorist act, and the stakes. What are the stakes involved? The reason it's being amplified in this fashion is to justify the further weaponization of the national security apparatus against Trump supporters, and to suppress the energies associated with Trump's movement. Therefore, you have these crazy sentencing. I think they're all crazy. Even those top sentences for the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, 20 years, 18 years. It's simply insane when you think about, again, all of it has to be comparative. There are people guilty of murder who get less prison time. And the self-described, self-professed posture of the DOJ in the immediate aftermath of January 6th is one of shock and awe, which ominously but kind of unwittingly, accurately recalls the Iraq War.
Ian's definitely dangling it around, isn't he?
This is
like he's holding
not an accident.
Yeah,
it's
something
very
else.
fitting that the Department of Homeland Security is the tip of the spear when it comes to this repurposing of the national security apparatus. It was the Department of Homeland Security that said white supremacy is the #1 national security threat. And by white supremacy, they mean Trump. All of these people have also said January 6th was a white supremacist
insurrection. Hillary Clinton has said that MAGA is a white supremacist slogan. So that helps to contextualize and clarify.
And all these movies are coming up.
What they mean when they say white supremacy is the #1 national security threat. And so basically these people, even the people who committed illegal acts, are in effect political prisoners because of the political context of these prosecutions, which are vastly
Meanwhile, you have the
overblown and
media
could only make sense within this
demanding
political
Vivek
context of the
Ramaswamy
weaponization not only of
denounce
the
white
national security
supremacy.
state, but unfortunately now also the legal apparatus.
And let's go on the line with Glenn again and then all you guys. But I just want to say something. This is important, folks. In June of 2021, Biden put out a national security memorandum, which you just mentioned, saying right-wing extremism is the #1 threat. Then he defined that as white supremacism and then said questioning open borders, questioning elections, questioning lockdowns, questioning forced shots. That's in the report. I've shown it hundreds of times on air. Literally declaring the people enemy. Then he gives a speech with this red background with Marines. I thought I was watching Adolf Hitler. And then yesterday he gives a speech and saying, they're taking over. They're a danger.
Dear Lord.
We're at war. All off a riot at the Capitol. At best, it's a riot. And obviously provocateur. So this is a branding of 80 million voters plus as a political enemy. This is extremely totalitarian, extremely dangerous, and I was there.
Okay,
know.
Alex,
You're in a crowd
let
of
Glenn and
thousands.
Destiny and Ed and Brian
Tear
talk.
gas is coming down. You can't even see what's happening at the Capitol. You're saying, don't go in there. We've got a stage. I go there. There's a stage, no one there. I mean, we were set up, and I was set up, and thank God that I waited 30, 40 minutes. I didn't know what to do. I was like, this is weird. How do I lead a crowd that's already left? I was there. And so all I'm saying is this is not
Move
the
along.
basis to indict populist Americans and say they're terrorists. And if the U.S. government spent the equivalent of $10 trillion, you know, they spent $1 trillion in Afghanistan of real current numbers, but the estimates now are $10 trillion in current dollars in Vietnam, and the Vietnamese wouldn't give up. So Swallowsville says, we'll use F-16s, we'll just kill Americans, we'll take your guns. F-16s don't take guns, folks. I don't want a civil war. I don't want violence. But the entire deep state couldn't defeat the Vietnamese, and now they want a war with the American people while they have one with Russia and while they have one with China. This is madness. It needs to stop.
And
I don't
Gaza.
want a war with Democrats. I don't want civil war. I don't have some dream of this. But this is the election strategy of Joe Biden is civil war.
Glenn, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think this is really the nub of everything. Like, I really do think that the three of them actually believe what they're saying. I'm out like actually realizing this. And the reason they believe it is because they don't know the history of the war on terror. They don't know the history of the Cold War. They don't know what the CIA and the FBI and the US security state have been constructed to do and the role that they played in our domestic politics.
Yep.
Every single time that there's
in
some
the
new crisis,
domestic politics. That's
CIA,
the important part.
FBI, the permanent power faction in Washington, and it's not like some crazy conspiracy theory. Dwight Eisenhower warned a bit on his way out of the presidency in 1961.
They're not supposed to commit psyops on the people on our own soil.
Beyond all democratic accountability. Every time what they need to do is convince somebody to be scared of something, to be scared of communism, to be scared of terrorism, to be scared of domestic terrorism. And they convince people that some minor event, relatively speaking, in the history of the threats to our country, like the 9/11 attack, which is a terrible thing, but they exaggerated wildly the threat of foreign terrorism to basically institute the Patriot Act and warrantless eavesdropping and all of the things that turned our country more authoritarian. They were announcing that before 9/11. They used 9/11 to do it. They were announcing before January 6th that they wanted to turn right-wing extremists into domestic terrorists. And they used January 6th and this extremely inflated narrative.
Problem,
about
reaction,
what
solution.
It was a riot of out-of-control people, a few hundred of them, that they turned into
Again,
an
just
insurrection
like when they
that they're
couldn't
now
do it in Waco.
weaponizing the justice system, and they're creating a precedent. I hope you guys understand this, where they're now
Then they pulled off,
nonviolent
Oklahoma
protest.
City.
Remember, most of the people charged in January 6th are charged with nonviolent protests, and they've made it now so that they can charge those people with felonies and put them in prison for years. That was the Q Shaman, 4 years in prison for a nonviolent protest. That's the precedent that you're endorsing with this narrative.
You know, folks, I don't know if y'all are old enough to remember the propaganda
but I do want to go back. So
the media had against militias after Oklahoma City, but they were trying the same tactics
Stuart
then.
Rose and Enrique Tarrio, they were sentenced to some of the harshest sentences out of all the January 6ers. Who was the judge? It was a Trump-appointed judge, Timothy Kelly.
Who gives a shit?
At the
Who gives a
worst convictions,
shit?
The ones that received the largest sentences, 80% of them.
I don't understand this narrative. Trump appointed that judge that did it.
80%. These people didn't receive sentences that were any more harsh than anybody else in other crimes. And these were people sentenced
bullshit
from a Trump judge, a Trump-appointed judge. So you're all saying that the courts are rigged against conservatives or Trump supporters.
Yes,
these are Trump judges. Many of these were Trump judges that actually charge these, not charge these people.
Trump looked into the voting records of the judges. Thought they weren't going to be partisan hackbull bullshit motherfuckers, but the deep state gets to them.
With that argument,
what the
we need to do real journalist work while we do it. It's not enough to say the FBI or the CIA has done this 10, 20 years ago and then blindly assert it every single time it happens to fit whatever political narrative you want to tell.
What happened to them? Where'd they go?
The person telling the story needs to find evidence to support it. Sure, if you want to say the FBI,
if they got away with it 20 years ago, what prevents them from doing it again?
Doing bad things, that's fine. We all know that it's happened.
Oh no, they just went away and decided to start being peaceful.
So far,
what
there
the
no
fuck?
Of it happening on January 6th. As many times you want to throw around the follow politics before 2016 or whatever, well, we're in 2024 right now. Find some information from today or find some information from January 6th to today. It's not enough to just keep appealing to the past and pretend like that's going to do your homework for you and that somehow you can make all of these accusations.
Because it takes time for the information to come out. It takes
like,
time for witnesses to get brave and come forward.
Like this,
you know, there are a lot of men who are involved who want to wait for their children to grow up before taking on the fucking deep state.
The idea that these charges are novel, that people don't face prosecution like this, there's some element of truth to that, but this is also a novel situation. We have never had a president in the United States try to resist the peaceful transfer of power like this. This has just never happened before. And you can keep screaming about Hillary Clinton, and you can keep screaming about BLM all you want and talk about the blown up fire stations in the congressional halls. The reality is that none of those situations were like this one. If you want to keep appealing to those and saying those people should have been charged with crimes,
there were 3 examples at the beginning of this show.
To even do the whataboutism, you have to already concede that you are wrong on all of the merits about the current people you're talking about. Every single time we talk about Donald Trump, you go, well, what about when Hillary Clinton or Biden did it? Oh, okay, then you admit that Trump did? Because if you want to admit that Trump is guilty of every single thing that we've been accusing him of, which is what you're doing when you go, what about the other guy?
Oh my God, no, because what you're accusing him of, like the fact pattern, sure, but then you're trying to say, well, that fact pattern also means he's a terrorist and insurrectionist.
One time without being interrupted by you. You came running back because you heard me talking. You had to interrupt me. I know you came running back. You were so excited for it. Okay, I don't understand this rhetoric of mostly peaceful riot. Yeah, it was mostly peaceful. A lot of riots that have riot aspects to them have a lot of peaceful people there. In a 10,000 man riot, it's not always 10,000 people rioting. It might just be 100 people rioting or 1,000 people rioting. The reality was there was one event on January 6th at the Capitol building. That event was a riot.
Really, it was 3. There were 3 things happening at the Capitol that day
in Michigan, and one of them it was a mistrial, and they let most of them off. Another, and they finally got a few convicted. It came out in court that the feds went and found a bunch of basically homeless potheads. And just like Glenn was saying, the New York Times article, they were more accurate, 97% of Islamic plots were hatched by the FBI, including the first World Trade Center bombing, and they admit all that. And I've interviewed the people involved, Ahmad Salam, all of them that knew they were going to do the bombing. He came and said, why have I cooked a real bomb? And they let it go forward. With Whitmer, the same team involved in January 6th from the FBI went and set these people up, and that came out in the mainstream news. Right. So we know this isn't, you guys were saying, we don't want to go back to 10 years ago. You know, I'm sat there for 6-7 minutes, you know, out there smoking a cigarette while you're just going on and acting like you're being censored. You're like, there's no example recently of them doing something corrupt or bad.
Never said that.
It's a great example, Alex. If I can add some detail to that.
Find J6 evidence.
He said you can use.
No, you said we're talking about 2024. Find evidence now.
You don't need to go back to the original war on terror. You don't need to go back to the
ample antecedents that exist going way back into our nation's history. Just go back to the Michigan case, and the parallels to January 6th are striking. Look, almost half of the so-called plotters turned out to be either
but this one
informants or federal
this
agents.
one time you suspect they're being corrupt, they're not.
Had to recuse himself from the trial because he's beat his wife on the way home from a swingers party. The second one had to recuse himself because he was moonlighting in his private security firm and leaking details of investigations in which he was involved. But in every single, it wasn't just that there were informants. Every active step instrumental to this so-called plot was undertaken by one of the informants or one of the agents. One of the informants, as I mentioned him, Steve Robeson, in the context of, does the government ever burn its own informants? Almost all the time. And
how many of the
case,
BLM riots were instigated by FBI?
What?
How many of the BLM riots were instigated by our own intelligence agencies?
Don't know.
Well,
probably a lot of them.
In there. In fact, one of the guys, Sullivan, one of the guys, Jake Sullivan, he had a very complicated relationship. Antifa basically excluded him because of his relationship with the government, and they thought he was a Fed. Absolutely, the Feds infiltrate BLM.
Why they got excluded because of his relationship with the government? He got excluded because that guy was insane. Because he was screaming at people to do all sorts of violent stuff constantly. Nobody wanted to be around him.
And at some point, they thought he was a Fed. On video in the Capitol saying, "I told you we were going to stage it. I told you it was going to happen."
Yeah, but again, for Sullivan, there's no evidence that Sullivan communicates with any
You talk more than all of us. You guys. These guys haven't talked to me.
Why is it that when BLM pro rioters, I guess you could say, aren't arrested as much as you want? Like, you say the January 6ers were arrested at a much higher
he's not going to go there, is
he? That's true.
Okay. How come you don't say
and
that?
Much more
that they're feds. That they're feds. You're going to ask why we don't say they're feds. We do. We do.
Prosecuted for those riots of being federal.
Oh, he said it. Oh my God. Yes, we do.
But at that scale, it's hard to.
Maybe they just have more there. How do you know?
No.
Like, if you want to go conspircy theory, I mean, let's touch.
Okay, so here's the thing: they could be feds, but also we already know.
Can I interject first? The idea
that the establishment,
for the FBI
that the Soros-backed prosecutors aren't prosecuting them.
Theory, again, requires an understanding of the FBI that's childlike. And what Destiny was saying before is, oh, we're just using what they've done in the past and therefore concluding they must be doing that in the future. He just ignored all the evidence we've been presenting for the last 2 hours, including the fact that the FBI, by their own admission, had informants in all three of the leading groups that organized January 6th and were talking to informants on the ground at the Capitol on that date.
Who is the head of the FBI? Who's the head of the FBI?
Appointed him. It's okay.
As far as the January 6th defendants are concerned, it is true.
Yeah, it's not a corrupt FBI and corrupt judicial system if Trump was any way involved. Nobody's fucking arguing that.
Non-violent protesters are being charged with felonies in the United States. That is what never happens. And pointing to Black Lives Matter is not to say, oh yeah, that's whataboutism, so we're admitting that this was an insurrection, and that is too. The point is that what the government is doing, if you look at the disparate treatment between the two, is picking and choosing which movement they like ideologically and politically and which they don't, and punishing much more severely the one that they don't, which is what January 6th is about.
Going into the Capitol building with weapons saying, hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence. No, that's not a violent crime, but are you saying that doesn't warrant a felony conviction? That's absurd. People are actually calling for the hanging of the vice president of America.
That was, but the trespassing, the little old lady's trespassing.
Hold on 1 second. The majority of people who were charged with felonies in January 6th are non-violent offenders.
And what did they do, Glenn? What did they do?
An interpretation of the law. They created an interpretation of the law that was enacted after Enron that was designed to criminalize accountants from obstructing fraud.
My feet are freezing. I'm going to sit with one under my leg.
That if it's a non-violent protest, any non-violent protest now at the Capitol, you're charged with a felony.
You're glossing over the facts. You're glossing over the facts, Glenn.
People get 6 month sentences. Hold on.
I want to respond to Glenn.
People get 6 month sentences for going in the damn thing being waved in by police. That's on record.
But here's the facts. The people who got the felonies were either violent, they were taking part in a conspiracy, or they went into the House chamber. Those are the people who got it. The people who walked into the Capitol building.
That's not true.
It is true.
No, it's not.
It absolutely is.
I just gave you a specific example earlier.
Like one or two.
Give me the example. What did he do?
Thomas Caldwell. He was not violent, and he did not go into the Capitol.
He didn't go.
Owen
What did he
Schroyer
do?
spent
What
two
was he
months
charged
in
with?
federal
What was his conviction?
What was his conviction?
Let's
What's Caldwell's conviction?
Let's talk about.
And did not go in the
Let's
Capitol.
talk about
And then
Thomas
also, wait,
Caldwell for a minute.
Well, and then also, real quick,
Yes, Thomas Caldwell. I wanted to hear this
Keep in mind
earlier.
that when you're saying that BLM wasn't treated the same because of the government, and
Fucking
you're not
Destiny.
just alleging the federal government at that
Shut
point.
the
You're alleging
fuck up.
Every single state government and city municipality that's in charge of arresting people
we're
are
not saying
all
that.
on the same
The
page
feds ran the
in terms
prosecution.
of unfair.
Almost all of us in DC.
Wait, the feds are in charge of prosecuting everybody in every state?
Thomas Caldwell was part of the seditious conspiracy. He was part of the conspiracy by the Oath Keepers.
Let Glenn come in,
That's
and then I
why
want to
he
hear
got
about
charged with a
Caldwell.
felony.
Go for it, Glenn.
That when Black Lives Matter happened, every single blue state mayor and every single blue state governor weighed in on the side of the rioters because they were petrified of being demonized as being racist if they didn't support everything the Black Lives Matter movement did. So yes, the Black Lives Matter movement had corporations sponsoring them. They had Kamala Harris urging and raising money for people to get out of prison who were imprisoned and prosecuted for having engaged in violence as part of the Black Lives Matter movement. The entire establishment was on the side of the Black Lives Matter movement. The entire establishment hated the January 6th defendants. That's the reality of our government that you don't understand.
The reality of our government that you don't understand. No, the reality of our government that you don't understand is that police orders don't come down from the federal government or even from the governors. Policing is done at the municipal level. The idea that governors are dictating.
This is federal.
The BLM riots are not all federally prosecuted. These are state crimes that are happening within states.
No, but their policies.
The
Oh
idea
my
that the
God.
governors themselves, the governors.
Yes, these are governors whose elections were paid for by Soros.
Where's the evidence of any of that? One message, one email, one memorandum, one thing saying don't arrest protesters, don't convict them. Not a single shred of evidence.
How much do you love the police state? Why do you suddenly love it?
Stories, and isn't that weird? That's the most you guys have.
The police
isn't
state
that weird?
and got arrested by George W. Bush against
why are we forgetting something? We're forgetting one thing, and that is that you can commit a crime, you can commit a felony, and it doesn't have to be violent. There's plenty of felonies on the books that aren't violent, including breaking in.
Okay, but that's a fucking red herring, Brian.
Breaking through
what the fuck?
Police lines and going into that federal building and going into the Senate chamber as Congress people are trying to certify an election. How is that going over your head, Glenn?
Let me ask you this. I'm asking you this and everybody. Please answer my question. Is this as bad as Pearl Harbor, or is this as bad
They've
as
already
9/11?
said no.
And
Shut the
all
fuck
I'm
up,
telling
Alex.
you is this Biden announcement that currently
bad in what way?
They said
Trump
they said no
supporters, and Trump must be taken off the ballot. He can
violence-wise.
punt to the Supreme Court, but they're literally trying to preclude Americans for voting for who they want. That's the election theft in our face.
Why do we have to keep going back to that?
That's the third time that question was asked and unanswered.
Yeah, who cares?
I want to go
They're
to
taking
Caldwell.
somebody off the ballot.
I want to talk about Thomas Caldwell, and Darren, maybe you can answer this. Who is he? What did he do exactly, and what was he charged with?
Seditious conspiracy.
I mean, we don't need to get into that so extensively. I was just saying, here is somebody who is not violent, who did not go into the Capitol, who is charged with obstruction of an official proceeding.
It's seditious conspiracy.
Well, there was later a superseding indictment.
That's a felony he was charged with. So
Biden's entire campaign is January 6th. Not inflation, not war with Russia, not open borders.
Okay, Alex, who gives a fuck? We're having a different conversation now.
There, a few hundred got in fights with the cops, and you act like it's the biggest thing since
It's a pretty big deal when a president tries to overturn a legitimate election. That's a really big deal. That's a really big. You had all your investigations and you lost every single one. When you lose in court, you go to the next day. Remember in 2016 when all the conservatives said, well, you know what? If we would have lost the election, you know what we would have done the next day? We would have went to work. Well, here you are 4 years later, still crying about the outcome of the election.
So if Biden's going to win by landslide, why are the Democrats not winning on the ballot?
Crying about the election. No, crying about the.
Can I just say what my dream is? My dream is
current
that Ed,
court cases
and Destiny have to
trying to relitigate the election
so that they can then
as some sort of terroristic.
Like, oh my God, you know what? I'm so sorry for saying that what happened in the Capitol for 3 hours against the most militarized and powerful government to ever exist in human history got anywhere near a coup or an insurrection. A coup or an insurrection.
Let me say this and I'll shut up. I will leave for 10 minutes. I will leave. Let me ask this one question to Glenn. I want you all to answer this. Humor me. I agree. Because Glenn is a really great writer. I really respect him and follow him for decades. Can everyone describe a coup to me? Because usually it's helicopters taking over media, killing the opposition, troops. and then you're claiming women with American flags and being waved in by police as a coup. So define to me, all of you first, and then Glenn and
Jesus! Now they're all going to say, yeah, when Trump
is a coup?
trying to stay in power.
A coup is when you enact a scheme to try to circumvent the peaceful transfer of power.
Like Russiagate.
No, they didn't take any action.
They tried to remove him on a line.
There's
Bullshit.
Illegal done there to try and remove
The intelligence agencies
impeachment
censoring,
is not
putting out fake
illegal.
dossiers. Oh, that was illegal.
The dossier was
saying his election wasn't legitimate.
Did they try to remove him? They took it to the
So
they
wait,
took it
do you
to
admit
Congress.
that, wait, hold on. You admit then that Trump tried a coup, and you think Russiagate was also a coup? Then do you want to do it?
No, I don't agree. Trump did a coup. I'm asking you.
Destiny. He's doing the same whataboutism you're doing.
Do you know about Hitler? Do you know about the attempted coups? What is a
Fight
coup?
on the merits.
Hey,
why don't you fight on the
you're the
merits
smart
of the
guy.
argument instead of doing the whataboutism without even owning that Trump did something wrong?
No.
Focus on Trump.
Define me a coup.
I just did. Did you not listen to it?
No. Let's start with Glenn Greenwald. Glenn, you're
saying,
a well-respected journalist.
Now that was dirty on the part of Destiny. Did you see what he just did? So Krasenstein brings up the 2016 election, and earlier they said something about, well, you know, they said the next day they'd go to work. Alex Jones responds to that, and then Destiny accuses him of whataboutism and changing the subject. Bullshit.
The legal process and take over. So, for example, if Trump had called in the military on his side on January 6th, or he had gotten the military to block people from trying to remove him from office on January 20th, that is always what we say is a coup. Nothing that looks like what happened on January 6th. The other thing I just want to correct, Destiny seems to have this like debate me sort of point that he thinks he keeps making that's so smart, which is when you say—
Why does he waste so much time on catty comments? There must be something better for him to say.
No, you're the one that does throwaway lines.
All right, better for him to say.
We're about to change gears. Let Glenn finish this thought, and then we're moving to our audience questions.
Has done this little debate tactic like 8 times. I've listened to it for 2 hours. So if you say this person did this and it's wrong, and then someone else says, well, what about this person, this politician you love? He did the same thing. Destiny says, oh, you're admitting that both of them did something wrong. No, one of the reasons why you say things like the Black Lives Matter protest was never considered an insurrection is not to say that January 6th was also an insurrection and therefore you should treat the Black Lives Matter one like an insurrection. The point is to say the Black Lives Matter wasn't treated like an insurrection because people like Ed and Destiny and Brian love the Black Lives Matter movement because it's unaligned with their ideology. These are liberals who hate the Trump movement politically and therefore want to criminalize it. But pointing to other examples—
I think it goes way deeper than just the ideology, but
admitting that the one that you start with is wrong. You're just trying to show that you're not applying consistent principles when your ideology is at
If that was the case, then when you're accused of defending a coup, then you argue why it's not a coup. That's how the argument works. If somebody says, I think that Trump engaged in a coup,
one of the ways that you show that it's not a coup is by saying that the things that you like that are done that are far more insurrectionary are things you won't call an insurrection because those things done to advance—
Glenn, I'm sorry. No, Glenn, that's called an appeal to hypocrisy. The way that you argue against something being a coup—
that's just hypocrisy. It's not an appeal to hypocrisy. It's just fucking hypocrisy.
Trump with insurrection. You just say
Jack Smith already said why. Go read some of his documents
It's
if you
like
haven't
the
already.
main Secretary of State. She says he's guilty.
If you don't think it's a coup, then we agree on what the definition of a coup is. If we don't agree on the definition of a coup, which you said it requires military presence, I don't know if anybody necessarily said.
All right. Well, it's not going to get resolved tonight, although we have tried to resolve it.
Holy shit.
Oh, we're not shutting down. We're just moving to the next phase of the organization, which is
let Destiny and Glenn finish his point because
we'll go to comments. I think this.
Fine. If you want to shut it down, that's fine.
I do want to shut it down. I want to move on.
Okay.
In fact, we've been instructed to move on, so that's what we're doing.
By who?
By who?
By the producers of the show. Let's move on. ZeroHedge.com. I mean, we can, if you guys want to go in circles and yell over each other for another 10 minutes, I don't want to do it. I want to go to these comments. But the
I bet there was a 6'3" Marine, ex-Marine, that told you to
Thanks,
shut it
dude.
down.
Thanks, dude. Shut it down.
No, but I mean, listen. This is the heart of it. Coups are militaries seizing the telecommunications and the government institutions and killing their opposition.
You could do lots of different
If Trump
types
was going to do that, I would be against. Trump did not do that. That a bunch of fucking people being led into the Capitol is not a freaking coup, man.
We have an electronic coup, you know. But let's go on. These are from ZeroHedge.com from some of the premium.
And he's already said he doesn't believe
this one's
the
actually
fucking judge got it right. What the fuck?
Which right now is going to be the 3 of you guys, Ed, Brian, and Stephen.
Just because one judge says one thing, it doesn't make it fucking true.
In the Capitol on January 6th, and then they give a link to the New York Times article Given the agency's history of entrapment, is it a stretch that some agents may have provoked the riot? And then there's a follow-up question. Why was law enforcement so ill prepared for the insurrection, in quotes, despite the presence of informants? So the first part of the question is it a stretch that some agents may have provoked the riot?
So informants are something the FBI has been using for years, decades. Is it illegal? No. They can do it as long as they do it within the legal means. If an informant is in the Capitol breaking the law.
Okay, but what's the difference between an informant and a handler there, Ed?
Informants are also people who live their lives. Like, I could be an informant for FBI. I could go and murder somebody. That doesn't mean the FBI had me murder that person. So I think there's a lot of misinformation there that gets conflated with facts.
Okay, but if the FBI has been found over and over and over again to hire someone like you that's got proclivities to murder people.
Put out the evidence. There isn't evidence of this. The whole Ray Epps thing, show us the evidence that he actually works for the FBI.
Orchestrated it. He just said I orchestrated it. You're right.
I robbed the bank. Come arrest me. Should I get arrested? I just said I robbed the bank.
You're right. You said orchestrated. You're right.
Did Ray Epps say that he was an FBI agent? You guys are just coming to that conclusion. We're not saying he works for them. Probably. Random dots.
Okay, but again, Ed, if you were on the scene at a bank robbery screaming, "I robbed the bank," yes, you would be fucking arrested.
Why didn't a single person come out? I'm asking this, though, the next reasonable question. Why isn't a single person come out and testify?
Because we exposed him, because he's the leader there, and he's there doing it. He did it on video. He said, I led this. I did this.
You're not answering my question. I'm saying, why hasn't anyone else come out and attested to this? Not a single person.
You know what an orchestra is, right? I
went to school for music.
The conductor leads the symphony.
Yep. And all the musicians have to see the conductor and would tell you, that's my conductor.
And he says, go into the Capitol.
Why doesn't anybody else say, that was my conductor?
You know, the follow-up part of this question,
because
why
he's still their conductor,
again in quotes, despite the presence of informants,
told them not to.
So you know, Space Worm from Zero Hedge.
Well, half of them were sent away for crowd control.
I think the ill-preparedness came because Trump's deployment of the National Guard in the past, especially in D.C., had caused a lot of people to be uncomfortable with National Guard being present in the Capitol when the certification of the vote was happening. So as they were having conversations prior to establishing security, I think they took a lot of—
That's exactly what Alex said earlier.
To make it so
and you called him a liar.
If the National Guard was going to be deployed, it either had to be, I think, Miller or Walker. I think one of those two had to be the direct authorization.
Let me respond briefly.
Which is novel.
We have you,
go that way. Let me.
We have you 1 hour ago saying Trump never called for National Guard, and you just said they refused it. I got your ass.
You got me. Yes, that's correct. You got me. So when the National Guard was deployed, the only area that they were allowed to do—
They blocked it.
Yep.
The Pentagon blocked Trump.
Yes.
You just admitted Trump wanted it, didn't get it.
You got me. They only deployed 340 people, and
they're from an hour ago.
Yep,
he said it wasn't
that's
true.
Right. You got me.
Got him.
That's right.
Got him. You want to do these?
It was actually like fucking 2 hours ago, but sure.
Rhetoric like this is why Ashley Babbitt got shot. You realize that, right?
I'm gonna get shot?
No, people like Ashley Babbitt died because of people like you driving people onto this, right? It might be funny for you. I don't know if it's funny
murdered Ashley Babbitt.
You're more or less responsible with this kind of talk. Yes.
Oh my God, I'm murdering.
Yes. Play in a factual world.
Oh my God.
No, you said an hour ago. You said an hour ago that Trump never asked for National Guard. I can show 50 articles. It's on record. And then you just admitted it. Gotcha.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
340 people were authorized to be there, but in order to actually call them to themselves, it was an extraordinary process. So when you read the J6 committee in the Situation Room and Sund and everybody else complaining, where's the National Guard? Where's the National Guard? There was a whole bunch of stupid bureaucratic red tape and optics concerns that people had to cut through to get them there.
Yes.
So if you believe the official story and the 15 to 20 people—
1 hour ago, he said Trump never won National Guard. Now Trump wanted it, but he didn't get it for a good reason.
We're talking. Okay, so Alex, so you're claiming that this is staged. You're claiming the FBI was behind it. In 2019, you
like the Gulf of Tonkin.
No. You specifically said, I almost had like a form of psychosis where I thought everything was staged. So do you still have that psychosis?
Well,
oh, Jesus Christ.
So do you almost still have that form of psychosis?
Question. Let me quote it for you. That's out of a larger context about when you were lied to.
In a court deposition.
You're not. I said a larger context of deposition.
About Sandy Hook.
Which is a larger.
Because you said.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
And you said it was fake.
This is Alex Jones derangement syndrome.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I said a larger context, which is a larger 5 hours, 8 hour deposition, right? So I just told the truth. I said a larger context. I'm explaining that the public's been lied to so much, there's a major loss in confidence where people then don't believe anything they're told, and that's dangerous.
That's not what you said. That's not the context you said
that's
it.
actually,
that's not the context you said it.
I know what I said.
But I read it. I read the deposition.
So put the full thing out.
I don't have it with me, but I read it.
The point is, stop.
Somebody Google it.
You're scared to let me talk?
No, go ahead.
So that's a whole nother PR firm thing, things out of context to blow that stuff up. All that
PR firm is telling you what you say in court under oath?
You're not.
We got to let Alex finish the short question, and then we're going to go back to the user's question.
Yes.
I mean, Madeleine Albright told Leslie Stahl of 60 Minutes, I ordered 500,000 children killed because I thought it was a good thing to do. I'd do it again. She's a great person. I question Jussie Smollett. I question WMDs in Iraq. I question everything, and I'm proud of everything I've done, and all that stuff is PR firm garbage. When I talk about the general public, because the media lies about almost everything, loses trust in anything, that creates a general form of psychosis, and it's very dangerous. I talk about that every day on my show, and Joe Rogan just last week said, you know, Alex Jones isn't totally right, but he means to be right. He's more informative than CNN. They lie on purpose.
Yes.
And the public has lost trust in the system. That's dangerous. What do you do? So that was the full discussion. Let me give you another example. They say in court, Jones in a custody battle said, I'm an actor. Everything I say is fake. I've offered a $1 million reward for that. I didn't say that. They wanted to put, like now, a 15-year-old video. Back then, it was like a 9-year-old video of me as the Joker saying, all these horrible things, take drugs, kids, you'll die, it's great, so kids wouldn't take drugs. It's reverse psychology. Okay. And then, hold on. They wanted to introduce that in court, and my lawyer said when Jack Nicholson plays the Joker, he's not really the Joker. And when Alex Jones is in Waking Life or Scanner Darkly or any of this stuff, when he's being an actor, it's not what he really means. In the scope of when
Are you being an actor now?
No, see.
How do we know? How do we know?
No,
how do you know?
see,
Maybe you still have psychosis.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
No, I'm not playing a game. I'm serious.
No. I am 99.
Psychosis is a serious problem.
No, when I'm on this show, this is Alex Jones, the analyst, Alex Jones, the pundit. Alex Jones,
we'll get to you in a moment.
Covering.
Yeah, Glenn's about to jump in.
I mean, this game that I don't mean when I say Ray said I orchestrated it. That's a real thing.
Can I just,
yeah, we're all playing a sort of character right now. We're all on a stage.
I was actually on a Twitter space with you, with Elon Musk. What was it? 4 weeks ago or so. And you tried to claim that you didn't push the Sandy Hook conspiracy theory.
We're getting a field here.
I'm basing this on the whole psychosis thing. I have a point.
This is a field.
This is fucking
the discussion.
Yeah, we really got to stick to the question.
Focus on the user's question.
You lied in that space. You did push it. You did say that was fake. You said you did. I have the quote right here. Let me read the quote.
No, shut him down.
Ed, we're done.
This is bullshit.
Glenn, I want to hear from Glenn. Glenn's about to speak.
But I got to say this right now. Let me finish. I said in the context of everything I've done, I wasn't deplatformed for questioning a school shooting. They dredged that up afterwards, and I barely ever talked about it. It wasn't even on a radar.
But you said it was fake.
No, if I'm on the air...
You said after examining it for a year, you found that it was fake. That's what
all right, you know what? That's it. We're done with this fucking conversation. We're moving on to the user questions. As told, Glenn, you had something to say? Glenn, please.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that we are out of time here because it's been 3 hours. But I did just want to say I do think that attack on Alex is a bullshit attack. We are here because we want to talk about January 6th. We want to talk about whether
we're talking about something.
And to try and make it about Alex when there are 6 people here presenting all kinds of evidence that you're not equipped to deal with, I think it's just a pathetic way to try and end this debate. And the last thing I want to say is it's really given like a kind of amazingly vivid mindset into the minds of Trump-era liberals who have really come to see the U.S. security state and the courts and prosecutors as their political allies in their war that they're waging against people who disagree with them. And they have this like very romanticized view of what the FBI is, what the DOJ is, how the court systems work, how the federal government works. And all of this reveals this so well because what's happening here is so manifest, which is that all of these
Good way to end
agencies
the
are
show.
being abused because the Trump movement is considered the gravest threat to establishment power in this country, which is why the bipartisan establishment is against it. To try and make this about Alex and Sandy Hook is a really pathetic way to end the debate. I think you guys have done a good job defending your views. I think you should leave it at that. And we definitely have to go because it's been 3 hours.
Yeah, well, we're not done. We're going to keep talking with some questions. No, not right now.
Can I answer the user's question?
Yeah, I would love to, but give me 1 second. The only reason I scream is because I don't have a mute button for the people right now. I would prefer not to have to use my voice.
I think you did a great job, Ian.
Thank you.
And I really
I think Glenn needs to go. We'll
You're
stay. Glenn,
Oh,
give
yeah,
us, give
Glenn,
us,
if
give
you're
us a
about-
3-minute
Absolutely.
closing comment. All I'm trying to say is I didn't launch any wars. I didn't lie about WMDs. And to bring that in is
There was a point to it, though.
Yeah, like, you
his
didn't
point
let me
was
get to my
his
point,
point
but I-
was just that.
Oh, Jesus
that if
Christ.
if
No,
you
no,
were
no.
lying
Ian,
about that,
Ian.
or if you had psychosis about that, how do we know that that's not coming back? About half the show we talked about.
I did not say.
Because when you're in a debate, you don't do these tactics. Because when you're in a debate, you assume the other fucking person is arguing from a genuine position.
There's a larger lie when we're lied to and lose trust. Then out of that, when no one knows what's true, it creates a lot of problems.
So the reason I went back to that is because in that Twitter space,
Oh my God!
you
Shut
said
this
that
down,
you didn't
Ian.
push it. You said that you just regurgitated other people's information, and that's not true. Because you told
No, that's
Megyn-
not true. I want to shut this down.
Okay.
I want to move to the next thing. It's not that I'm scared of this. I'm sick of it. I didn't make my bones on this. I barely ever talked
I
about
just
it.
wanted to correct
They
that, because that
introduced
wasn't true.
22 minutes in these court cases over a decade. 22 minutes, dude. No, I didn't. That's not what I'm doing. You guys bring it up. And fine. Hey, Madeleine Albright said she killed 500,000 kids. She'd do it again. I killed no kids.
I just
sick
wanted-
of
Come
it.
on, guys.
I
This is
didn't
cheap
want
as
to-
fuck.
All you got-
Let's talk about what the people are paying. They
let's
have
get a
questions. They
final
want to.
comment.
We have some legitimate people.
I know, but Glenn says he wants to leave. I love
That's
Glenn
okay.
Greenwald.
No
Glenn's
one's
gone.
No
Glenn's
one's going
gone.
to be
So
forced
we're
to
here
hang
now.
out with me tonight. Okay, we're going to the second question. Unless Darren, did you want to follow up? And talk
I
about-
wanted to answer the user's question about the lack of preparation, because it involves a lot more than the question of the National Guard. You know, for additional context,
Yeah, this
there's
shit's
the Norfolk
important.
memo coming out of the Norfolk office of the FBI, extensively
Fucking
cataloging
Ed
threats to
Krasenstein's
the
a
Capitol,
shitbag.
including maps of tunnels, all kinds of indications that there was going to be a major event at the Capitol on that day. There was extensive government infiltration of every single militia group imputed to January 6th.
And there was a stand down?
Wait. Up to the very, very highest levels. We know that Enrique Tarrio had an extensive conversation with the head of Metro PD Intel. And that's just one example. We know the VP of the Oath Keepers was an FBI informant. We know there are at least 8 other informants in the Proud Boys, including informants who are texting their handlers simultaneously as they were in the Capitol and as the events unfolded. We know of the Oath
Folks,
Keeper
I
Jeremy
haven't
Brown,
even had dinner yet.
who has been attacked and persecuted by the government. Why? Because when he was approached by JTTF agents in December of 2020 to recruit him as an informant, he recorded the exchange and the encounter and put it out there on the internet. The JTTF agent said, there's something going to happen in January. We want you to be an informant for us. We know that there were several influencers, including Milo, who parlored, or whatever the tweet version is for Parlor, put out a message on January 5th saying, I was just approached by federal agents. Whatever they have planned on the 6th is huge. Don't go there. That's just a number of examples. Oh, yeah. And there was Donnell Harvin. He was the head of the Homeland Security Office for the DC Fusion Center. His predictions were remarkably specific and accurate. His office came up with the idea that we need to have body bags. We need to focus on the Capitol at 1 o'clock. Specifically, we need to be concerned with
I find that hilarious,
on
Sally.
side streets that could serve a diversionary effect, therefore allowing for an attack on the Capitol. These are just some of the highlights of examples of the government being in a position to know in advance what was going on. And it wasn't just that there was an ordinary level of security at the Capitol, which is inconceivable when you think of the fact that there was a major proceeding there, that Trump was there giving a speech. Ordinarily, there would be threat assessments, which there weren't. it's not just that there was ordinary level of security. There is a uniquely absent security on that day, uniquely poor security on a day with a major certification proceeding, on a day in which President Trump was there to give a major speech on a very controversial question directly pertinent to that proceeding.
So Darren, there's 1,250 people who were indicted thus far. How many of them brought up as evidence in court that they were enticed or led into the building or led to do crimes by federal agents?
Well, there are actually quite a few.
How many of those?
Well, I would count them, but it's not.
But was any of that evidence actually admitted in court?
In some cases, yes. But as you can imagine, the judicial process is very aggressive in pushing against any types of entrapment defenses, and many defense lawyers, in some cases reasonably so, want to dissuade their clients from entrapment type defenses because their goal is not to uncover the truth about entrapment. Their goal is to do the best for their clients in those specific cases.
So out of 1,250 cases, not one of those defenses were actually pushed forward by any of those defendants.
I didn't say not one.
No,
there are some, but not as many as you would think. But not because this isn't relevant to the truth, but because if you're a lawyer, even a good faith lawyer, you are required to give advice to your client that's not, oh, what's most likely to uncover the full truth about the broad event of January 6th, but what's most likely to keep my client out of jail or to minimize the time that my client
the truth is
spends in jail.
exculpatory.
Right. I would think that evidence that a federal agent led you to commit a crime or acted in a way that made you want to commit a crime.
That's not true.
Pretty exculpatory evidence.
No, that is not true.
In certain cases. And
no,
like I said, there are people
they
who are
could pivot to a conspiracy.
Significant backlash to that within the judicial system. So even
isn't that the whole point?
Now it's additionally rigged when it comes
of the
to
RICO case against Trump,
because they're so subversive to the larger narrative that the government's trying to promote.
Why wouldn't McCarthy put any Republicans on the J6 committee then and investigate this?
Well, McCarthy isn't exactly someone who's aggressively interested in pursuing the truth on this either.
Okay, why not appoint like a special counsel or appoint something separate then from Congress?
Well, I think that would be a fantastic idea, but again,
why didn't Trump do it?
Why didn't Trump do it? Trump's not in a position to do it.
Yeah,
right
but
now.
right after J6, before he gets kicked out, why not appoint a special counsel? Or why not in the days before if he thinks that there's?
Because he's still investigating the claims.
For that to happen.
He's still exploring his legal options, and he's still running the fucking country.
You can provide absolutely no smoking guns.
I provided a ton of evidence. No smoking guns. I provided overwhelming evidence.
You have not provided evidence for anything. You've given
You've
given a lot of stories, and now you've got an escape for every single way that you might actually discover what happened. Congress would never hold them accountable. McCarthy.
I've been long a proponent for an investigative committee, but not the sham J6 committee.
Well, they tried. They tried.
No, the J6 committee is total sham.
Why is the J6 committee a sham?
Well, you really want to hear a good faith answer to that? Why it's partisan? Well, let's start with Benny Thompson. Now,
no, I know the people on it were all partisan. That's true, but that's because McCarthy. But that's because McCarthy wouldn't put forth his nominees after Pelosi said no to 2 of 5.
Well,
why didn't
first
he put
of all,
forth two
I
other
think
ones?
Those two should have been allowed.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking why didn't McCarthy put forth 2 other ones?
Because he didn't.
Because after putting forth the first 2, it was clearly a fucking sham.
So convenient for you then that now we can also say the entire J6 committee.
No,
that
it's
has
not convenient. It's not convenient for me.
None of the evidence we can point to
for the regime.
No,
it's convenient for the regime not to have a legitimate and disinterested fact-finding commission to truly get to the bottom of the real questions that matter in relation to January 6th.
But there is no disinterested fact-finding. You guys say Comey was biased, even though he was a lifelong Republican. You say Raffensperger was biased, even though he's a lifelong Republican. You guys say that Barr
because
was
they
biased,
are establishment, uniparty, neocon,
like every single person you can
media-supported,
unbiased fact-finders.
I didn't say there are none, but the specific names you mentioned, absolutely.
How about William Barr?
And
how
about
So all these Trump appointees,
he made terrible.
Yes. Trump made deals with the Republican Party to put forth uniparty people. Yes,
to investigate.
He didn't drain the swamp. That's one of the biggest criticisms Republicans have against Trump.
I think Jim Jordan could.
Jim Jordan would be your example of an unbiased party.
Jim Jordan was literally part of the investigation.
I would say for there to be a legitimate committee, it would have to include people who are genuinely interested in pursuing not only the questions that Benny Thompson and the hyper-partisan Democrats wanted to find out, but people who are sympathetic to the other side who would be willing to pursue the questions that I've raised and have been raised that were not addressed at all in the committee, because all they were interested in was demonizing Trump and setting up a criminal proceeding for Trump. They weren't interested in getting to the bottom of the questions. Why was there uniquely poor security? What was going on with the level of federal infiltration?
These questions are all asked as part of the. It's an 847-page report. I invite you to read it at some point. The reality is that McCarthy at any point could have put 5 Republicans that he chose on that committee, but because Nancy Pelosi said no to 2 of them, I think Banks and Jordan, that were being
because that was proof that it was a sham.
Committee. He said no to anything, and now we get to say it was all a sham, even though the majority of the people interviewed were Republicans. Even though,
because from the get-go, everything
the Republican issue, but it shouldn't be a surprise to you. Many Republicans, institutional apparatus of the party, is not necessarily friendly to Trump. There are many Republicans that are hostile to Trump.
If every single person in government, if every Republican, if every Democrat, if every judge, if every person in the United States that is in Trump's peripheral ends up hating Trump or not wanting to work with Trump, at what point do you say?
We're not saying every.
At what point you are?
At what point?
At what point do you just say?
I've been gone for 10 minutes.
Maybe the problem. No, you can't just run back and you're cut me off. Okay. At what point can we not say maybe Trump was actually genuinely a horrible person, or maybe Trump actually genuinely did try to circumvent legal processes in order to
the TDS is thick,
whatever
folks.
You would call him asking Pence to unilaterally elect the governor for him.
Biden is trying to make it his #1 campaign issue about January 6th.
It should be the #1 campaign issue.
Wow, not inflation, not open borders, not human smuggling.
You had a president try to circumvent the peaceful transfer of power for the first time in U.S. history.
This actually takes me to
and it was 3 years ago, and no one's tried to do it since.
This is a question from Fred C. And the question is, will
4 years ago.
Quote, is white supremacy the biggest domestic threat faced by the United States? And I open it up to the panel after you give an answer there, Stephen.
Domestic threat? I don't know how the FBI judges domestic threat. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a lot of crossover with like white supremacy groups and then being like organized like a domestic threat. But my guess would be domestic threats in the U.S. is probably fairly low to the total security of the U.S. So I don't really care that much about it. I don't know.
But that's the official policy: is white supremacism is #1 threat.
What is that? That's not a policy. That's a statement.
No, that's an executive order in June of 2021. Put out by the
what are the
House.
Negative policy choices, or what are the bad things that are happening because of that declaration?
They try to skew crime numbers.
Yes.
They say everything is that. I mean, this is like a major
they say
deal.
Skew crime numbers. Say everything is that. What do you mean? You would not count crime by black people anymore? Didn't we just get all of the hate crimes against Asian people?
Well, we do have a lot of screenshots.
But they do it statistically by manipulating the numbers. Yeah.
I don't think the FBI is in charge of
the numbers are manipulated. Yes.
Crime statistics?
I didn't say involved in crime statistics. I'm pretty sure you can go to the federal. There's a name for the site that has like.
I don't believe you're like hiding under a rock somewhere. You've got to know he gave a speech for an hour yesterday. Saying the MAGA people are terrorists and are about to take over. I mean, you don't know. You just said it's good that Biden is running on January 6th.
I think January 6th is a huge deal. Yes, the president trying to circumvent the peaceful transfer of power is a really big issue,
and that's why he can't be allowed to be voted for.
No, that's not why he can't. He's not allowed to be voted for because Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says that if you have been a prior oath taker and you have been engaged in rebellion or insurrection, you're not allowed to run for office again.
We have to be clear about what's really happening. The standard Democrat voter, these people don't care about the so-called insurrection. That's not Biden's audience. Biden's audience is to speak in support of this phony legal theory that's being served as a pretext to remove him from the ballots. And therefore, in the defense of
I agree. He's trying to rally the deep state, saying Trump's going to persecute us and arrest us if we don't stop him because they've committed all these crimes.
So, I mean, fact is the Supreme Court's looking at it. They actually decided to take the case. So it doesn't matter what any of us think. The Supreme Court's going to rule on it. And I think, whatever they decide is what we're going to live with.
Well, let me ask this. What happens if Trump gets reelected?
What do you mean what happens?
Well, what do you think? They've still got criminal investigations, criminal trials.
Oh, so you mean if he gets reelected before being
And I personally think the Supreme Court's going to split the baby on this.
Over being president. He'll pardon himself or give the presidency.
Welcome, Great Liquor. Good seeing the chat.
He didn't persecute his political opposition when he was in. I don't think he's going to try to do that.
He asked Barr to investigate Hillary. I mean,
quite the opposite. Trump's own bureaucracies were undermining him.
Well,
it's far from him using the bureaucracies to go after others. His own bureaucracies were circumventing his own president.
Well, that happened with Biden as well, wasn't it?
But everyone
no.
the establishments after Trump.
No?
Yeah, Hillary's emails.
Yeah, Hillary's emails was under Biden, right?
What about the Hunter Biden investigation?
There's no acknowledgement there? Yeah.
Hunter Biden investigation. That's Biden's DOJ.
What's that got to do with Biden? That's Hillary.
And that's because
you're assuming Biden and Hillary were on the same team when that investigation happened.
There's always
so now the Democrats don't want Biden to step down. That's admitted.
Who are the Democrats?
The debate continues.
No, the dominant Democratic Party wants Biden to step down. It's been all over the news, and they're putting pressure on him to do it. You're saying that's made up?
He's not going to step down. That's not.
How does he step down? Because you still need to have a primary.
And it's past the deadline.
He's frozen out the other candidates in his primary.
The deadline has passed. So if he was to step down right now, Harris would likely be who the nominee would be.
Okay.
Well,
it's too late for Newsom. Like he'd miss out on several states. Go ahead.
We've really
answered that question.
we hammered that one right to the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is coming to a close.
Okay.
Zero Hedge, thank you so much for putting
Dear
this debate
Lord.
on. And
so
everybody
yeah,
on the panel,
look,
man, Darren Beatty, Alex Jones.
thank you to
Steve
Darren,
Ball,
Alex, Glenn, and the three.
Tell us about your show, what you do.
Krasensteins
Timcast IRL on YouTube Monday through Friday,
Destiny,
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Tim Pool. It's
Zero
a
Hedge.
blast. We talk about technology,
Ian,
politics,
and
culture.
Darren, you?
Yep.
Thank you, everybody
my
who
website
stopped by the chat. I am gonna. We are gonna.
January 6 stories. Take the challenge for yourself. Go to revolver.news. Look at the pieces, in particular the Ray Epps series and the Pipe Bomb series. Decide for yourself whether or not there's overwhelming evidence for federal involvement.
And then I do 7 days a week, live on air, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. weekdays. Saturday, we do special reports different times. Sundays, 4 to 6 p.m. Infowars.com/show. Now, Real Alex Jones back on what was Twitter, now X.
All right.
And we're here. We're fighting hard. We're promoting freedom.
I'm going to stick around with this for just another minute to hear the Krasensteins and Destiny.
What do you do?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. You know, you should check out the last few videos. I do a lot of arguments over a lot of the goofy Ray Epps conspiracy theories, or a lot of these J7 or J6 conspiracy theories. I've been doing that. YouTube.com/Destiny. Yeah, check me out.
What about you, Brett?
I'm on X, Krasenstein. I do a lot of posts. I guess you can't call them tweets anymore, about politics. I try to hear out both sides. Alex, I still read your post.
Thank you.
Might not agree with them, but I try to hear out both sides.
You literally
feedback. I like.
You do it so that you can then cringe post afterward and get clout from it.
Yeah, Ed, and you on as well?
Yeah, pretty much everything Brian said.
Yeah, it has been a great. It has been spectacular. High energy, fast paced. It's intense. The first time I've ever moderated a debate with 5 people, and then somebody on coming in digital, which has its own.
And if you want to see more of this, the great folks at Zero Hedge, like you said, with their subscription service, they want to do more of this. So this is the future. People want this.
Zero Hedge debates all the way. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Again, zerohedge.com. Thanks.
So let's go to Love Don't Judge. Why don't we?
I love you.
You guys ready for this?
Later.
Gonna switch to Love Don't Judge. Y'all ready for some furry degeneracy?
Peaceful protest. Political violence is never
ever
hang on.
Let me stop this here.
Never.
Okay. Let's do some furry degeneracy to end the show. Here we go. My girlfriend loves acting like a dog.
This is Danny.
This is Danny.
She fell in love with Jack.
And
we
Jack.
fell for each other straight away.
She asked me to call
the
her
collar
puppy,
is
and I thought
awesome.
it was cute.
But that pet name turned out to have a lot more significance than Jack knew.
What I love about being a dog is that I get to just play around and be praised and be taken care of.
Oh no, not
While
the
Jack
rope.
was happy to get on board the puppy play boat, many onlookers had other opinions about their unusual relationship dynamic.
It in public.
We do get a lot of negative comments online. Take it to the pound and have it euthanized. Jesus Christ, you need therapy.
Can this puppy-loving pair convince the world that what might seem weird to others is perfect for them?
See, the thing is, she's got tattoos. Dogs don't get tattoos. Like, commit
Just
to the
1
bit,
minute.
lady. Tucson, Arizona. Oh, wait.
Hey, come
She
on in.
knocked. Dogs don't knock. They scratch.
How's your walk? You want a treat? Yeah? You want a treat?
Oh,
Okay,
no.
I'll get you a treat.
This is degenerate
My name's
as hell.
Danny, and I'm a puppy girl just looking for head pats.
My name is
Wait,
Jack.
dogs don't get
and
their
I'm
nose
Danny's
pierced
owner.
either.
You want something
Wait,
sweet?
Twizzlers? Nah. Make her eat the biscuit.
Puppy play is
Make her eat a wishbone,
when
or a,
somebody acts like a puppy
whatever it's
and
called.
they can either have an owner or not. You run around in ears and a tail or play with dog toys, and it's just really fun.
Oh, God.
When I first told Jack that I was into puppy play, it was really small and innocuous. I just said, hey, you should call me Puppy as like a pet name. And once he was fine
see
with
the
that, I
colored
kind
hair
of just
there?
spilled it like, okay, cool. I'm actually
Run.
into puppy play. I like acting like a puppy. You should buy me a bowl. And
Yeah, it was pretty like spontaneous, kind of.
yeah. I've had chronic anxiety and panic attacks since I was a kid. Puppy play is this really great coping skill. When I've had a really stressful day, I can come home and just kind of lose myself in that puppy space, and he'll take care of me.
I've never dated anyone that's been into puppy play before. She's definitely the first.
Oh, no. More
Right,
with the
sit.
Twizzlers.
Good girl. Stay. Okay, get it.
Oh, she's eating it off the floor. Oh, no.
It makes her happy, and just seeing her get all playful and we can be silly. That
See, and
just,
she's wearing
it's
shoes
been-
too,
it's been
so
a really
she's
good
been walking
experience.
on the floor with her shoes.
For me, dressing up is a big part of puppy play. So this is
Dressing
all
up.
my puppy stuff. This is my first collar that I ever bought. It's my favorite one still. And this was my newest ear and tail set. I love this one. I got a lot of squeaky toys. Yeah, I think I broke this one from chewing it too hard. I think my puppy look, I would describe it as very cutesy. I do have some
What?
more
What?
like dark leather puppy things. If I'm feeling more aggressive as a puppy, then I can wear the black leather and the chain,
Aggressive.
and it kind of looks like I'm a vicious dog instead of just a cute little puppy. I
Oh,
decided
God.
to start posting
Oh,
on TikTok.
did that say
because
90,000
I thought
followers?
Puppy videos
Oh,
would be
no.
cute. We started posting some of our daily puppy routines, and it kind of just took off.
Oh, no.
We've gotten a lot of negative comments online.
Yes.
Things like,
Rightly
you're
so.
an abomination to God.
Yes.
You need Jesus.
Yes.
This is bestiality.
Yes.
This is disgusting.
Yes.
You need a therapist. You need help. I make it a point not to respond to any of those negative comments just because I know
Okay.
it's not worth it. Okay, so we are going to the pet store right now. We're gonna go finally get me my dog bed because I've been waiting for this
Dog bed.
forever. It feels like I can't wait.
I was about to say, are they wearing COVID masks in the car by themselves? But I guess the cameraman was there, so still fucking weird. Oh, wait, you gonna give the dog COVID? What the hell?
This is amazing. It was a good day.
Yeah.
Very good day. We got our dog bed! I'm so happy. Look, it looks great.
Yeah, it looks like a good bed.
It is. It's mine.
Okay,
though.
are
Yeah,
we
you can
supposed to
live by
be
my feet now.
impressed?
Can't have it.
I mean, you went to the pet store and bought
It's
it.
your bed.
It's mine.
I get a lot of enjoyment from seeing her act as a puppy, just kind of being silly and, you know, petting her, giving her a lot of praise. It makes me happy.
I
We
mean, I
got
love him
Sanglant
so
asking
much.
the
He's
important
my
questions
owner.
here.
He takes really good care of me, and he's absolutely sweet.
I want to know where she
compassionate,
poops.
Giving, and I just love him, and I trust him completely. Just makes my little puppy heart happy. I know that it looks weird from the outside, but you know, I feel like there's a lot more to it. What we do works for us.
Okay, but okay, right there. Okay, I guess it's over. Shit, we'll just watch the last few seconds of this and then call it over. Okay. So, again, we learned nothing. We learned nothing. Right? Like, so this is part of my problem with this series, right? Love, don't judge, like, don't judge us. Okay, so you got all these criticisms, but then you never actually defended yourself against the criticisms or explained why you think you're healthy and justified in having this kind of a relationship, which seems a little sus to me, right? Like, at no point in time did you ever say, no, they're at the very end. No, this type of relationship works. It's very loving. Okay, but you never said how. You never said why. Right? You never said, well, I grew up with some trauma and this is a comforting way for me to escape. You never said anything like that. So in reality, it's exactly what everyone's diagnosing. It's just a perversion, right? Anyway, love does admonish. And, I love all people, even the people I criticize. So, yeah, you're a human being, be a human being. Love like a human being. Well, folks, that's going to be the show for tonight. We went a whole 3.5 hours, thanks to Alex Jones and Destiny not staying on topic. As always, hit the like button, click that follow button if you haven't already. Try to do that just about every show if you can. Feel free to share this on other platforms. If you're new here, please watch a second video on my channel. And yeah, if you're not new here, thank you for coming back. Welcome back. Always appreciate having y'all here in the audience. You could find me at any of the social media down in the description or above my head. You can find me at any of those links. I will catch you all next time. Should be this Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central. Until then, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Outlast the haters. Don't get any on you. And if you do, rub it in real good. Take care, everybody. Happy Insurrxmas. Good night.